The man was clearly just an ordinary science teacher, yet he was escorted by a mysterious unit into a prison to teach. But his students were not human. They were others known as monsters. Even special bullets couldn't hurt them in the slightest. He originally thought that if he did his duty and finished his classes, he would be able to leave. He never imagined he would become the target all the inmates were fighting over. Time goes back to 3 days earlier. In a boundless desert, several armored vehicles moved forward slowly. The ones given top protection by these vehicles were 6 high school teachers. Their escorts warned them coldly, "During class, you are not allowed to leave the designated area. Avoid any behavior that could provoke the prisoners." Everyone froze for a moment. Prisoners were still people, no matter what. Why were they being described as so terrifying? Someone introduced herself. "My name is Lala, I'm a science teacher." Hearing this, the man found it a coincidence. He was also a science teacher, named Kong Dante. As they started talking, the atmosphere eased a bit. 2 more people introduced themselves as IT and music teachers. The last 2 were an art teacher and a math teacher. Even so, they were still nervous in the vehicle. They had no idea what fate awaited them, because they were heading to the largest prison in the world, Fogland. "Don't scare us like that. This is an international prison. What could possibly happen?" Lala's voice went out of pitch. A male teacher on the other side snorted. "It's because it's an international prison that I'm more suspicious. Do you know how Fogland came to be? 50 years ago, a meteorite suddenly fell into this desert. 5 years later, nations joined forces to build a gigantic prison on this desert." Hearing this, one male teacher shot to his feet. He had heard about this online. The chubby teacher spoke slowly. "A scholar once said, Fogland opened the gates of hell. So I'm guessing we're going to that prison to teach monsters." Kong Dante couldn't hold back a laugh. "We're highly educated people, and you believe that nonsense? No matter what crimes they've committed, they still have the right to education. Education for all, without discrimination." The chubby teacher asked, "Kong Dante, you're not scared at all? Even if the rumors are fake, it's still an international prison. The ones inside are world-class criminals." To Kong Dante, they were people who lacked education. The 2 male teachers looked at him like he was an idiot. "Just our luck, we've got a bookworm in this vehicle." Meanwhile, the driver in the lead vehicle contacted the base. 5 minutes until we enter Fogland." When Kong Dante saw the gate with his own eyes, he was stunned. The moment they stepped into the zone, dense fog like a wall blocked everything in front of them. Before entering, they were required to hand over all personal belongings. Kong Dante looked around. There was fog everywhere. No matter the direction, there was a surreal, unreal feeling. Only then did he realize the Fogland mentioned by the chubby teacher was not just a scary nickname. Someone warned them again. "Keep your distance from the prisoners. Someone will come shortly to take you to your classrooms." The teachers were quickly separated and sent to their assigned locations. With his footsteps echoing in the corridor, Kong Dante kept telling himself, "There's nothing to be afraid of. It's just teaching a class." He was led into a sealed safe room enclosed by tempered glass. On the table, there was only a microphone. Kong Dante felt uneasy. Wasn't this a little too exaggerated? He had never seen glass so thick, let alone taught in a sealed chamber. He knocked on the glass and realized it was far thicker than he had imagined. He even doubted whether the students outside could see the blackboard clearly. Someone reconfirmed his identity. "Are you Teacher Kong?" After confirming, the person solemnly reminded him, "The prisoners are about to enter. Keep your distance. Do not get into any conflict." From that tone, Kong Dante sensed something was off. The man added, "During class, do not leave your seat." The door slammed shut. Moments later, Kong Dante heard a commotion from outside. He didn't know if it was his imagination, but the heavy iron door seemed to tremble. The next second, the iron door was slowly opened. At that moment, Kong Dante came face to face with the true shape of fear. How could they look like this? Their faces and bodies did not resemble normal humans. Even bound in heavy chains, several fully armed guards stood behind them, guns raised. The prisoners were led one by one to their seats. Only then did Kong Dante notice each one had a number hanging on their chest. Among them, one figure was covered in hair with bright blue eyes. He looked like he had walked out of the primitive era. Facing this group of students, Kong Dante didn't know how to speak. The chubby teacher's words flashed through his mind. "We're going to teach monsters." It seemed that man had been right. He took a deep breath to calm himself. He had one thing to do, start the lesson. He walked to the microphone and introduced himself. "Hello, everyone. I'm very glad to meet you. My name is Kong Dante, and I'll be your science teacher." The room below remained dead silent. Not a single person responded. He forced himself to carry on and cracked a cold joke. "Lots of subjects are popular, but the most popular is science. Because you can build a rocket to escape." At those words, a few lifted their heads to look at him. They still showed almost no reaction. The fur-covered face suddenly grinned. This teacher is actually kind of funny. Their reaction made Kong Dante even more embarrassed. This was the first time he had encountered such a classroom atmosphere. He took out a sweet potato. In today's class, the first thing I'll teach you is how to plant a sweet potato. On each student's desk, there was a sweet potato identical to the one in his hand. Planting a sweet potato is simple. All it takes is a small cup and a bit of water. You'll watch it slowly grow into another form. The real purpose of this class was to help them understand the meaning of life. Even though you're prisoners in a jail, today you still sit in a classroom to learn. You're like this sweet potato. No matter how harsh the environment, you still have potential to grow. So from today on, I'll teach you how to plant sweet potatoes. A student suddenly slammed the desk and roared. You mean my head looks like a sweet potato? Kong Dante jumped. That is not what I meant. I'm saying you have infinite potential to grow. Before he could finish, someone else shoved the sweet potato straight into his mouth. Only then did Kong Dante realize something was wrong. Most likely, something was off in all their heads. Very soon, all the prisoners followed that man's lead and ate the sweet potatoes clean. Kong Dante panicked. Don't eat them. Those sweet potatoes are for you to plant. He stood helplessly behind the lectern, staring at the group. What were they trying to do? Weren't they here to learn? A low voice rang out. A man wearing a mask raised his head. Tell us directly how the fog is made. Kong Dante froze. Was he simply curious about fog formation? The man's expression turned dark. You call yourself a scientist and you don't even know what fog is? Kong Dante gave a little laugh. I'm just a teacher, not a scientist. Cracks suddenly appeared in the tempered glass in front of him. The masked man rammed his head into the glass, and it shattered on the spot. You joking with us? You think we're idiots? Terrified, Kong Dante contacted the control room to report that a prisoner had smashed the glass. A large group of armed personnel rushed into the classroom, rifles at the ready. Immediately after, Kong Dante witnessed the most shocking scene of his life. The prisoner students were gunned down one by one, leaving not a single survivor. The classroom turned into hell in an instant. Kong Dante pounded on the door like a madman, begging them to let him out. The only reply was, stay in the room and wait until the execution is over. Very quickly, the floor was covered in blood. Even if those prisoners had problems, should it have come to killing every last one? Before he could think, he saw a gun pressed to the eye of a blind man. He was about to shout when he realized something was wrong. That blind man grabbed the soldier's head with one hand and lifted it high. The next second, with a single crack, the skull was crushed. Kong Dante was dumbfounded. He had thought the armed personnel were slaughtering the prisoners. He never expected the real hunters would be the prisoners. Before he fainted from terror, a hooded man in the crowd stared fixedly at him. The number on that man's chest was 182. The possessive look in 182's eyes was as if he had claimed Kong Dante as his property. When Kong Dante woke up, he was locked in a place that looked like a cell. Locked up with him was 182. Staring at the corridor outside the bar door, his heart was full of panic. He asked where this was. 182 said it was his room. He asked, "Who are you? Why did I end up in your room?" This time, 182 did not answer. A look of shock flashed across Kong Dante's face. He remembered this guy seemed to be a prisoner. He recalled that a riot had broken out during class. His mind had been on the verge of collapse, and he had passed out on the spot. Kong Dante asked, "Is this a prison?" 182 nodded. "It wasn't you who brought me here, was it?" 182 nodded again. Then he handed him a sweet potato. He had kidnapped Kong Dante because he wanted to learn how to plant sweet potatoes. Kong Dante almost broke down. So this person really wasn't right in the head. Burning with rage, he cursed, "You idiot. You brought me here just for a sweet potato?" Judging from the riot earlier, almost everyone here was a monster. They treated human life like grass and ignored the law. At this rate, he would die here sooner or later. Kong Dante walked to the door, trying to find a way to escape. Maybe security outside was looking for him. He peered through the gaps to look outside and froze. His room was high up, with an extremely wide view. Everywhere he looked, there were cells surrounded by dense fog. Kong Dante shook the iron door desperately, trying to make noise. The door was pushed open by him. Could it be the door was never locked? He stepped outside, and the surroundings were shrouded in thick fog. Looking down, he saw layer upon layer of cells stretching endlessly. Rather than a prison, it was a fog land pieced together from countless cell blocks. Almost pleading, Kong Dante turned back. "I'm begging you, take me out of here. I don't want to stay." 182 abruptly covered his mouth. "Shut up. You can't shout in here. And don't think about leaving. I want you to teach me to plant sweet potatoes. Besides, no one has ever escaped from this prison." Kong Dante flung his hand away and gritted his teeth. "I'm not a prisoner. I'm a law-abiding citizen. I'm not like scum like you. I have to get out." While they argued, a gigantic shadow silently approached. That enormous body nearly scared Kong Dante into tears. 182 only stared coldly, clearly displeased. The hulking, hooded prisoner's eyes were vacant, as if he didn't take them seriously at all. In a low voice, Kong Dante said, "Don't say anything, he'll leave in a second." 182 ignored him and cursed. Hey, you pighead, what are you looking at? The prisoner was enraged and raised his fist, charging straight at them. The target of that punch was Kong Dante. One punch knocked him out cold. His suit was also snatched away in passing. When Kong Dante woke up, he heard 182 complaining. I told you to shut up, but you wouldn't listen. The way 182 looked at him made Kong Dante more irritated. Everything was this guy's fault. Emotionally worked up, he shouted, if you hadn't called him a pighead, how would I have been beaten? You brainless idiot. You've only got one arm. How could you beat that monster from before? In the end, I'm the one dragged into it. 182 didn't talk back. He quietly stood up and slowly took off his shirt. Kong Dante was startled. What are you doing? 182 handed the shirt to him. Put it on. Only then did Kong Dante see clearly. The one arm he had left was covered with defined muscles. Even with one arm, against that monster, it was hard to say who would win. Kong Dante quickly lowered his voice. If I put on this uniform, will the rescue team still recognize I'm a teacher? 182 cut him off coldly. Stop dreaming. From the moment you stepped in, it became impossible to go back. Don't attract attention, or you'll die faster. That's Fogland. Then 182 pulled another piece of clothing from a box and put it on. Come on, let's go to the cafeteria. It's mealtime. At the word cafeteria, hope flashed in Kong Dante's eyes. If they went to the cafeteria, they might see guards. If he explained, he might leave this prison. Meanwhile, the fat pig who had stolen his clothes slipped into an alley, jumping in excitement. This suit is really nice. He was thinking about the tie and glasses, but he'd been beaten badly by 182 and gave up. A thin figure appeared and asked where he'd gotten the clothes. The fat pig dropped to his knees at once. Lord Shoulder, I stole it off a teacher. He embellished the story. That teacher from the sweet potato lesson is in Tofu Village right now. I think 182 took him there. Upon hearing this, Lord Shoulder smiled. Is that so? Go on. Then his blade flashed. Before the fat pig could finish, Shoulder cut him down with a single stroke. After twitching twice, he went completely still. With a twisted smile, Shoulder said, I've finally found you, teacher. On the other side, Kong Dante followed 182 toward the cafeteria. He had been trembling since he stepped out the door. The prisoners looked more terrifying one after another. To him, this was a nightmare. To them, it was another ordinary day in Fogland. 182 glared. Don't stare everywhere. Stick close to me and eat. Kong Dante lowered his head and followed behind, pretending he hadn't seen anything. Soon, they reached the cafeteria. The order here was far better than outside. No one was causing trouble. Every prisoner stood in line. Kong Dante looked toward the serving window and saw a figure standing there, a guard. He was shocked and overjoyed. If he could speak to that person, he might be rescued. He forced himself to calm down. He wore prison clothes now. He had to be careful. It was 182's turn. 182 drawled, give me some extra ham. The server rolled his eyes and smacked him on the head with the ladle. Get lost. Then it was Kong Dante's turn. He whispered to the guard, I'm the missing teacher, Kong Dante. During the sweet potato lesson, I was kidnapped. You must be looking for me. Get me out. 182 watched him like he was an idiot, but didn't stop him. Kong Dante spoke faster. Contact your superiors. They must be worried about me. Halfway through, he sensed something was wrong. The guard's eyes were empty and numb, nothing like a normal person's. Seeing those eyes, his whole body went rigid. Was this person really a guard? Seeing he wasn't handing his tray, the server knocked him with the ladle. If you're not eating, get out of the way. Back at the table, Kong Dante had no appetite. The plate of wilted greens killed what little desire to eat he had. The prisoners beside him drooled over his meal. He had thought the cafeteria meant rescue. He never imagined a guard looked more abnormal than the prisoners. Perhaps from the moment he entered, he had already been completely abandoned. After all, people died here every day. One less teacher was nothing anyone cared about. 182 ate with relish. Kong Dante turned his gaze back to 182. If he wanted to survive, maybe he would have to rely on this fool. He forced a smile. Didn't you want to learn how to plant sweet potatoes? I can teach you. You teach me how to get out. He planned to use 182's simplicity and wheedle a way to escape. 182 paused, then lifted his head. Do you really think I'm stupid? You think you can trade a way out with one sweet potato? Kong Dante hurriedly explained. How could I think you're stupid? Didn't you bring me here because you wanted to plant sweet potatoes? Once you've learned, you won't need me. After a moment of silence, 182 spoke slowly. There's no escaping this place. Give up that idea. Unless you can become the supreme leader here. Supreme leader? Kong Dante was stunned. You mean, the boss of this place? One like you? Impossible, 182 said. Only people like Shoulder are qualified to be leaders. Kong Dante pressed him about who Shoulder was. No matter how he asked, 182 refused to answer again. Seeing his attitude turn cold, Kong Dante dropped his smile. Since you won't help me, I'll stay away from me. I'll find someone else. He turned and left 182. If he returned to normal society, he would use the law to uproot this prison. A sudden commotion broke out in the cafeteria. Everyone turned to the entrance. A surge of joy rose in Kong Dante's heart. Could the rescue team have arrived? Under everyone's gaze, he shouted, "Gentlemen of the rescue team, I'm over here. I'm Kong Dante, a teacher who came to give lessons. I've been kidnapped by the prison." Halfway through his sentence, he realized something was wrong. The people who had come in wore prison uniforms. A moment later, he froze. Standing in front of him was an unbelievably tall man. The man lowered his head and said blandly, "Long time no see, teacher. Do you still remember me?" Kong Dante's eyes filled with terror. How could he forget this man? Among everyone he had ever met, this man was the tallest. The prisoners lowered their voices. "Lord Shoulder is here. Didn't think he'd come to the cafeteria today." The man standing before him was one of the 6 great shoulders, the tower. This time, he had come to find Kong Dante. "I heard you taught a sweet potato class. But I'm not interested in planting sweet potatoes. I want to know how to manufacture fog." Kong Dante was shaking. He had no idea what this fog was. When the tower took out 3 blue spheres, every prisoner's eyes turned greedy. Kong Dante remembered the masked prisoner had also asked about making fog. Could it be the fog wasn't the mist outside, but these blue spheres? Forcing himself to stay calm, Kong Dante said he had never seen them. He had no idea how such a thing was made. That sentence ignited the tower's rage. "You're a science teacher, and you don't know? Isn't a teacher supposed to know everything?" Kong Dante finally became certain of one thing. Everyone in this prison was insane. This was the first time he had seen such a thing. How could he possibly know? The tower's expression darkened. "For your sake, we 6 shoulders have been waiting in your room. Now I'm taking you back to give them an explanation." A chill ran through Kong Dante. He had just escaped 182. Was he going to be taken by the tower? The tower grabbed him by the collar and held one fog to his mouth. "Eat it. One taste and you'll understand." The blue sphere radiated a sinister allure. Kong Dante resisted. The tower gave him no choice and tried to force it in. All the prisoners stared at the scene, eyes full of desire. Kong Dante slapped at the tower's hand, knocking all 3 spheres to the floor. "I said I'm not eating it. Why do you have to make me?" The instant the 3 spheres rolled, the place erupted. The prisoners went crazy, rushing forward and brawling to get the fog. Kong Dante couldn't make sense of it. What was this stuff? Why did it make them lose control? The tower gave a cold laugh. "See? Fog is an amazing thing. And you rejected it. In this prison, fog is more precious than gold. Those who take fog feel unbelievably good." Some prisoners who failed to grab any got down and gnawed at the floor like wild dogs, licking residue. The one who did eat it was lost in pleasure, feeling nothing as his limbs were hacked off. The sight made Kong Dante sick to his stomach. He had no idea why he had been dragged here. This was a living hell. "Can I go home?" His voice trembled as he pleaded with the tower. "I'm just a teacher, not a scientist. I don't understand anything you're talking about." The tower sneered. "Don't joke with me. I've watched dramas. Even a chemistry teacher can make something that sells really well." Kong Dante broke down. "That's a TV show. It's fake. You lunatic." The cafeteria fell silent. The tower spoke slowly. "So you're just trash." He had thought being the first shoulder to capture the teacher would make him the strongest. He never expected it would amount to nothing. While Kong Dante was dazed, the tower reached into his mouth. He slowly pulled out a long knife. "Since you're trash, then go die." Despair filled Kong Dante's eyes. Dying like this might not be so bad. With one stroke, it probably won't hurt much. As he closed his eyes, the sound of metal clashing rang out from afar. A dining fork flew over, slicing past the tower's arm, then slamming into the distant wall. Kong Dante's life was spared. Looking at the tower's arm, nearly half of it had been sliced off. He whipped his head around to see who dared to strike at him. He hadn't seen clearly when a big hand grabbed his head. That hand clamped down hard on his skull. Looking closely, the owner of that hand had only one arm. "You." The tower was surprised. "Didn't think you'd make a move." Kong Dante's eyes were wide. 182 had stepped in. 182 said darkly, "He's under my protection. If you touch him, I'll kill you." As the words fell, 182 kicked out. His foot landed squarely on the tower's neck. The force of that kick snapped the tower's spine on the spot. The moment his kick landed, 182 retreated, opening distance. The scene stunned all the prisoners. The tower, hailed as one of the 6 great shoulders, had been knocked down in an instant. Only now did Kong Dante realize how strong 182 was. The prisoners shouted excitedly. "A new shoulder is about to be born. New shoulder. Tell us your name." 182 couldn't have cared less. He turned to Kong Dante. "Teacher, let's go back." He slung Kong Dante over his shoulder and walked off. The prisoners behind them thought 182's name was Teacher. Once they had left the cafeteria, Kong Dante was relieved to be alive. He stared at 182 in disbelief. This man was nothing like scrawny. He finally asked, Why did you sign up for the sweet potato class? Was it also for the fog? 182 shot back, can you make fog? Kong Dante's scalp tingled. I can't. I'm begging you, stop bringing up fog. So 182 explained why he signed up. That day, he had been wandering around the block when a long line blocked his path. He told one prisoner to move aside. The man refused to budge. No cutting. Everyone's lining up. I hear someone from outside is teaching something new. Spots are hard to get. You have to queue too. At first, 182 had no interest. Then he heard they'd be issuing new clothes. That fired him up. He hadn't had new clothes in a long time. So he muscled into the line. After hearing this, Kong Dante was dumbfounded. So that was why he enrolled? Then why did you save me? Kong Dante asked again. 182's answer was simple. Because you're wearing my clothes. You're under my protection. Then he looked disgusted. And besides, you peed yourself. Not long after, 182 grabbed clothes off someone for Kong Dante and told him to change. Kong Dante took off 182's shirt and carefully washed it clean. He couldn't understand why, for such an old shirt, he didn't just throw it away. But 182 was serious. It has 182 written on it. Anything with 182 written on it is mine. I can't throw it away. Kong Dante was full of question marks. He confirmed again, this guy wasn't right in the head. To curry favor with this powerful umbrella, Kong Dante volunteered. Take off the clothes you're wearing too. I'll wash them for you. You've only got one hand. It's not convenient for you to do laundry. So 182 sat there wearing only shoes, squatting and watching him wash. By the time they were done, it was midnight. Kong Dante's heart was still uneasy. Those monsters called shoulders were surely still looking for him. His stomach growled. If he'd known, he wouldn't have turned his nose up at the wilted greens. He spotted a sweet potato on the ground. It was 182's. He quietly picked it up and glanced at 182, who was sleeping on the upper bunk. He was about to take a bite when a big hand smacked the sweet potato away. Looking down from above, 182 said, Teacher, are you a thief? Kong Dante mumbled an explanation. I'm just too hungry. Could you give me a little food? 182 ignored him, jumped down, and carved 182 into the sweet potato. This is mine. No one else is ever allowed to touch it. Then he told Kong Dante to close his eyes because he was going to hide the sweet potato. In 182's eyes, this teacher would likely try to steal it again. On the other side, the tower, who had been defeated by 182, was curled up in a corner, repairing himself. He still couldn't believe it. That kick had come too suddenly. He hadn't even seen what happened. The tower had a talent forged in the thick mist. His spine was as hard as reinforced steel. Yet even with a spine that absurdly tough, it had been shattered to pieces by a single kick from 182. He remembered very clearly. 182 had said, that teacher is under my protection. So he planned to snatch the teacher away from 182 by force. But the masked man's figure silently appeared beside him. Looks like you really did find the teacher. So why didn't you inform us? The tower gave a cold little laugh. Don't brag. I'm the one destined to become the supreme leader here. Why would I share him with you? The next moment, the mechanic's hammer beside him suddenly vanished. When he looked up, the hammer had already landed in the masked man's hand. He slowly walked up to the tower, his voice as cold as ice within the fog. Your dream is far too big. So big it doesn't match your strength. Real fear flashed through the tower's eyes. What are you going to do? The masked man gave a vicious smile. Those who break the rules can only be dismantled. In the next second, the hammer crashed down. The body that had just been repaired was instantly smashed to pieces again. This masked man was one of the 6 great shoulders, Hound. 10 minutes later, Hound had already slaughtered all of the tower's underlings. He gathered his own troops, mounted his motorcycle, and roared off toward Tofu Village. Meanwhile, Kong Dante was following 182, heading for the place with the best sunlight. Earlier, he had taken advantage of 182's habit of carving on sweet potatoes and tricked him. Once you carve on a sweet potato, its life force gets weaker, and it's easy for it to die. He actually felt very guilty inside. But to escape this prison, he had no choice. Completely in the dark, 182 led him around, looking for sunlight. After 2 hours of walking, they still hadn't found any direction that led closer to the entrance. 182 scratched his head. I don't know the way either. We just keep heading toward the brightest spot, that's all. That line broke Kong Dante's last bit of composure. Why are you only saying that now? We just wasted 2 hours for nothing? He simply flopped to the ground. Then you carry me. If you want me to save your sweet potato, you'll carry me and keep walking. To his surprise, 182 suddenly collapsed with a thud. He fell face down on the ground, motionless. Kong Dante sensed something was wrong. With 182's physical ability, there was no way he would be this exhausted. His hands shaking, he lifted 182's hood. The next moment, Kong Dante was completely stunned. 182's eyes were empty, and strange blue liquid was flowing from his mouth and nose. Kong Dante panicked and slapped his face frantically. We're not looking for sunlight today. We're going back right now. Without 182, he had no way to survive. He clutched 182's shoulders in a death grip and screamed hoarsely, "You bastard. Don't leave me here alone. I'm begging you, wake up." Before he had finished speaking, a loud crash sounded behind him. A man walked up behind him, reached out, lifted his eyelids for a look, and said slowly, "You must be an ordinary person, right?" Only then did Kong Dante see clearly. The newcomer was a young man who looked harmless and gentle. He had heard the scream just now and come over out of curiosity. The young man took Kong Dante back to his place and handed him some food. Behind him stood a blue-haired girl. She advised Kong Dante to slow down. "You'll get indigestion if you eat like that." The young man introduced himself. "My name is Rambin. She's Lychee." Kong Dante gave his own name. "I'm Kong Dante." This was the first time in this prison he had met people he could have a normal conversation with. He had never expected that there would even be a woman here. The girl laughed out loud. "I was thinking of cutting my hair short and pretending to be a man. In Tofu Village, women stand out too much." Rambutan explained. "We came from further inside. The closer you get to the center, the more things like blocks stop existing as a concept." During their conversation, Rambutan learned that Kong Dante wasn't a prisoner, but had been kidnapped. And the person who had kidnapped him was now lying on the bed, unconscious. Although Kong Dante still didn't understand why this place was so bizarre everywhere, he knew one thing clearly. He had to escape. After hearing his story, the two of them exclaimed in unison, "Then you're the teacher from that teacher kidnapping operation?" Kong Dante's hair stood on end. Even they knew about it? It turned out the whole prison had heard. The enforcers had set that trap up in advance. They even seized control of the class and wouldn't let anyone else interfere. Rambutan had never imagined that the central figure of that incident would now be sitting right in front of him. Lychee, however, keenly pointed out, "But 182 doesn't look like an enforcer. He's more like an idiot." Kong Dante nodded. "He really isn't an enforcer. He kidnapped me just to learn how to grow sweet potatoes." The two of them froze for a moment, then burst into helpless laughter. "So you were dragged here over a single sweet potato?" Seeing them laugh so genuinely, Kong Dante's eyes suddenly grew moist. In this fogland, this was the first time he felt someone was treating him like a human being. Although 182 had kidnapped him here, 182 had never hurt him. Just now, when he suddenly collapsed, Kong Dante had thought it was heatstroke. Lychee, however, calmly uttered a single word. "Limbo." So-called limbo is withdrawal. They've been abruptly cut off from fog. A lot of prisoners lying around in a daze on the street are like that. They can't get fog and fall into a lost state. They'll eventually wake up. But if they enter that lost state again and again, their brains start to rot. Kong Dante pressed her. "What exactly is fog? Why is everyone fighting over it?" He soon got his answer. Fog is a sacred drug that grants talents. It magnifies potential you never knew you had, or the abilities you've always longed for. Kong Dante blurted out. "Isn't that just superpowers from a movie?" Rambutan cut him off. "No, it just looks that way. It lets you truly break through the limits of being human. Our goal is to use that power to escape this prison." Kong Dante listened in stunned silence. At last, he had met people who shared his goal. Meanwhile, Hound was searching everywhere for his whereabouts. Not just Hound. The other shoulders were looking for him too. They all had a single target, Tofu Village. Here, Lychee and Rambutan decided to invite Kong Dante to join their escape plan. "We're already prepared. As long as you agree, we'll leave together." Kong Dante instinctively refused. "I'm just an ordinary person. I should think about contacting the guards first, then consider escaping. I'm not a criminal here. If I attempt a jailbreak on impulse, I might die without even leaving a corpse." Rambutan rejected that outright. "No one can get in. No one will willingly step into the fog realm. Not even the guards." His tone grew solemn. "Think it over. Once we actually move, if you still haven't made up your mind, none of us will be able to look after you." Then he told Kong Dante something even more terrifying. "The longer you stay here, the more easily you'll be eroded by fog. Even if you've never eaten those blue fog spheres, this white mist itself is made of fog particles." A chill ran through Kong Dante. So every breath he took was basically poisoning himself? Fog is a gift from God. To manifest a talent, you need a huge amount of fog particles. But to get someone addicted, it's enough to let them unknowingly inhale this white fog over a long period of time. Once you're addicted, you'll start craving fog, going mad for it. After a moment of silence, Kong Dante asked, "What about you two? You've been here a long time too. Are you already addicted? Even if you escape, won't you die soon anyway?" Faced with that question, the two of them remained calm. "Yeah, once we get out, it's probably still a dead end. But so what? At least we might get another decade or so. We've agreed, even if we have to die, we refuse to die in this prison." It turned out they were a couple who had once planned to get married in the outside world. Their words did shake Kong Dante. He didn't want to die here either. Just like they said, even one day outside would be better than 10 years in here. But then Kong Dante suddenly felt a gaze on him. 182's eyes were staring through the gap between the two, locked on him. He screamed in fright. His scream immediately drew the attention of the pair as well. 182 had woken up. That meant he would have to keep growing sweet potatoes with 182. Kong Dante was at a total loss, not knowing what to do. If he said he wanted to escape with these two, would 182 turn on him? After all, this was the monster who had taken down the tower. 182 took the sweet potato out of his pocket and carefully examined it. Only after confirming it was undamaged did he breathe a sigh of relief. Kong Dante, however, knew the nightmare was starting again. 182 would definitely keep pestering him about growing sweet potatoes. Seeing his stiff expression, Rambutan laughed. "Why are you so scared?" In his eyes, 182 was nothing more than a fog zombie. Once someone falls into a limbo state, they stay weak and powerless until the next fog wave arrives. After hearing that, Kong Dante finally relaxed a little. He had been worried that Rambutan and Lychee might be hurt by 182. The next moment, Rambutan lifted his thick leg, and his expression turned cold. In his view, 182 was a potential problem, so he might as well get rid of him here. But 182 didn't react to his attack at all, as if he hadn't even seen it. He showed no concern whatsoever. Seeing things go wrong, Kong Dante hurriedly shouted to stop him. "Wait, don't fight." He ran up to 182 and said, "I'm leaving this place. From now on, I don't need your protection. From here on, we go our separate ways." 182 seemed unconcerned about his leaving. He only cared about one thing. How do you grow a sweet potato? Kong Dante sighed, snatched the sweet potato from his hand, and went to the side to pour a cup of water. "Watch closely. Sweet potatoes are very hardy. Put it in the cup, add a bit of water, and give it enough sunlight, and it'll grow on its own." When he finished, he deliberately urged, "Hurry and go look for sunlight. Otherwise the sun will be setting soon." 182 said he didn't know the way and wanted Kong Dante to go with him. Kong Dante was driven to the brink of madness. "Rambutan, please, just drive him out. I'm willing to escape with you. No matter if it's a hail of bullets out there, or if I get arrested for helping with a jailbreak, whatever happens, I'm willing to run with you." With a smack, Rambutan flung 182 out the door. The sweet potato that fell to the ground was carefully picked up again by 182. In his eyes was an almost obsessive fixation. He was determined to keep this sweet potato alive. After 182 left, Kong Dante finally let out a breath and asked Rambutan to tell him how to get out of this place. Rambutan bent his legs slightly, and the muscles in his thighs bulged at once. "Let me demonstrate." The moment he finished speaking, he kicked off the ground and shot out like an arrow. He moved so fast that Kong Dante could barely see him. It turned out Rambutan's talent was terrifying jumping power and explosive strength. Their plan was to use speed and leap straight over the high walls. Very soon, the three of them reached a high vantage point to survey the terrain. Lychee patted her forehead and activated her talent. Her eyes adjusted focus like a camera as she looked into the distance. Everything she saw was rapidly reconstructed on paper. Kong Dante exclaimed, "You can not only see far, you've also got a photographic memory?" The map they took out was a hand-drawn copy brought from the central region. "This is only a small part of this area." Kong Dante hadn't expected this place to be so enormous. The huge map before his eyes actually recorded only a single corner. Lychee said, "Judging from how big Tofu Village is, we've already come pretty far. Before long, we'll be brushing the edge of Fogland." Kong Dante took a pencil and began marking the map. "There are 4 vagrants here. Mark them as potential threats. And, what do these red dots mean?" At his question, their gazes instantly turned sharp, but they didn't answer. Instead, they casually changed the subject. "Don't overthink it. Anyway, we'll be out of here soon." Meanwhile, in Tofu Village, Hound had already found the badly injured 182. "You little punk, I finally found you. Be good and surrender." It turned out there had long been bad blood between 182 and Hound. Back in that class, Hound had been the first to find Kong Dante and take him away. At that time, 182 had also set his sights on the teacher and had tailed Hound all the way. Hound was furious. "Whose underling are you? You dare to steal my catch?" 182 didn't say a word. He only stared fixedly at the teacher in Hound's hand. He held out the sweet potato in his hand. "You kidnapped the teacher because you want to learn to grow sweet potatoes too? If you don't know how, I'll go ask the teacher." Those words made Hound see red with rage. He flung Kong Dante into the air. He planned to get rid of this troublesome lunatic first, then take the teacher away. After all, other shoulders had their eyes on the teacher too. He needed to finish this quickly. What he hadn't expected was that 182 easily slipped past his attack. That seemingly skinny guy actually had such reaction speed. 182 slowly raised 2 fingers. In the next instant, those 2 fingers drove hard into Hound's waist. With that single strike, Hound lost consciousness. While he was out cold, 182 snatched the teacher away. This was the real truth. The one who had actually kidnapped the teacher was Hound, and 182 had only stolen the teacher back. Now, Hound tore off 182's hood. This time, I'm settling our old score. While 182 was being hunted by Hound, Rambutan and the others were also drawn into a fight. A burly man shaped like a sweet potato suddenly lunged at Kong Dante, trying to grab him in one move. He was sent flying by a single kick from Rambutan. The sight shocked Lychee so much she couldn't help crying out. That's one of the 6 shoulders, drill head. His ability is tunneling through the ground. That scream exposed the fact that she was a woman. Because of that split second of distraction, Rambutan got hit by Drill Head. Drill Head was instantly excited. It had been a very long time since he had seen a real woman. His gaze turned greedy. That woman is really pretty. At that, Lychee grabbed Kong Dante and immediately tried to run. She didn't see that behind her, Rambutan's face had gone murderously dark. If you so much as touch a single strand of her hair, I'll kill you. The threat had no effect on Drill Head. In the next second, he dove into the ground, tunneling toward Kong Dante and Lychee's direction. At the same time, Rambutan also charged with everything he had. They made almost the same move. Rambutan was trying to protect his girlfriend, while Drillhead's target had always been Kong Dante. The instant Rambutan landed, Drillhead burst out of the ground from the other side, taking Kong Dante with him as he tunneled away. Kong Dante's been taken by Drillhead. Rambutan's face changed drastically. Drillhead tunneled at tremendous speed, rolling forward underground without stopping. Elsewhere, 182 had already been taken back to base by Hound. His body was covered in wounds and bruises. Hound's underlings wanted to extract information from him. They took out a piece of fog to tempt him. Want this, kid? Get on your knees and beg me. The moment he saw the fog, an intense anger flashed through 182's eyes. At the same time, Kong Dante had been brought back to Drillhead's underground base and slid down along a pipe. Looking at this world of drill bits, his heart went cold. This was Drillhead's territory. He was almost certain he was done for. Hound's men were still interrogating 182. When they couldn't get any answers, one of them simply shoved the fog into his own mouth. Think about it. Without fog, you can't do anything. You can't move, and you've got no strength. Just as he swallowed the fog down to his throat, in the next second, 182's mouth was already clamped around his neck. 182 bit through his windpipe and forcibly snatched the half-swallowed fog out of his throat. Then he raised his head and grinned madly at the others. You beat me half to death just now. Now it's my turn. An hour later, Hound rushed back to base. The sight before him left him completely stunned. Every one of his underlings in the base had died a violent death. There was only one possible killer. 182. He fell to his knees and roared, "Brothers, I've failed you. Damn you, 182, I'll kill you for this." By this time, 182 had already returned to the cafeteria. He walked straight up to the serving window and said to the server, "Water." The man replied impatiently, "Get in line." Because he cut the line, 182 angered the other prisoners. They all started grumbling. In the next instant, he slammed both hands down on the counter so hard that everyone flinched. No one was willing to go head-to-head with a lunatic. So he got the water he wanted. Back in his room, 182 placed the sweet potato by the window, letting it slowly soak up sunlight. After a whole day, he realized the sweet potato hadn't changed at all. He stared for a moment, then finally realized he had been tricked. Consumed with fury, 182 muttered, "Teacher, I'm going to kill you." Meanwhile, Kong Dante was standing deep in the drill bit world, nearly in despair. He knew that getting out of here was almost impossible. Drillhead stood in front of him and asked, "Can you manufacture fog? You're a science teacher. This kind of small thing, you should be able to do, right?" Kong Dante braced himself. "Actually, we don't need to manufacture it. Isn't this white fog in the air just a preliminary form of fog? All you need to do is breathe it in deeply." Before he could finish, his throat was seized. "Are you joking? If that were enough, who would bother chasing fog? You can't collect the fog in the air. You have to gather it and then compress it." Hearing that, Kong Dante was completely stunned. As a science teacher, he was very familiar with such basic principles. When dawn comes and the air cools to the dew point, fog condenses into tiny droplets of water. If you could make those droplets gather and compress, maybe you could. His eyes lit up. "I know how to manufacture fog now." Over the next 2 hours, Kong Dante began putting his theory into practice. Just as he had guessed, he really did slowly gather the fog from the air. Then he collected this liquefied fog in a storage tank, and that was that. He laughed in excitement. "I really am a genius. Now I'm finally saved. In this prison, no one will dare touch me again." Elsewhere, Rambutan and Lychee were looking for new partners for their escape plan. They picked someone who looked a bit simple-minded and invited him to join. His demeanor suddenly changed. He pulled a knife from his waist. "Stop talking nonsense. No one can get out of here. Get lost." Lychee said gloomily. "Looks like no matter how innocent or stupid someone seems, in this place, no one is unaware of that matter." Rambutan felt the only one who didn't know was that teacher. From the map, Lychee had already guessed he must have been hidden underground by Drillhead. In Drillhead's territory, Kong Dante used a fog net capture method to extract liquid moisture from the white fog. It was the kind of device used in arid regions to produce water from the air. The principle was simple. When the temperature drops to the dew point, water vapor condenses into droplets on a mesh structure. At dawn, when humidity is very high, he applied this principle to fog land. He replaced ordinary netting with breathable insect screen and shaped the bottom into an arc. This channeled the condensed droplets into a collection tank. This water was naturally saturated with fog. Because the humidity here was near saturation, the amount of water he collected far exceeded expectations. Drillhead stared at the tank of fog water, his face full of shock. "Teacher Kong, how did you do that? Can you teach us?" Kong Dante shook his head. "This is water made from the purest fog in Fogland. As for the method, I'm not an idiot. Why would I tell you?" Although he had successfully produced fog water, he had no idea what its concentration really was. Drillhead, however, couldn't hold back any longer. He stuck his hand into the water and took a small sip. In the next second, his pupils dilated sharply. "That taste, yes, this is fog." He and his men cheered wildly. They finally had an infinite supply of fog. All the credit went to Kong Dante. He became, in one leap, the producer of this underground world. Drillhead eagerly presented him with a modified prison uniform. "Teacher Kong, you were born to wear a suit. How do you like this customized prison uniform? From today on, no one will dare lay a finger on you. You're one of us now. Your safety is my responsibility." Kong Dante thought to himself. This Drillhead was probably the one closest to becoming the supreme leader. Maybe he could use this connection to reach the prison's real management. Rambutan turned to leave. "Get some rest first. Tonight, we're throwing a grand ball. Thanks to you, we don't have to ration fog anymore. Tonight, I'm going to ascend using all the fog." Kong Dante was completely baffled. Ascend? Night fell. On the tray, there were a full 1,000 fog spheres piled up. All the members circled around the fog, dancing a bizarre dance. They beat gongs and drums as if performing some kind of religious ritual. Drillhead clapped his hands to signal everyone to be quiet. Looking at the tray piled high with fog spheres, Kong Dante sucked in a cold breath. Were they going to eat all of that in one go? Standing before the crowd, Drillhead shouted, "I am the Drill King, ruler of the underground world. Good evening, my drill soldiers. Now is the time for our efforts to bear fruit. Bathed in mist, we've been building our strength. Today, I will challenge ascension." As his voice fell, everyone raised their hands in excitement. They firmly believed their boss would succeed for sure. Drillhead opened his mouth and swallowed dozens of fog spheres in a single gulp. Greed filled everyone's eyes, but not one person stepped forward to snatch any. Very soon, he was eating more and more. His mouth was so stuffed it could barely close. But no change occurred for a long time. His underlings were still straining their throats shouting ascend, but Drillhead felt that something was wrong. His fingers began to tremble. Even picking up the next fog sphere became difficult. Someone stepped forward in concern, only to realize he could no longer speak. Drillhead had never imagined things would end like this. Maybe today just isn't the day. One underling tried to reassure him. "Then rest for now, boss. We've got endless fog anyway. There's always next time." Soon, someone noticed the boss's head seemed to have gotten longer. It had grown a good bit compared to before. The crowd went completely wild. "It's a sign of ascension." An underling asked excitedly, "Boss, can you feel a new talent?" Drillhead's eyes were already going distant. "I can feel the entire universe." He hadn't yet realized that tiny cracks were spreading across his head. His consciousness was gradually drifting away as he started babbling nonsense. "At the place where the mist rises, I can see all the truths of the world." On the side, Kong Dante could only watch in silence as it all unfolded. Drillhead's final words were, "We're all living inside a pale blue prison." As soon as he finished speaking, his body suddenly exploded, and the fog inside him scattered like raindrops in all directions. His underlings instantly lost control, hurling themselves at the scattered fog in a frenzy. Kong Dante couldn't make sense of it at all. Was this ascension, or a fall? It seemed that only from the moment Drillhead exploded did the revelry truly begin. The ones who normally couldn't get any fog were now risking everything to gulp down the scattered fog. Very soon, Drillhead's remains were devoured until almost nothing was left. All Kong Dante felt was terror. He saw another prisoner whose body swelled and split open from consuming too much fog, finally bursting into a cloud of bloody mist. Someone still relatively lucid stepped forward and shouted, "Stop. If we keep eating, we'll all die. Our bodies can't handle fog at this concentration." Seeing that no one listened, that person pinned his hopes on Kong Dante. "You be the boss. Think of a way to stop them." Without another word, Kong Dante turned and ran. Be the boss? Who wants that? I still don't even understand what's going on. There's no way this is the real world. This has to be a dream. He staggered as he ran, tripping over himself. Then he suddenly saw his older brother's figure up ahead. "I told you long ago? His brother's voice echoed in the mist. Kong Dante didn't stop to think. Bro, take me away. Get me out of here. When he got close, he froze. The head was actually a perfectly round sphere. He finally broke down completely. Who on earth is going to save me? 1A2, can you save me? It turned out Kong Dante had suffered from selective prosopagnosia since childhood. He couldn't remember his brother's face. When he drew family portraits as a kid, he would casually draw his brother's head as a circle. His brother looked at the drawing and couldn't help laughing. If you draw me like that, you'll never be an artist. In his memory, his brother's face had always been blurry. Sometimes like a crying woman, sometimes like a demonic face. For him, thinking of Big Brother as a circle was easier. Without even realizing it, that circle image became associated with fog spheres in his mind. Kong Dante snapped his eyes open. That was terrifying. Just as he tried to catch his breath, he realized he was inside a strange tent. He heard Rambutan's voice by his ear, along with Lychee's worried questions. I just had a really horrible nightmare. But why am I here? It turned out they had gone to Drillhead's underground base that day and followed the sewer all the way. They finally dragged him out from a pile of sludge. Lychee said with a smile, "We came to save you. Didn't we agree to escape together?" Warmth spread through Kong Dante's chest. He had never imagined he could still see such genuine kindness in a place like this. "I'm sorry. Because of me, your plan got delayed. Let's leave right now." But Lychee shook her head. "Rambutan still needs rest. And we've already come a long way. Right here is the wall we're going to climb over. We even chose a section with no guards on purpose." Kong Dante looked toward the high wall outside the tent, his chest tightening. He sat down and told them everything he had seen underground. "Drillhead is dead. The fog I made blew him apart. Everyone went crazy at the time, it was total chaos." Rambutan explained, "That's called a fall. Here, people who overdose on fog have their bodies burst open, spewing out all the mist inside them. Everyone else just waits for someone to fall, then goes to eat him." Kong Dante asked again, "Then what about sublimation? Is that breaking past your limits?" They answered, "Sublimation is dual talents. When someone pushes their ability to the limit and then gains a second talent, that's sublimation. Once someone does that, others will follow and worship him. He'll become the supreme leader. But so far, no one's truly succeeded. Most people die from falling. Even so, Rambutan believed, one day, someone will appear. He'll have endless talents, break this world's rules, and free everyone. That person is who we call the supreme leader." At those words, Kong Dante instinctively thought of 182. He had personally seen that man who only knew how to carve 182 into sweet potatoes easily take down the tower, one of the shoulders. At the same time, 182 was constantly using his ears to hunt for Kong Dante's voice. Just then, Kong Dante absent-mindedly pushed up his glasses. It was this tiny movement that made the searching 182 pause for a moment. 182 looked toward the distant high wall. "I think I found you, teacher." By now, 182's hearing had grown almost monstrous. No matter how far the distance, as long as he calmed down and listened, he could precisely lock onto the direction he wanted. This was one of 182's talents. Meanwhile, Drillhead space was almost filled with mist, with workers everywhere assigned to clean up the fog water. A hooded woman looked around and saw a pale blue glow shining from all directions. "Looks like plenty of people have fallen here." She bent down as well, joining the workers collecting fog water. Before long, someone's voice cut her off. "Stop wasting time picking up that garbage." She looked up to see a red-haired man handing her a full packet of fog spheres. Then the red-haired man casually asked, "That guy, have you found him?" By that guy, the woman roughly knew who he meant. In all likelihood, the teacher under the one-armed man's protection. "Maybe he's already been found, but I'm not too sure." At those words, the man's tone turned heavy. "It's been a full year, and this is all you've got? That's really disappointing." That really annoyed the woman. "Honestly, I don't see how this job benefits me at all. It's just a commission from the Fog Realm Bureau anyway, isn't it?" The red-haired man wasn't in the mood to listen to her complaints. "Cut the crap and get to work." A vicious glint flashed in the woman's eyes. "Since you put it that way, I guess I'll have to take it seriously. But, shouldn't the pay get serious too? Prices have gone up a lot this year." The red-haired man didn't answer immediately. He just stood there thinking in silence for a while. Soon, he made his decision. "As long as you can bring him to me, I'll pay you whatever you want." Elsewhere, Kong Dante didn't sleep at all that night. First because it was too cold, and second because two people's sweet-nothing chatter was far too loud. Realizing his condition, the couple grew a bit embarrassed. "Sorry about that." Kong Dante lifted a hand to show he didn't mind. "It's fine. If you really want to make it up to me, just hurry up and get me out of here. That's the best thanks you can give me." Very soon, they arrived at the stone wall. The high wall was covered in dried bloodstains. Rambutan was warming up his legs. Looking up at the wall, Kong Dante felt a chill down his spine. Can we really clear it in one jump? When his gaze swept over the bloodstains on the wall, his unease far outweighed any excitement. Is there anything I can do to help? Kong Dante asked. Rambutan handed him a bundle. Just protect this. Then he looked at him again. One more thing. Can you say a prayer? Like the kind Catholics say. Kong Dante was puzzled. I don't believe in God. Why do you want me to pray? What does that have to do with us escaping? Lychee softly explained, it doesn't matter whether it works or not. In a place this hopeless, we just want to believe, a little, that maybe some God might hear us. Just do it. A moment later, Rambutan reached out his hands to them, signaling the two to hold on tight. Kong Dante's heart was pounding wildly. He was about to leave this place. In the next moment, Rambutan's talent erupted, and the muscles in his thighs bulged all at once. Kong Dante and Lychee clung to him with all their strength, mumbling prayers under their breath. Rambutan shouted, I'll count to 3. Then we'll be out of here. You two make sure you hold on. By the time he reached 2, the strength in his legs had built to its peak. With just a slight adjustment in posture, he could launch them over. At that critical moment, Kong Dante squeezed his eyes shut and continued praying in a voice only he could hear. He believed you had to close your eyes to be truly devout. However, at the instant he said 3, a massive fist smashed into Rambutan's face. Right as he pushed off, Rambutan had run straight into the onrushing 182. The clash exploded in an instant. All 3 bodies flipped backward through the air, and Rambutan was almost knocked unconscious by that punch. Kong Dante stared, dumbfounded, at 182 in front of him, not understanding at all why 182 would appear here at this moment. What's more, right now 182 was covered in wounds, his expression dark and grim, with none of his previous foolishly blank look. Kong Dante couldn't help asking, what are you doing here? And what happened to you? 182's anger was almost overflowing. Why did you lie to me? Do you have any idea how much I suffered because you tricked me? As he spoke, 182 raised his huge fist and swung it at Kong Dante. Kong Dante was scared out of his wits. Just before the fist came down, Rambutan dashed forward and yanked Kong Dante out of the way. 182's face turned completely black. If it's a running contest you want, I can play that game too. The 3 of them sprinted madly, all with the same question in their heads. Why had 182 suddenly appeared here, and how had he gotten his strength back? Just then, Lychee suddenly saw something that made her eyes go wide. Following her line of sight, Rambutan froze as well. 182's speed was in no way inferior to his. 182 couldn't help asking, you've got a talent for running too? He had no interest in chatting further with Rambutan. He only spoke coldly to Kong Dante. Stop, or I'll break your legs. Kong Dante was utterly lost. Why are you always clinging to me like this? In the next instant, 182 lashed out with a kick that smashed into Rambutan's legs. The moment his support vanished, Rambutan lost his balance, and all 3 of them went tumbling. 182, however, took a few quick steps across the ground and landed steadily right in front of Kong Dante. I clearly saved your life. Why did you lie to me? His expression was stormy. The method you taught me doesn't make sweet potatoes sprout at all. Kong Dante looked blank. I didn't lie to you at all. Calm down. I did teach you how to grow sweet potatoes, didn't I? 182's expression was on the verge of tears. I watered it, and it got sunlight, but it didn't work. The sweet potato didn't change at all. Kong Dante froze. He checked his watch. Not even a single day had passed. It's only been a day. If it had sprouted already, that would be what's abnormal. 182 ground his teeth. So growing sweet potatoes is fake? All the work I did these days was for nothing? Kong Dante almost laughed in exasperation. How was it for nothing, you big idiot? He explained at length. Everything needs time to grow. That's the most basic common sense. You need at least a week before you can see whether it's grown. 182 was silent for a few seconds and finally realized he had blamed Kong Dante unfairly. So where are you going? Kong Dante answered honestly, I'm leaving here. You don't need me anymore anyway. At that, 182 silently cursed idiot in his head. He pointed at Lychee and Rambutan. You're going out with them? With 182 now turning on the couple, Kong Dante grew annoyed. What are you planning to do? Don't you touch them. He didn't notice that behind him, the couple's expressions were no longer just tense. They were frightened. 182 stared at him coldly. Didn't you say you wanted to live? Kong Dante didn't understand. What's that supposed to mean? 182 pointed behind them. Are you really willing to die for them? In the next moment, Rambutan suddenly roared, Shut up, you bastard. The look he and Lychee gave Kong Dante changed in an instant. I think you've both said enough, haven't you? So could you stop interfering with our escape plan? At that moment, a deep unease welled up in Kong Dante's heart. Rambutan didn't give him time to think. He grabbed him violently. Don't listen to that brain-fried maniac. Mr. Kong Dante, if we don't go now, it'll be too late. Lychee urged from the side. What are you spacing out for? Hold on to him and run. The next second, Rambutan scooped up Kong Dante and snatched him away right under 182's nose. You wanted to get out, didn't you? Then pray hard. Kong Dante's emotions were a mess. He did want to leave, but something felt wrong. Before he could say another word, Rambutan had already jumped, launching himself toward the top of the wall. They reached the top quickly. If Kong Dante just lifted his head, he could see the world outside the wall. Along the way, these two had always seemed to protect him. He had started to trust them. They seemed genuinely good to him. But just as they were about to clear the wall, Rambutan suddenly pressed down hard on Kong Dante's body. Then his foot stomped heavily into Kong Dante's stomach. Kong Dante was stunned. "What are you doing?" Rambutan looked genuinely regretful. "Mr. Kong Dante, you're a good man. Unfortunately, good people don't live long. You'll die in our place. I'm sorry." As soon as he finished, he kicked Kong Dante downward. He and Lychee used the recoil of that kick to vault even farther away. The fog in Kong Dante's backpack spilled out all at once. Kong Dante had no idea what was happening. They clearly had a chance to escape together, so why boot him into hell? Just then, a giant blood-red maw yawned open in the shadows below him. Time rewound to a week earlier. At that time, Lychee had marked a red dot on the map. That marked spot was exactly where this gargoyle stood. This gargoyle was the prison's guardian, responsible for intercepting prisoners who tried to escape. Lychee had warned him solemnly, "Don't ever touch that thing. It's extremely dangerous." But Rambutan hadn't cared. "Isn't it just a statue? As long as we don't cross the wall, it won't move." He had even kicked its leg twice. "Something this dumb is supposed to stop me?" There were countless legends about the gargoyle, with many versions in circulation. The most common said that the gargoyle and the mist had appeared at the same time. Some said it was a government-made security device, a tool specifically used to prevent fog from leaking into the outside world. They didn't want fog clinging to people's bodies, the mist people inhaled, or anything related to it being carried out of the prison. So the world government had always been blocking any escape attempts. As for whether the gargoyle really had a mind of its own, no one could say for sure. Lychee's guess was, it's sentient. It can sense fog, and it can detect who's planning escape in their heart. As long as the gargoyle stands, we can't leave. The more you long for the outside world, the more you dreamed of sunlight and freedom, the more easily the despair in your heart was amplified by the mist. Back then, Rambutan had gripped Lychee's hand tightly. "We will get out. I promised I'd take you away from here, back to the normal world, and then marry you out there. Even if there were 10 gargoyles ahead, they couldn't stop me. I can do anything for you." Lychee had been moved to tears by those words. Back to the present. Rambutan had already stepped onto the outer edge of the wall. When he looked back, his pupils shrank in shock at the sight. The gargoyle that supposedly never moved was actually moving. It had opened its jaws, ready to swallow Kong Dante whole. Just as the gargoyle's mouth snapped shut, Rambutan and Lychee landed on the sandy ground outside the wall. Rambutan could barely contain his excitement. The plan had worked. He had stuffed the fog into Kong Dante's backpack beforehand, using Kong Dante to draw the gargoyle's attention. The gargoyle would naturally judge that the person carrying a huge amount of fog was the one who had to be intercepted. So it fixed on Kong Dante and ignored the two of them. Seizing that opening, they bolted into the distance. The sun overhead was dazzling and strange. Though a desert stretched before them, Rambutan still believed that if they kept moving forward, they would one day leave this place. "We did it." His face was full of longing. "We're free now." He hadn't noticed the tiny specks of blood on his face. Only when he turned back did he see, Lychee's head was gone. For him, that single moment was enough to tear his entire life apart. He lifted his gaze toward the gargoyle, his murderous hatred nearly solid with intensity. Strands of blue hair still clung to the gargoyle's mouth. Rambutan's heart caved in at once. He tried desperately to change the ending, but there was nothing he could do. The gargoyle chewed slowly. 2 or 3 seconds later, Lychee was completely gone. Rambutan broke down totally. He no longer had any reason to keep running. The faith that had supported his life had just been eaten. In the next instant, he dropped Lychee's mangled body and charged at the gargoyle with a roar. He unleashed every last ounce of strength and fury, determined to die with the monster. In the blink of an eye, he was in front of the gargoyle, landing a vicious kick. At the same time, the gargoyle opened its mouth and inhaled hard. Under that terrifying suction, Rambutan's legs began to disintegrate, and his body slowly turned into blue mist, drawn into its belly. Even in his final moment, he was filled with regret. He had personally led the most important person in his life down this road to death. If he could do it over, he would rather stay trapped in this prison forever than ever let her take that risk again. After devouring Kong Dante, Rambutan, and Lychee, the gargoyle let out a satisfied burp. At this moment, 182 was standing not far away, glaring at the gargoyle and cursing, "You big idiot. How many times have I told you people like us must never leave this prison? Why won't you believe me?" He raised his swollen fist and let out a heavy sigh. His words were harsh, but he still had to save the man. His gaze suddenly sharpened. "I told you before, in this prison, he's under my protection. Anyone who touches him, dies." As soon as he finished, 182 swung his fist the size of a sandbag and charged the gargoyle. The instant he climbed onto the wall, the air currents around him began to violently shake. 182 leapt, came right up to the gargoyle, and lightly threw a punch. A dull yet crushingly powerful boom exploded in the mist. An entire tooth of the gargoyle was smashed to pieces by his fist. It had to be said, right now, 182 was absurdly cool. A surge of blue energy welled up in the gargoyle's mouth and blasted outward. 182's figure flickered, and he dodged with ease. To him, this thing was even more annoying than the teacher. Wanting to rescue Kong Dante as quickly as possible, 182 didn't want to waste any time. He attacked with both hands and feet at once, unleashing 20 punches and 20 kicks in just a few seconds. "You thing, break for me." Soon, he had beaten a crack open at the corner of the gargoyle's mouth. 182 pressed up close to its teeth and peered inside. He was checking whether Kong Dante had already been digested. In the next second, he saw that near-crying face. 182, "I'm so glad to see you. I'll follow you from now on. Save me, please. I really know I was wrong. I'll teach you how to grow sweet potatoes properly." 182 stared at him speechlessly, as if he didn't even want to respond. "Now you know you were wrong? What were you doing before?" Even so, he still stretched out his swollen arm and yanked Kong Dante out of the monster's mouth. Once free of the monster's jaws, Kong Dante clung to 182's shoulder and refused to let go. After what had just happened, he had truly thought he was going to die in that hellish place. "At first I thought you were only here to kill me. The way you acted before was too scary. It really made me misunderstand you." 182 said calmly, "Open your eyes now. We're already out. Then hurry up and tell the gargoyles you'll never try to escape again." At that, Kong Dante hesitantly opened his eyes. The moment he did, he saw the gargoyle's hand reaching for him. He almost passed out from fright. "Run. What the hell is this thing? 182, move." Seeing him still yelling, 182 truly was getting annoyed. He stepped on Kong Dante's face, forcing him to his knees. "Do what I tell you. Do you want to live or not? I didn't work this hard to save you so you could stand here babbling. I've told you over and over, there's no exit here. I wasn't lying. You just refused to listen." Kong Dante fell silent. He had to admit that this time, he really had cut off his own way out. In that moment, all his resentment shifted onto Lychee and Rambutan. The gargoyle still lumbered slowly toward Kong Dante. At last he did as 182 said, kneeling on the ground and kowtowing hard to the gargoyle. "I will never try to leave this place again." Once he'd said it, 182 stared hard at the gargoyle. "You heard him. He's not going. Now, get lost." The gargoyle's eyes trembled slightly. It did possess a kind of consciousness, and it could judge very clearly that this one-armed man in front of it was not to be provoked. When Kong Dante raised his head again, that massive figure had already crumbled into sand and slowly faded into the air. Kong Dante fell back to the ground. What was that thing just now? Was I hallucinating? Why did it suddenly vanish? He turned to 182. "That couple, did they get out?" 182 replied coldly, "They're dead. The gargoyle ate them." Kong Dante couldn't believe it. "But they stepped on me and jumped out, didn't they? How could they still get eaten?" 182 explained, "What you just saw was absolutely not a hallucination. Anyone who tries to leave the fog realm dies. That gargoyle is one of the wardens of this land. So far, no one has ever truly beaten them. No matter how strong a prisoner is, there are no exceptions." Elsewhere, the cannibal tribe received an uninvited guest. The hooded girl asked with interest, "Do you cannibals really eat people, or is that just a scary name?" Bone Eater let out a ghastly chuckle at that. "You want to know? Perfect, I've been wanting to taste you." As soon as he finished speaking, his long tongue whipped toward the girl. She poked it away in disgust. "Gross. Put that away." Bone Eater only laughed harder. "Smells very cute to me. With my absolute sense of taste, I'm never wrong. But anyway, what are you here for?" Only then did the girl get to the point. She wanted the cannibal tribe's help with something. Another photo appeared in her hand. "Prisoner number 182. Height also 182. Right arm missing. I need you to find him for me." Bone Eater curled his tongue around the photo and brought it closer, studying it. 182's handsome face looked to him exactly like a top-grade ingredient. "Sounds like you want me to eat him?" The girl's eyes went cold at once. "I won't stop you from eating him. But if you dare take a bite first, you can try." Bone Eater clicked his tongue and dropped the topic. "Then what are you, exactly?" The girl replied flatly, "I'm a shoulder too." The moment she said it, all his underlings froze. Aren't there only 6 shoulders? Even Bone Eater thought she was being outrageously arrogant. "Never seen anyone like you. Unless you're some bumpkin who's never made it out of Zone 0, in which case forget I said anything." The girl's aura suddenly shrank inward, and it was like she became another person. "I survived in a place where only the strong live. I'm a fallen shoulder. Talking to me like that, you're not afraid of dying?" Elsewhere, a cleaning worker suddenly noticed the gargoyle had returned. But this time, instead of their usual indifference, they were completely shocked. One of the gargoyle's teeth was missing. In theory, such a thing was impossible. They knew all too well how strong the gargoyle was. As far as they knew, no one could injure it in a frontal fight. While everyone was muttering about it, a figure in a black cloak silently appeared behind them. His name was Baba Yaga. His low voice rumbled out, "This is an omen." Everyone jumped in fright. Baba Yaga hadn't spoken a single word for 5 whole years. For him to speak again now meant something big was coming. Baba Yaga was a sorcerer with the talent of prophecy. A crack has appeared in that chain. Every word he spoke was a prophecy. The people present exploded into a frenzy, all whipping out notebooks to record his every word. The bird has spread its wings, and the eagle's claws are about to fall. The day Baba Yaga has awaited is not far off. Soon, a god will be born in this prison. Meanwhile, Kong Dante was still confirming things with 182. That huge white monster just now really killed Lychee and Rambutan? 182 shook his head. Not just that one. There's more than one gargoyle here. Their purpose is to hunt anyone who tries to leave the fog realm. They're insanely strong. I can only handle the one from just now. There are too many of them here. I can't kill them all. And that couple never once explained gargoyles to you properly. They just wanted to use you to stall a gargoyle so they could slip away. The gargoyle's target is whoever's carrying a lot of fog. Hearing that, Kong Dante's whole worldview almost collapsed. It was too much to take in. So, the moment we step past the wall, we're walking to our deaths? Even if we escape one monster, the next one will come? And things like that exist, yet the outside world knows nothing? 182 cut him off impatiently. Shut up. You saw it yourself. If you ever try to cross that wall again, you'll die for sure. And then even I won't be able to save you. Despair flooded Kong Dante's heart completely. So, I really have no way out at all? His knees gave out, and he crashed to the floor. His emotions were almost breaking. You must be lying. Am I really going to be stuck in this prison for life? 182's fist slammed into his face. When I tell you to shut up, can't you just shut up? An hour later, they were back in the room. 182's sweet potatoes still sat on the table. Kong Dante had lost all his former fussiness. Even wilted greens and watery soup he now swallowed quietly. His mind was racing, frantically analyzing the monsters that blocked escape. By his logic, they had to be part of some prison security system, a hallucination-inducing device, or some kind of machine. After all, by any normal standard, creatures that ridiculous shouldn't exist. Compared to him, 182 could barely eat at all with his swollen hand. Whatever that system was, one thing was clear. It was strong enough to keep this whole crowd of abnormal prisoners locked in. And that couple had only given him all that fog to use him as bait. He cursed them silently. They'd gone way too far. In their eyes, was I just some easy-to-trick fool? Thinking that, he couldn't help muttering under his breath, "Good thing 182 saved me in the end." Rambutan and Lychee had always been living on the edge of life and death. They had no time to spend their feelings on a stranger. From the start, he'd simply been too naive and chosen to trust them. This also reminded him, from now on, he had to be more guarded with anyone who got close, or he could get tricked again at any time. Kong Dante wiped his tears away. When I got eaten, I really thought I was dead. He turned to look at 182. He truly didn't understand. Why had 182 saved him? This time it wasn't for sweet potatoes, or for that shirt, or even because he was a teacher. So what reason had 182 had to come after him? And 182 had repeatedly warned him not to try escaping. All these questions piled up in his mind, making him ever more curious. Could it be that 182 was actually a good person? He thought of all the harsh things he'd said, and 182 had never really held them against him. At that thought, his tears slipped out again. From now on, I have to treat 182 properly. I can't keep yelling at him like before. Just then, he noticed 182's hand was so swollen it looked like stone. He couldn't even hold a fork. How did your hand end up like this? It's even more swollen than before. We need to get you to a hospital fast. 182 instinctively hid his hand behind his back. But even his broad back couldn't conceal that puffed-up arm. Just a small injury. Probably just a fracture, 182 said coolly. Kong Dante was exasperated. That's a small injury? With swelling like this, you're not in pain? 182 insisted, it doesn't hurt. Kong Dante reached out and pinched lightly, and 182 sucked in a sharp breath. He wasn't fine, he'd just been gritting his teeth. 10 minutes later, Kong Dante had roughly splinted the arm with cloth strips. 182 looked thoroughly displeased. Take this off. Kong Dante refused. It's a temporary fix. Move it around and it'll hurt even more. Don't take it off. No matter how Kong Dante explained, 182 refused to be bound. I need my hand to eat and to use the toilet. How am I supposed to live all tied up? Kong Dante let out a long sigh. Are you really that clueless, or are you pretending? If a fracture isn't set, it might be useless for life. You think you can get by in this place on just your legs? 182 went quiet. Even he couldn't miss the weight behind those words. Right now, they were both weaklings. Neither had any ability to really protect anyone. Out there, if they ran into any random thug, they might die in the brief moment they passed each other. After a pause, 182 finally spoke. Then let's go to the hospital. At the word hospital, Kong Dante's eyes lit up. This place actually has a hospital? It's not some butcher shop, is it? The answer, though, was that it was a normal hospital. It was just that 182 didn't know exactly where it was. Kong Dante was speechless. You're not lying to me, are you? It turned out 182 had once gotten into a fight with a doctor and vaguely remembered that he was somewhere around Zone 0. At Zone 0, Kong Dante immediately thought of Lychee's hand-drawn map. That area was obviously much bigger than where they were now. Then it suddenly hit him. Right. I have the map. I can just look it up. He immediately began rummaging through the room for his backpack. Soon he found it in the corner. If he remembered correctly, the map should be inside. Sure enough, not only was the map there, but there were also a dozen or so fog spheres that hadn't spilled out. Kong Dante nearly jumped for joy. The map's here. We can go find the hospital. He didn't notice at all that 182's eyes were already fixed on the fog. There's still this many, enough for a month. Kong Dante spread the map out and started carefully searching for any medical markings. The hospital icon was tiny. He didn't dare miss a single corner and checked every inch. 2 full hours later, he finally found the medical center mark in one corner. Your hand can be saved. I found the medical center, and a bunch of info with it. But by then, 182 was already completely lost in the world of fog and couldn't take in a word. From the layout of the map, Kong Dante inferred that the whole fog land was structured like a sliced pizza. What they had drawn was only 4 of the sectors. After confirming the hospital's position, Kong Dante began searching for something else, something like a central control room. Very soon, he saw that the center of the map looked as if it had been slashed. On closer inspection, it didn't look torn, it looked folded. The small folded section underneath was even taped down. That made Kong Dante realize at once that something crucial had to be hidden there. He carefully lifted that folded piece. What appeared before his eyes was exactly what he'd been searching for: the command center, the headquarters of the fog. A light unlike anything before flashed in Kong Dante's eyes. At the very center of Fogland was a central command. His escape route might well be hidden there. Thinking that, Kong Dante turned immediately and called to 182 behind him. 182, get over here. I've got a plan. We're going to the center. But when he turned, all he saw was 182 leaning back slightly, wearing a blissful expression. No one knew how many fog spheres he had just eaten. Meanwhile, on the other side, at the entrance of an information shop, 2 burly men were about to open the door. Rough laughter drifted from inside, their boss's laughter. The tattoo-faced man was the well-known information broker of this area, Kasim. This month, he had made quite a lot of fog-selling information. If luck was on his side, he might soon track down that one-armed man. The noisy, chaotic atmosphere around him looked, in his eyes, like a pancake stall on fire, and he was obsessed with the smell of it. Just then, a lackey at the door came to report that a customer had arrived. Kasim carelessly told them to let the guest in. He soon realized something was off about the lackey's expression. The man who stepped through the door was extremely tall, with a heavy iron cage over his head. The killing intent coming off him made the air in the room grow heavy. Kasim froze as well. He had never seen anyone this tall. Standing in front of him, the man was like a small mountain, a literal man-eating monster. As an information dealer, he of course recognized that iron cage. It was the lock used to restrain Bone Eater's appetite. With a monster physique like his, Bone Eater was the most dangerous of all the thugs in the neighboring districts. Kasim forced himself to stay calm, politely asking what brought him here, even as his nerves were buzzing. Monsters of this level almost never showed themselves. Why would someone like that come to his tiny shop? Bone Eater handed over a photo. This prisoner, number 182, height 182, missing one arm. Can you help me find him? Kasim examined it carefully and recognized him almost at a glance. Wasn't this the very man Hound was scouring the world for? From the subtle change in his eyes, Bone Eater had already seen it. Kasim had definitely seen 182. Once he was sure the man was looking for 182, Kasim's mind started spinning. A double commission, huh? Pressing down the smile at the corner of his lips, he slowly said, "Actually, we've already started investigating this lead. And this lead doesn't only have you as a buyer. But if you're willing to pay more, I can sell it exclusively to you." He never imagined that Bone Eater's way of thinking wouldn't fit any normal logic at all. "Since you're going to help me find him, your life will be enough payment. I think that's a good deal, don't you?" Kasim almost fell out of his chair. What kind of joke is that? Don't you know attacking information dealers is against the rules of the underworld? Who would risk their life while they're working for a client? Bone Eater didn't listen to a word. He slowly removed the iron cage from his head and licked his lips. "Then I'll just take a little taste of your ear first, see how it feels." Cold sweat instantly slid down Kasim's forehead. Moments later, a shrill scream echoed through the room. On the floor lay a pool of blood, a hat that had been knocked off, and the commission photo. By then, one of Kasim's ears was gone. Bone Eater chewed and made a satisfied sound. Qasim's ear tasted surprisingly good. Over the man's screams, he spoke boldly. Send people to find him immediately. If you don't, I'll eat you whole. With that, he spat out a single earring. On the other side, Kong Dante had not only located the central headquarters on Lychee's hand-drawn map. It was in a prison sector used specifically to hold women. Kong Dante guessed Lychee had probably started drawing the map from there. Speaking of that women's building, Kong Dante suddenly thought of someone. He couldn't help muttering under his breath, I wonder how she's doing now. He remembered she seemed to be called Lala. That day, when they got out of the car, they each headed to different classrooms. Before parting, they'd even agreed to meet again next time. If Kong Dante remembered correctly, Lala, like him, was also a science teacher. She shouldn't have been kidnapped, right? Kong Dante shook his head, trying to shake off the wild thoughts. There's no way everyone is as unlucky as I am. She must be fine. But what he didn't know was that at that very moment, Lala's face was painted like a clown, and she was being re-educated by a group of female prisoners in the women's prison. Her eyes were brimming with tears, and in her mind she kept replaying the moment she had parted ways with Kong Dante. That day, Lala was assigned to the women's prison sector. From the very start, her route had been completely different from the other teachers. A tall agent led the way for her. But Lala's attention had been captured by the phenomenon of the fog outside. For a science teacher, that kind of natural phenomenon was far too tempting, and she never realized that something was wrong. After a while, the agent stopped beside a car and motioned for her to get in. A faint unease rose in Lala's heart. Is my classroom really that far? I have to take a car? But the agent just urged her to hurry up and get in. After a moment's hesitation, she still climbed aboard. At the time, she had no idea she was walking step by step into an abyss. Once the car started moving, the agent casually asked, "You're a science teacher?" When she confirmed it, the agent slowly pulled off her mask. Lala froze, and realized instantly she was done for. The woman in front of her was smiling in a grotesquely twisted way. Her features were so warped they were almost terrifying. She tossed aside her hat, and long hair of gold interwoven with crimson tumbled down. A distorted smile spread across her face. "Little fledgling bird, let's fly to the end of the world together." Lala's mind nearly snapped on the spot. This is like a nightmare? Unfortunately, reality was reality. It wouldn't change in the slightest for her fear. And so, Lala was kidnapped to this infamous women's prison. Back to the present. Lala was being ordered by a group of female prisoners to bend over a table and do various poses. No matter what they said, she had no choice but to obey. Her face was the picture of collapse. In this extreme, dangerous area, she hadn't even seen a trace of any other teacher. Thinking of that, her legs gave out, and she sank into a squat on the floor. Most likely, both the Operations Bureau and her family had already lost all trace of her. In the eyes of the prisoner behind her, this only earned contempt. "You can't even handle standing for a bit?" A black-haired woman suddenly yanked her hair. Crying again, "You idiot? Want another beating?" She shoved Lala to the ground and shouted, "You've ruined the smell of the fog. Maybe I should punish you." Her fury toward Lala came from one thing. In her mind, Lala had stolen her place in the boss's favor. She ground out, "Do you have any talent at all for researching fog? Every day I see you hiding in corners, crying. Just admit you can't produce fog. As long as you admit it, I can go back to the boss's side." Terrified, Lala shook like a leaf, but she knew she could not give in now. Admitting she couldn't make fog would be a death sentence. She bit down on her lips and stayed silent. Seeing that, the black-haired woman grabbed her clothes, and a knife appeared in her hand. "I never believed you could make fog, not from the start. How did trash like you ever earn the boss's trust?" Looking closely, her eyes were milky white. She was blind. Maybe because of that, she harbored a special hatred for pretty faces. She planned to slash Lala's face and make her pay. Lala stared at the knife, her eyes full of terror. "I probably won't escape this time." Just then, a large hand clamped down on the woman's head, and a sharp voice snapped, "Stop. Don't let me ever see something like this again." Everyone jolted. The boss had arrived. A faint sense of relief rose in Lala's heart as well. At least, for now, she was still alive. The boss everyone mentioned was also a woman. But looking at those bulging muscles and that massive frame, she seemed less like a woman and more like a man wearing a woman's skin. The boss patted her underling's head. "Don't you think this joke's going a bit too far? Are you treating me like air?" She walked up to Lala, and her voice suddenly turned gentle. "My dear little bird, what happened? Tell me, and I'll stand up for you." The underling couldn't hold back any longer. "Boss, listen to me, she's been lying to you this whole time. She just admitted she can't produce fog at all." Lala rushed to speak before the boss could respond. "Boss, don't believe her. I can. I can create fog. I've never said I couldn't. She's framing me." The underling had indeed tried to frame her just now, but she was certain of one thing: Lala absolutely could not make fog. "You think we're all idiots?" The boss's face went dark in an instant. "Shut up. Didn't you hear her just say she can create fog? Are your ears deaf? Rebuked, the woman's face twisted with anger. You'll regret this. But the boss couldn't be bothered with her. In her eyes, this underling was nothing. Right now, Lala was the treasure she held in her palm. Come, my little bird. Though Lala was terrified of this woman who was like a giant beast, she didn't dare disobey a single word. On the street, the boss's hearty laughter echoed. My little bird, I was only gone a short while and they bullied you again. They've really gone too far. Back in the room, Lala was scooped right into her arms, like a rag doll. Callie's body was simply too huge. This female boss's name was Callie. She was one of the leaders of the women's department. She was known as a tendon sorcerer, and was said to be able to focus her strength into any part of her body. Normally, she deliberately kept the muscles of her neck tense to guard against sneak attacks. And Lala was the treasure she had personally kidnapped. Ever since she was brought here, Lala had barely spent a moment out of Callie's arms. Every day, Callie clung to her, and there was only one topic: fog. Now, Callie leaned close, a twisted smile spreading across her face. How was the fog research coming along? Smoothly? Last time, she had brought Lala a whole bag of candy, something Lala had once said she needed. Now she asked again, do you need anything else? Seeing Lala hesitate, Callie's expression slowly stiffened. Don't tell me, like Nox said, you can't make fog at all. Lala forced down her fear. If she panicked, she would expose herself. I'm almost done. I just don't have enough time. Nox keeps giving me trouble and holding me back. In truth, she still hadn't even figured out what fog actually was. Her so-called research was nothing more than an excuse to stay alive. Callie sprang to her feet. So all you've been missing is time? Why didn't you say so earlier? Before she even finished, she flung the door open. I'm going to find Nox now. From today on, she won't bother you again. No matter how Lala called after her, Callie never stopped, stomping off down the hall and shouting for Nox to come out and face her. Lala felt her mind go blank. This is bad. She had only wanted to use that excuse to stall for a few days. She hadn't meant to cause such a disaster. Not long after, heavy footsteps sounded outside the door. Seeing Callie return, Lala let out a small breath. Back so soon? You couldn't find Nox? If that were the case, she might still have more time. But the next sentence made her blood run cold. You've got all the time you need now. Nox will never bother you again. Lala's heart clenched. This is between me and Nox. Lady Callie, you didn't need to get involved. I'll talk to her properly. But Callie just lowered her gaze to the floor. Say something, Nox. A head slowly poked out from behind the curtain. Lala instinctively started to relax, but a second later, she realized something was wrong. Callie suddenly grabbed the head like a ball and lifted it up. Now you can focus on producing fog. Nox won't take up a single moment of your time. Lala went rigid. Everyone here is insane. I'm the only normal person. Practically shaking with excitement, Callie burst into crazed laughter. As long as my dear little bird has time, she'll be able to create an endless supply of fog. Wonderful, fog is finally going into mass production. In that moment, Lala completely broke down. She knew that now Nox was dead, her own death wouldn't be far behind. Elsewhere, Kong Dante and 182 were imitating the prisoner's gait as they slowly moved toward Zone Zero's command center. But Kong Dante's exaggerated movements left 182 completely baffled. Kong Dante explained, there's a saying, if you want to hide a tree, hide it in a forest. I'm wearing a white hood and copying how they walk. 182, don't you think I look just like a prisoner now? Without a word, 182 kicked him. Can't you stop breathing so loud? You're annoying. And you walk way too slow, nothing like a normal prisoner. Then he started sulking. I don't want to walk anymore. I'm hungry. We passed 2 cafeterias and you wouldn't let me eat. Kong Dante looked at him helplessly. You're a grown man, and you're throwing a tantrum over food? I told you, the cafeterias are dangerous, too many eyes on us. Right now, 182 was no longer the aimless fool he'd once been, eating when hungry, sleeping when tired, and throwing punches at anyone who provoked him. Since losing his right arm, he could no longer accept every fight, but he also refused to stop moving forward. Kong Dante's words made his eyes widen. Our backs are to a cliff. One more step back and it's a dead end. So the only way is forward. Kong Dante's eyes were more serious than ever. With that, he continued forward with that odd gait, leading 182 step by step closer to the neighboring district's command center. Not long after, 182 and Kong Dante arrived at the first destination of their journey. According to Lychee's map, the medical center was located in Dumpling Village. Kong Dante urged 182, hurry up and go in. The sooner we find the hospital, the sooner we can take care of your hand. In theory, 182 had fought with a doctor here before, so he should have been at least somewhat familiar with the area. But to Kong Dante's surprise, 182 had no memory of this village at all. One thing's for sure though, this isn't Tofu Village. Kong Dante adjusted the glasses under his hood and silently digested this completely useless piece of information. 182 reminded him to be careful once they entered the village. There are some tough people here. The villagers are all hot-tempered too. After they walked for a while, they saw a sign, Dumpling Village. Unlike Tofu Village, the street here had rows of shops on both sides, each one lit by electric lights. The sight made Kong Dante feel as if he were looking at the outside world. Compared to the primitive chaos of Tofu Village, this place's economic system was on a whole different level. He couldn't help being amazed. These prisoners had actually built such a complete economic structure inside a prison. Hiding deep in an alleyway, Kong Dante watched people come and go in the village. It was much busier than he'd imagined. According to the map, these villages were all within some shoulder's sphere of influence. Every shaded area belonged to a different shoulder. But the strange thing was, the medical center they were headed to wasn't included in any territory at all. Maybe that place had long since been forgotten. But the more cut off a place was, the more cautious Kong Dante became. The less anyone watches a place, the more careful you need to be. He beckoned to 182 behind him to duck into the alley. When he turned his head, there was no one there. By then, 182 had already walked into a dumpling shop and casually told the owner, "Give me some dumplings." Kong Dante almost fainted on the spot. How did this guy get into trouble the second I looked away? Wasn't he the one who just said the people here are hard to deal with? The square-faced owner stepped forward to take payment. Here, money meant fog, 0.1 grams per dumpling. 182 said with a straight face, "I don't have a single speck of fog. Do you want my fist?" As soon as he said that, a huge crash shook the shop. But to Kong Dante's surprise, the one being pummeled and rolling around on the floor was 182. As the owner beat him, he yelled, "No money and you want dumplings? Get out of here." The passers-by outside all shot the owner looks of admiration. He was already known as someone not to be messed with. No one had expected someone would dare try to eat his dumplings for free. Kong Dante was on the verge of a breakdown. Great. Now we're officially thieves. What made him want to cough blood was that 182 had no idea he was robbing the place and was still shouting for the owner to hand over the dumplings. The owner's face was dark. "So you want to eat, for free, dumplings that carry Dumpling Village's very soul and history?" In his eyes, 182 was making a joke out of his craftsmanship. Just as 182 was about to blurt out yes, Kong Dante slammed a hand over his mouth. "I'm sorry. I apologize for him. I'll pay for the dumplings. Please don't hold this idiot's behavior against him." The owner snorted. "And who are you? Another thief?" Kong Dante hastily explained, "I'm not a thief. He's my younger brother and he's not right in the head. Please don't take him seriously." The owner wouldn't listen. "So you're not a thief? Then you're a bandit. You're wearing such a suspicious mask. How am I supposed to trust you?" Then he shouted, "In our village, evil people aren't allowed in." He called the villagers over, intending to deal with the pair on the spot. Only then did Kong Dante fully realize 182 had been right. The villagers here really were fierce, and their logic was extremely unique. Just as things were about to spiral out of control, an old man shuffled out and stopped the rampaging owner. The old man's head was round like a dumpling, and he was very short. The moment he appeared, everyone fell silent. He was Dumpling Village's most respected figure, Elder Dumpling, Mongol. Kong Dante's heart sank. A big shot. The elder walked up to Kong Dante and asked gently, "Your brother is sick, isn't he?" Seeing 182's bandaged arm, he figured the man had suffered a serious injury. The dumpling shop owner, however, kept going on about how 182 had tried to steal dumplings. The elder gave a cold little laugh. "Didn't you see he doesn't even have an arm? Tell me then, how exactly is he supposed to steal?" With that, he ignored the owner and turned to the two newcomers. "Come with me." At the elder's shop, they were served several steaming baskets of buns. "Eat slowly. There's plenty more." The elder looked them over. "You both look quite decent. Why wear such villain-looking masks?" Kong Dante gave an awkward laugh. "We don't want to cause unnecessary trouble here. Wearing hoods is actually safer." Watching Kong Dante eat with gusto, 182 kept opening his mouth, motioning to be fed. Kong Dante paid him no attention and carefully savored his bun instead. "This is pretty good. What's in the filling?" When he heard the filling came from leftovers from the cafeteria, he immediately sprayed a mouthful all over the elder's face. In the next second, he dumped all the remaining buns into 182's mouth. "Just thinking about something made from wilted greens and leftover soup makes me sick. You can have it." The elder had a remarkably good temper and took no offense at Kong Dante's rudeness. "Our dumplings and buns are famous across the region. Many people travel from far away just for a taste." He paused, then went on. "Of course, not everyone comes just for the dumplings. Some come for something else. The hospital." 182 was still stretching his mouth wide, completely oblivious to the look of shock on Kong Dante's face. The whole point of their trip was to find this hospital. Seeing his reaction, the elder smiled. "I'm guessing you're here for the hospital too? If that's the case, I advise you to stop here." Cold sweat slid down Kong Dante's forehead. "Is there something terrifying in that hospital?" The elder slowly rolled up his sleeves, revealing arms covered in scars. It's not a hospital anymore. Now we call it Demon King Castle. Dante couldn't help swallowing hard. The name alone said enough. Now, Demon King Castle still looked like a hospital from the outside, but it was surrounded by thorns and wire. Almost no one who entered ever came out again. In Dumpling Village, it was a strictly forbidden zone. Meanwhile, back at the information broker's base, they had spent the day compiling all the data collected by the information dealers. The table in front of them listed every prisoner in Fogland. The Fogland system recycles the numbers of deceased prisoners and reassigns them to new ones. So a single number might appear on two different people. This system had been running for decades. But according to the records, the prisoner with the number 182 had long been marked as dead. For the decades since then, the number 182 had never been reassigned, so none of the information brokers had any idea where this white-haired guy had come from. One of them guessed maybe he had just picked up a dead man's number tag. There were plenty of people who liked to steal rare number tags. The boss of the information network didn't agree, though, because he'd heard Hound say that when 182 joined the sweet potato class, he received new clothes. That meant the prisoner number had to be real, otherwise, he could never have been issued a new uniform. That statement made the two underlings jump. Pointing at the photo, one of them said slowly, "If he didn't die decades ago, wouldn't he look way too young now? That's insane. Did he get some ability that lets him stay young forever?" The boss's face darkened. That was impossible. No one had ever stayed young forever. He racked his brains. The system had been updating for decades, long enough for any information dealer to have heard something, yet no matter how they searched, all they could find were scraps of basic data. So he had two theories. First, that the administration had hidden 182 away, which would be easy enough for them to do. But the second theory was far more disturbing. If the administration hadn't tampered with 182's identity at all, then this man was far more mysterious than he'd imagined. The boss's leading guess was that 182 might be a monster that had appeared at the same time as Fogland itself. Back to Demon King Castle. Its horror came from a single man who lived inside. He was like a demon god, stationed within that building. The scars on the elder's arm were that man's handiwork. I suggest you don't even go near it. So far, I've never seen anyone walk out of there alive. A possibility flashed through Dante's mind. Could that man be a shoulder? The elder shot the idea down immediately. He's not a shoulder. Then the elder's expression turned grave. You probably don't know, even the shoulders don't dare step into Demon King Castle. Hearing that, Dante's heart clenched, and cold sweat soaked his back. What kind of monster could be living in that place? Then he suddenly remembered why he'd come. If there's no doctor, then won't 182's hand be ruined for good? The elder shook his head. The doctor you're looking for isn't here. That's all I can tell you. In any case, leave as soon as it's light. I'll arrange a room for you tonight. Dante's mood crashed. So, the so-called doctor has already died in there? Or did this demon king kill all the doctors? Soon after, they were given a simple room. Dante frowned. I really don't know what to do now. The hospital's become Demon King Castle. We can't get in at all. And from the sound of it, there's no doctor inside. He lifted his head to look at 182. When exactly did you see a doctor there? 182 thought for a bit. Before, Dante felt a fresh stab of pain in his temples. Be specific. When? What was the hospital like back then? What happened? Tell me everything. 182 tilted his head, trying hard to recall. My hand got cut off. Dante's breath hitched. The doctor cut it off? Back then, 182's arm had been severed. Blood wouldn't stop pouring out. His head was spinning, and he was starving. He staggered into the hospital looking for help. A doctor came to meet him, and 182 immediately felt hopeful, blurting out, "Doctor, make me a new arm." At that point, Dante broke in. You really said it just like that? And then? What did the doctor say? After thinking hard, 182 answered, I think he swore at me, something really filthy. Idiot, why don't you teach me how to make you a new arm, you damn white hair? Dante actually found that reaction reasonable. Even with advanced tech, we're nowhere near casually building arms. At the time, 182 got furious and started hitting the doctor. Cold sweat beaded on Dante's forehead. Shouldn't you have been stopping the bleeding and bandaging yourself? How did you have the energy to fight? How does your brain even work? After that, it turned into a full-on brawl, fists and kicks from both sides, neither willing to back down. Dante had assumed the doctor in Demon King Castle must have died by 182's hand. An ordinary person couldn't possibly withstand his punches. But 182's answer was not what he expected. He hadn't killed the doctor. Instead, the doctor had pinned 182 to the ground and beaten him senseless, to the point where he couldn't even fight back. Thinking of it now, 182 ground his teeth. This time, I'm getting even. Dante quickly stopped him. Who are you going to fight now? Calm down. We're here to find a doctor, not to challenge a demon king. And the elder already said the doctor isn't in the hospital anymore. But 182 was very sure. The doctor's in Demon King Castle. Of course I'm going there to fight him. Why are you stopping me? Kong Dante blinked. How do you know the doctor's still alive, and that he's in Demon King Castle? 182 pointed at his own ear. I heard him. I'm 100% sure. The moment they'd stepped into Dumpling Village, 182 had picked up the sound of scissors clinking, the sound of surgical scissors. At the same time, in a certain room in Demon King Castle, a hand was spinning a pair of scissors. By the window, a black figure stood with hands clasped behind his back. This man was the doctor 182 had spoken of. Early the next morning, Kong Dante brought 182 to the outside of Demon King Castle. The ground was stained with blood everywhere. Looking up, they saw an old, broken sign that read Medical Center. Bodies lay scattered all over the ground, some already dried into mummies under the sun, ones that had been there longer reduced to bare bones. The elder hadn't exaggerated. This place was no longer a hospital at all. It was hell itself. You really hear the doctor in there? Kong Dante asked again. 182 snapped. Didn't I just say I can hear him? You keep asking and asking, it's annoying. That detail, however, made Kong Dante strangely excited. 182's hearing is far beyond normal. He had only truly realized it last night. At the time, he hadn't understood why 182 could hear sounds no one else could. 182 couldn't explain it either. I just hear it. Can you explain why you can see things? In his mind, hearing sounds was simply natural. Pushed by Kong Dante's repeated questions, 182 got so irritated he finally just threw out an I don't know. Only then did Kong Dante realize, could it be that after eating so much fog, 182 awakened some sort of hearing ability? 182 himself was utterly confused. I've never had any kind of talent. Kong Dante rejected that. No way. You ate that much fog, and now you can hear what no one else can. Isn't that an auditory talent? No wonder he always complained that Kong Dante was noisy. It was because his hearing was too sharp. To confirm it, Kong Dante deliberately covered his mouth and whispered a curse, using almost nothing but breath. The sound was so faint even he could barely hear it. But 182 instantly snapped his head around and glared at him. Goosebumps rose all over Kong Dante. He can't be messing with me, right? He was about to say more when 182 lightly kicked him in the chest. If I hadn't held back, you'd be dead already. That was exactly why Kong Dante now stood before Demon King Castle, eyes full of both shock and delight. This was undeniably a kind of ability that only appeared in Fogland. Staring at the creepy building, Kong Dante couldn't even tell whether to call it a hospital or Demon King Castle. They soon reached the main entrance. Just as 182 was about to swagger straight in, Kong Dante yanked him over to the wall. You idiot, don't just rush in. Come here first, let's go over the plan. The two of them hid by the doorway and peered inside with half their heads. From the outside, the door indeed looked like the main entrance. Since 182 could hear any sound from within, Kong Dante had set up a reconnaissance plan for him, something they had rehearsed the night before. To keep him from forgetting, Kong Dante had him repeat it. Knock first, then hide immediately. If the one who comes out isn't the doctor, grab the teacher and run. 182 recited it crisply, which made Kong Dante unexpectedly pleased. His IQ really does seem to have gone up. They even gave the operation a loud name, the Knock Observe Retreat Plan. The reason Kong Dante had 182 alone on the front line was that he believed 182 not only had super hearing, but was also incredibly fast, no slower than Rambutan. Does he have two abilities? Kong Dante hid behind the wall, focused on the entrance ahead. 182 would probe, while he gathered intel from a position of zero risk. Soon, 182 walked up to the door and tapped it lightly with his foot a few times. Then he shot back like a gust of wind to hide beside Kong Dante. They leaned out together to watch. The doorway remained completely still. No sound, 182 said. Kong Dante, puzzled, told him to try again, this time with more force. So 182 went to the door again and kicked the panel hard a few times, then flashed back to hide behind Kong Dante. But the inside was still dead silent, not even a hint of movement. Could the whole building be empty? Then where did the doctor's voice you heard come from? As Kong Dante was wondering, 182 suddenly charged in. Get back here. Don't be so reckless. But this time was different. The moment 182's foot touched the door, the entire door flew off its hinges. With a boom, the whole building shook. Inwardly, Kong Dante cursed like crazy. He's way too impulsive. This is Demon King Castle. By the time he looked up again, 182 was gone from the entrance. Clearly, that figure had already rushed inside to challenge the doctor. Kong Dante could only call out quietly, 182, you can hear me, right? Come out, quick. I'm kind of scared out here alone. No sooner had he spoken than 182 did appear, but only because someone had kicked him flying out from inside. He tumbled several times across the ground before finally coming to a stop. The sheer force of that single blow was enough to shock Kong Dante. This doctor's combat strength is at least on par with 182's. He looked up toward the door. A blurred figure was slowly stepping out of the shadows. Is that the Demon King himself? 1 step, 2 steps. On his feet, clean white shoes. On his legs, dark blue pants. In his hand, a pair of scissors kept spinning. Kong Dante froze completely. Not at all what I imagined. A low voice drifted over. You damn white hair. Was last time's lesson not enough? You dare come back for another beating? The man before them was the very Dr. 182 had spoken of. Who could have imagined that the most terrifying thing in the Demon King's castle was not the monsters, but that doctor in a white coat? A monster-level fighter like 182 was actually kicked flying more than 10 meters by him. This scene stunned Kong Dante on the spot. 182, absurdly strong as he was, had actually been sent flying. At that moment, the doctor began walking toward them, step by step, slowly. 182 let out a cold laugh. After so long, I finally get to see you again. The doctor stared at 182 with confusion, not taking his eyes off him. The last time I saw you, your arm was injured. This time your arm is injured again? Are you here to see a doctor? 182 raised his hand slightly, making his meaning obvious. Yes, he wanted him to reattach his arm. The doctor gave 182 only 3 seconds and told him to get the hell out immediately. Kong Dante lowered his voice and said to 182, what you said just now was too rude. You need to lower your attitude, or he won't treat your arm. But 182 ignored him completely and directly ordered the doctor to fix his arm quickly, or he would not be able to fight. The doctor burst out laughing. What makes you think I should fix his arm? 182's answer was just as straightforward. It hurts. The doctor raised his hand and hooked at 182's mask, asking whether he had brought any fog. Kong Dante's heart sank. This was bad. The fog had long since been eaten up by 182. The doctor began mocking him coldly. Do you think you deserve to be treated like a person? 182, you little criminal. 182 shot back. Aren't you a doctor? Isn't saving people your duty? So what? That means I have to save you? I can treat you, sure, but I have no obligation to. Hearing this, 182 completely exploded and kicked toward the doctor's lower abdomen, only to have it blocked by the doctor's raised hand. Kong Dante was shocked. Why did you two suddenly start fighting? While exchanging blows with 182, the doctor replied to Kong Dante, of course this was going to turn into a fight. I know 182 too well. This is just his style. The next second, the doctor swept a kick across, and 182 bent down to dodge it. He had long since seen how rude 182 could be. The aftershock of that kick even sent Kong Dante flying, which made the doctor's strength easy to imagine. The next second, the doctor's foot stopped directly above 182's head. He neither moved it away nor brought it down. He was humiliating him to his face. The doctor continued taunting 182, so if you're injured, you can't fight anymore? Get up and keep fighting. Weren't you acting arrogant before? Those words made 182 tremble with rage. He spun in place and kicked the doctor in the stomach. But at that very instant, the doctor grabbed 182's leg tightly with both hands. The doctor's eyes shone with excitement, battle intent surging. You really are something. Then he slammed 182 hard onto the ground. At this point, Kong Dante had already stopped trying to interfere, because there was no way he could stop these two. Grabbing 182 by the foot, the doctor slowly said, 182, what do you plan to do now? By this point, the doctor had completely locked down 182's leg, and 182 could not get up at all. You cripple, what can you do now? Can you still hit me? But what the doctor did not expect was that 182's leg hooked around his neck in return. At that moment, although their posture was bizarre, their fighting spirit had already reached its limit. The next second, 182 bit down on the doctor's neck. Immediately after, the doctor revealed a look of disbelief, because 182 had clamped onto his shoulder with his teeth and would not let go no matter what. At that moment, 182's bite force sank directly into the muscle of the doctor's arm. The doctor only grew more excited. Interesting. It's been a long time since I've been this excited. Right after that, the doctor struck 182 in the neck, forcing him to let go. 182 felt a stinging pain in his neck, and his body began to tremble slightly. Then came his thigh, then his waist. The doctor did not spare a single one of 182's vital points. In just a few seconds, the doctor stabbed 182 more than a dozen times. After taking that round of attacks, 182 immediately pulled away from the doctor. But he quickly sensed that something was wrong. The places the doctor had attacked just now hurt so badly they were numb, and he could hardly use any strength. The next second, 182's body dropped heavily to its knees. The doctor laughed excitedly. I've severed your lines of strength. You can't stand up anymore. After saying that, the doctor smugly flicked the scissors in his hand. Then he suddenly tightened his grip on the scissors. Originally, he had planned to finish 182 in 3 seconds. 182 had turned out tougher than he expected, but that did not change the outcome. Just as the doctor was about to end 182 with a single strike, Kong Dante suddenly lunged forward and pinned 182 to the ground. The doctor frowned. You little runt dare to block the fight between us? Kong Dante stood in front of 182 and pleaded urgently, Doctor, calm down. We're not here to fight. We're here to ask for your help. The doctor sneered. A guy like you who hides like an insect dares to step out too? Kong Dante explained. Because I wasn't sure whether this hospital was legitimate, I didn't dare show myself. The doctor angrily questioned Kong Dante. Why are you looking for a doctor? Wouldn't it be better to let them die in pain? Kong Dante panicked inside. He could feel that this doctor was extremely hostile toward prisoners. Kong Dante directly said that he was not a prisoner, and those words made the doctor pause instead. To prove it, Kong Dante showed him his eyeball. He hasn't even eaten fog. He's a normal person. After hearing that, the doctor did calm down. Looking at that eyeball, he really did seem like a 100% ordinary person. But that only made him more confused. Why would an ordinary person appear here? This was not a place ordinary people should come. Kong Dante began talking about his experience. There used to be a prisoner education program, and I was one of the participating teachers. Later, a riot broke out, and I got trapped here. To appear more sincere, Kong Dante knelt directly in front of the doctor. You're the doctor here, right? I really need you to save 182. The doctor burst out laughing after hearing that, and Kong Dante could tell from his expression, he did not believe him at all. So to prove his innocence, Kong Dante held out his tie. You can tell this is a designer brand, right? A top Italian suit accessory. Do you think something like this can be found in prison? Only then did the doctor ask him, how exactly did he want his help? Kong Dante immediately patted 182 on the head. Call the administration bureau first, and if you have time, help treat this person for me too. Looking at 182, the doctor sneered. Could it be that this guy next to you, number 182, is also a teacher? 182 moved his mouth, but not because he wanted to speak, it was because the doctor had hit him so hard that his facial muscles were out of control. Hearing the doctor say that, Kong Dante fell silent for a moment. Then he pointed at 182. I'm the science teacher, and he's a teacher too. He's the PE teacher. Meanwhile, the information broker's place was already packed with people, all of them Bone Eater subordinates. And standing in front of the intelligence boss was one person. That person was Bone Eater, the one who had bitten off the boss's ear before. The agreed time is up. Where's the information I wanted? The intelligence boss lowered his voice. I don't think we agreed on a fixed date, right? But Bone Eater was not listening at all. Do you want me to have another taste of your ear? After hearing that, the intelligence boss fell silent. He could not afford to provoke the man in front of him. Left with no choice, he handed over the information he had gathered to Bone Eater. 182 is in Dumpling Village. They found the witness from Dumpling Village before. Hearing that, Bone Eater laughed excitedly. He was already unable to wait to get a taste of 182. The next second, Bone Eater shoved the door open and rushed out, heading straight for Dumpling Village. After he left, a subordinate stepped forward and asked, is this really okay? You just gave away high-level intelligence for free, the kind even Hound is looking for? I can't help it. I can't beat him. The subordinate urged the boss to use his brain. If he touched you, how could the other forces possibly ignore it? Besides, you're still the only fog agent distributor in the whole district. But the boss did not care at all. Didn't you hear his stomach growling? Sometimes you need to use your brain, but sometimes, there's no need at all. He told his subordinate that they absolutely must not provoke cannibals from now on. The underlings did not understand. The unspoken rules between factions, and the boundaries drawn by management, simply could not restrain Bone Eater. That guy Bone Eater doesn't care about anything. At this moment, Bone Eater's subordinates swarmed after him and charged toward Dumpling Village. And Bone Eater was running at the very front, with the most excited expression of all. In Fogland, the only thing that could command him was hunger. On the other side, in order to get the doctor to save 182, Kong Dante directly knelt and begged him. Afterward, the doctor brought them into the interior of the Demon King's castle. When Kong Dante saw the scene inside, his whole body froze on the spot. The walls were badly damaged, and spider webs were everywhere. He suspected the doctor had never cleaned this place. Even the scrap toll station outside was 10 times cleaner than here. The thought of 182 having surgery here made Kong Dante even more uneasy. Just then, he heard movement behind him. When he turned around, the doctor was already standing behind him. The doctor had changed into green clothes and was wearing white gloves on his hands. Kong Dante immediately moved aside so the doctor could begin the operation. The doctor also reminded him not to touch anything, in case he got bacteria on the instruments. Next, the surgery officially began. They introduced themselves to each other, and only then did Kong Dante learn that the doctor's name was Heiran. Looking at 182 lying on the hospital bed, Kong Dante felt a little tense inside. He quietly comforted 182, it won't be long before you get better. At this point the doctor was clearly displeased. He's obviously a PE teacher, so why is he so aggressive? Every time it's like he wants to kill someone, and he doesn't seem quite right in the head. Sweat appeared at Kong Dante's temples. What right do you have to talk about 182? You're no less aggressive than he is. At that moment, Heiran lowered his voice and said to Kong Dante, The thing you asked me to help with earlier may be a bit difficult. As for contacting the administration bureau, he could not help Kong Dante with that. The next second, Heron's words sent a chill down Kong Dante's back. He said that he was the same as Kong Dante. He too was someone trapped here. Kong Dante told him to wait a moment. Explain yourself clearly. What exactly is going on? The doctor picked up a scalpel, his tone slow as a blade. For years ago, he too had been an intern sent in from outside, and his profession was doctor. Many people had come in that time, including quite a few famous doctors. Like them, Heron had received special orders and come here to take up his post. But those people all died, and one criminal escaped. As for the people who survived, only Heron remained as a doctor. Kong Dante felt as if his whole worldview was about to shatter. Did no one come to save you? Heron gave a cold laugh. Rescue? There's no such thing. If rescue really existed, how could he have been trapped in this hellhole for 4 whole years? Kong Dante urged him to calm down. There had to be a reason. Maybe the fog made rescue difficult. The doctor turned his head, his voice even colder. How could it possibly be the fog? Haven't you seen them even once? The people from the administration bureau? The doctor's expression had turned ugly to the extreme, as if the hatred reached his bones. They all wear gas masks whenever they go out. Don't you understand that there's filth in this fog? It's not that they can't find us. It's that it's fundamentally impossible for them to come look for us. Hearing that, Kong Dante's heart sank completely. Heron had been here for 4 years. He definitely knew more than Kong Dante did. Kong Dante had been too naive before. At this moment, Kong Dante sat by the door of the operating room, waiting for the surgery to end. He recalled the scene when they first came in. The moment they arrived here, the fog had spread everywhere. At the time, they had no protection at all and inhaled quite a lot of the fog there. Back then, it would have been impossible for them to have gas masks. No wonder those soldiers were wrapped up so tightly. It turned out there were gas masks inside their helmets. The doctor said he was the same as Kong Dante, also sent by the administration bureau. But all the doctors who had been sent with Heron had died, and that was hard for Kong Dante to believe. If that person back then really was from the administration bureau, then all of this, had it been planned from the very beginning? Kong Dante thought of that sweet potato fitted over the cup. The water in the cup was the fog, and he himself was only sediment in the fog, unable to get out at all. Looking back, it really was suspicious. At the time, someone had approached Kong Dante carrying the identity of the Federal Intelligence Bureau. This time, they had come specifically to visit Kong Dante. At the time, Kong Dante still did not understand. What do you want with me? That fat man did not get to the point right away and only made small talk first. Your family is pretty well off. Aren't you the son of the famous Dr. Kong? Your family used to be far wealthier than this place. Kong Dante said that was not his money. He had left the family long ago. Had his parents or older brother sent him to find him? That man gave Kong Dante a sidelong glance. He said they had come specifically to see Kong Dante himself this time. I heard you refused to inherit your father's research and chose to teach children instead, to be a teacher. Very noble. Kong Dante felt a little uncomfortable from the praise. The man continued to flatter him. You gave up opportunity and conditions to choose your own path, even though you have such excellent genes. Those words made Kong Dante freeze. Had someone finally understood him? Then the man slid a contract across the table. You're the talent we've been looking for a long time. Do you want to work with us? Kong Dante glanced over the contract. The title read, Prisoner Education Program. Then that thin man explained, this was a United Nations international prison, and they hoped Kong Dante would be responsible for prisoner education over the long term. Kong Dante's eyes widened. A correctional facility? The man smiled. A place like a prison makes it hard for people to dream. So we need a teacher like you, capable and sharp-minded. Kong Dante smiled too. You don't need to praise me that highly. I don't think being a teacher is any less respectable than my background. The man seemed to see that he was about to agree, and pointed at him. That is your greatness. A Mr. Dante like you, I believe, can sow the seeds of hope. Whether that place is heaven or hell, you can become a great person. Meanwhile, in the operating room, the doctor also began the surgery. The rules were still the same. No anesthesia could be used here, because there simply was no anesthesia. 182 did not respond. At this moment, his consciousness was already blurred. So the doctor cut directly into him. Every injured area would be dealt with all at once. In the next moment, the doctor's eyes flew open, and his pupils suddenly contracted. The scalpel moved as if dancing, so fast it left after images. The doctor's eyes seemed able to see through 182's body. No matter where the injury was, he could locate it precisely and then repair it. In just 15 short minutes, the doctor's hands kept cutting without pause, while 182 had long since fainted. For 182, fainting was the best anesthesia. Not long after, the doctor stopped. All of 182's injuries had been treated. He only needed a few days of rest. Even the calf muscle that had been injured most severely had been repaired by him. The doctor twirled the scalpel. Done. Work's over. He waited a while, and seeing that 182 did not react, he raised his hand and slapped him. You useless bastard, you actually passed out. Then the doctor moved around to 182's right side. Kong Dante had said that 182's hand was fractured. He looked carefully at that pale hand. It was badly swollen. The doctor directly cut into 182's hand with the knife. I'll open it up and take a look, alright? At that moment, 182 happened to wake up, but he did not say a single word. The small blade slowly slid into 182's arm. It'll hurt a little, bear with it. 182's eyes trembled continuously. For him, this surgery was practically hell. Then 182's hand bone was completely exposed, and the broken bones were clearly visible. The flesh of the hand had almost been torn open. Even the doctor was stunned when he saw the injury. A comminuted fracture, and it had continued tearing after the injury. What on earth had you done? After that, the doctor first treated the soft tissue, beginning to remove the bone fragments. But he quickly realized something was wrong. Those fragments were actually connected together. The next moment, the doctor's pupils shrank sharply. He saw an unbelievable scene. Those fragments were returning to their original positions on their own. He was so startled that he directly took off his mask, feeling that this surgery was simply unnecessary. Outside the operating room, the large door slowly opened. Seeing the doctor come out, Kong Dante immediately stood up and pressed him, asking whether the surgery was over. But the next second, Kong Dante sensed that something was wrong, and his eyes widened little by little. At that moment, 182 was also staring straight at him. The doctor came out slowly with 182 slung over his shoulder. The doctor's eyes were full of fury. Do you have a death wish? You actually had me treat a prisoner. Didn't Kong Dante say he was a PE teacher? Kong Dante's heart sank. This was bad. The doctor was about to erupt any second now. Kong Dante asked the doctor where he was going, and the doctor said coldly, to throw 182 out. He immediately ran after him, trying to stop him. We can talk this out, don't do this. But the doctor's next words nailed Kong Dante in place. Stop lying to me. He's been here a long time already. There are residues left in his body. Kong Dante could no longer explain it away. 182's secret had been seen through by him. The next second, he directly flung 182's body out. Kong Dante's anger instantly flared up. How can you be so unreasonable? No matter what, he's still a patient. You're a doctor. This is too much. Immediately after, the doctor grabbed Kong Dante by the collar. Now it was the doctor's turn to interrogate Kong Dante. I don't understand what you're trying to do. Are you really a teacher? Why are you mixed up with prisoners? Kong Dante said that 182 had saved him many times, that this person was worth trusting. And besides, he would need 182's help in the future too. The doctor let out a cold laugh. You actually trust a prisoner? Looks like you still haven't tasted what this place is really like. Kong Dante's eyes were pleading. He only hoped the doctor could heal 182. He's not just a prisoner now. He's my companion too. Alone, I can't do anything here. I need someone to rely on, and 182 is the most suitable. After hearing Kong Dante's words, the doctor finally let go. But the doctor's thinking was completely different from Kong Dante's. In this hellhole, no one could be trusted. He advised Kong Dante not to run around. Rather than wander everywhere and get killed for no reason, it was better to stay put and behave. He gave Kong Dante a condition. If you're willing, I can let you stay here, and I can guarantee your safety. But there is one thing. That prisoner brat absolutely cannot stay here. Kong Dante's chest tightened. Then he hoisted the injured 182 onto his back and walked out of the Demon King's castle. Even now, he still did not understand. How exactly had 182's identity been exposed during the treatment? At that moment, Kong Dante noticed 182's saliva dripping onto his head, while he was still muttering nonsense through slurred speech. The next second, the drool streamed down like a waterfall, and Kong Dante became even more certain. The doctor must have done something to 182. Immediately after, the two of them rolled down from a height like stones. Kong Dante yelled until his voice cracked. Who builds the entrance on a slope like this? That doctor definitely has something wrong with his head. Kong Dante told 182 to throw away the luggage, or the burden would be too heavy. But 182 clutched the bag tightly. My stuff is inside. I absolutely can't throw it away. Kong Dante was on the verge of collapse. Can you think of me for once? You're still not cooperating even now. Kong Dante raised his hand and pointed at the Demon King's castle. For you, I gave up staying at the hospital. The doctor even said just now that he would keep me safe. 182 found him noisy. Wasn't it safe enough when you were with me before? If you stick with me, can I protect you too? Kong Dante only felt like he was talking to a wall. He forced himself to calm down. He could not keep arguing with 182. The most important thing now was to leave quickly. The next second, Kong Dante raised his hand and slapped himself. He thought that would cool his head and help him think of a plan. But when Kong Dante looked up, he actually saw Elder Dumpling. What are you two doing here? Kong Dante's mind filled with question marks. How had this old man gotten here? Wasn't he most afraid of the Demon King's castle? An hour and a half later, they arrived at the dumpling shop. The elder let Kong Dante and 182 stay there first. You have nowhere else to go right now, so this is the best choice. I told you long ago that you absolutely must not go to that hospital in the Demon King's castle. Now you know how bad it is, right? Kong Dante understood that Elder Dumpling meant well, but the situation was urgent, and he had to get 182's hand treated. When Elder Dumpling saw 182's miserable state, he sucked in a cold breath. A person who had originally been healthy now could not even walk. What exactly did you go through? Just then, a trace of surprise flashed across Elder Dumpling's face. He stared at the bandages on 182's hand, which looked much smaller than before. He turned to Kong Dante. Could it be that the doctor in the Demon King's castle treated him? Kong Dante said, you can't really call it cured. The treatment only got halfway done before he threw him out. But looking at 182's injuries, Kong Dante was also briefly stunned. The bandages on 182's hand looked as though they had been replaced with fresh ones, and that made even less sense to Kong Dante. Could it be that after the doctor discovered 182 was a prisoner, he still finished the treatment anyway? At that thought, a drop of cold sweat slid down Kong Dante's cheek. He could not read that doctor at all. Elder Dumpling said, that doctor never treats prisoners. Kong Dante looked at Elder Dumpling. You know him well? Why didn't you say there was a doctor there, and instead deliberately call it the Demon King's castle? It turned out Elder Dumpling simply did not want prisoners going there to disturb the doctor. It was not that he had deliberately concealed it, only that it really was something from a long time ago, back when that place actually was a hospital. Everyone knew that Fogland was a garbage dump, and the people gathered there were treated like worthless trash. Once, a group of people had been stationed in that hospital building. And because they were there, the prisoners of Dumpling Village had a chance to get some illnesses treated. They did not care whether the patients were prisoners, and instead looked after them even more seriously and responsibly. When those doctors looked at them, there was no prejudice. So their sincerity slowly changed the villagers' attitudes. Elder Dumpling also often went to the hospital to bring them dumplings. And the doctor back then was their person in charge, and also the one with the greatest medical skill. At the mention of dumplings, the doctor at that time immediately perked up. But he also asked, he had only operated on Elder Dumpling not long ago, so why had he come back to make dumplings again? You need to rest properly. Elder Dumpling smiled and nodded. Thank you so much. The doctor walked over to Elder Dumpling and checked his hand. He twisted the elder's wrist a little and found nothing wrong. It had recovered well. The elder seized the chance to flatter him. Of course, you were the one who did the operation. My hand was fine the very day I left the hospital. Isn't that amazing? The doctor knew he was joking and smiled too, but still told him to move his wrist less. From then on, the people of Dumpling Village seemed to adopt a different way of living. To thank the doctors, they collected scrap and sent it over. But some fools also treated fog as a gift and sent that too. At first there was not much fog, but as time passed, more and more fog piled up. And those things became the root of disaster, eventually leading to a tragedy. The energy of the fog attracted other prisoners to come seize it, and the villagers did not learn that something had happened until the next day. They immediately began searching everywhere for the doctor's whereabouts. When Elder Dumpling found the doctor, he was completely horrified. At that time, the doctor's body had been torn to pieces, with only half a breath left in him. The elder immediately called people over to bandage and treat him. No matter what, they had to save him. But the doctor told him to get lost, leaving the elder stunned on the spot. Then the doctor's ruined body slowly stood up, and he was still holding a knife. He roared at those things, "You monsters, get the hell away from me." Seeing that scene, the elder instantly understood. The heart of this doctor had already broken. Meanwhile, the doctor sat alone in the Demon King's castle, eating canned food. Everything that had happened today made his mood sink into a heavy tangle. He had broken his principles for the first time and actually treated a prisoner's injuries. The doctor's memories were pried open layer by layer. Can they even eat garbage made from food? But those people did not care at all. What garbage was that supposed to be? It was made from leftover ingredients carefully picked clean. Having something to eat was already enough. A companion said to the doctor, "You should say something nice too. It'll help the patients feel better." The doctor glanced at the fog behind him. He did not know what use those blue spheres had, but those prisoners kept bringing them to him as if they could not understand. But others had heard rumors saying the stuff could bring a person some kind of talent. But the strange thing was, why could this stuff not be recycled? Prisoners kept getting poisoned, and things outside seemed to be spiraling out of control too, when the woman beside him told him to stop talking. Then the woman raised her hand and pointed ahead. Beside these doctors stood a person wearing a mask, responsible for guarding this place. They did not understand why it had to be like this, but since it was arranged by the World Union, there had to be some reason. The director urged them to hurry up and eat. If he required it, then there was certainly a reason. They just did not need to know it. Just then, the doctor and his companions heard urgent shouts coming from outside. One doctor rushed in. An emergency just arrived outside. Stop eating and come at once. As soon as the patient was brought in, the doctors immediately checked his pulse. But the patient's condition was critical. They had to increase the dopamine injection and then check his pupillary response. Then the doctors discovered in horror, the man's eyeball seemed to be gone, and the equipment here simply could not save him. The director flew into a rage on the spot. What kind of nonsense are you saying in front of a living man? Do whatever you can do and bring him back to me. The patient was pushed into the operating room, and the director told the doctor to come in too. The doctor froze. This time, they actually wanted him to assist as lead surgeon as well. The surgical lamp soon lit up, its cold white light so oppressive it was hard to breathe. They discovered that the patient had lost a huge amount of blood, and the blood bags were nearly empty. Worse still, his skin tissue had been crushed so badly it had nearly collapsed. If this continued, they would not even be able to find the bleeding points. At that moment, the doctor instantly snatched the scalpel from the director's hand. This is the facial artery. I'll cut in from here. The director was stunned. He had not expected that. Without anyone noticing, the doctor's skill had already improved to this extent. Under the doctor's continued emergency treatment, the patient's various readings finally stabilized. The patient was then sent to a ward to rest. The doctor collapsed wearily into a chair. Since arriving at this hospital, this was the first major surgery he had performed, and it had nearly drained the life out of him. But the director was even more surprised. How did you find those arteries? The tissue was all crushed. They were impossible to distinguish. Even the doctor himself could not explain it clearly. I don't know why either. I can tell where they are with just one look. The director showed a gratified expression. You've always been like this, with very strong focus. Nothing can distract you. The doctor felt a little embarrassed, since he had seized the director's scalpel without permission. But the director did not mind. An emergency did not count as overstepping, and today they had been co-lead surgeons to begin with. The director praised him. Well done. You dragged that man back from the gates of hell. In the future, do not give up on any patient lightly. I have a feeling that one day you will become a great doctor. But not long after they saved that patient, the accident happened. The doctor looked ahead with a face full of pain. The director was already dead. His head was being gripped in one hand by that patient. The doctor collapsed to the ground in terror. He could not understand. Why would he do something like this? That man coldly said, "It was you who locked me in prison again." The doctor was almost scared senseless. In that man's eyes, staying alive was physical torment, so everyone before him deserved to die. That huge hand slowly reached toward the doctor. Just before crushing the doctor's head, he said in a low voice, "Do you want to awaken too?" He wanted the doctor to have a taste of it as well. Being alive was itself a punishment. Every time the doctor thought of this, he trembled with hatred. The prisoners in this place all deserved to die. At this moment, the doctor's gaze fell on that package. On the other side, Kong Dante and 182 were still in Dumpling Village. 182 smacked his lips. "I'm so hungry. I want food." Kong Dante answered coldly, "Where is there any food here? You really have no sense at all." Kong Dante looked at Elder Dumpling. "Sir, you said that back then you left in a mad rage and didn't come back even once for 2 years. So how did that doctor survive until now?" Elder Dumpling said there had still been a lot of food in the hospital, enough for him to last a long time. What Kong Dante was thinking was this: before the doctor completely lost control, could he maybe still be persuaded? After all, he and the villagers did share old ties. But Elder Dumpling looked full of sorrow. "Now it seems we aren't even as good as outsiders. 1A2 being treated was probably because you are outsiders. There's nothing left for us to do." Someone behind him asked, "Grandpa, if outsiders can be treated, does that mean we can be saved too?" Elder Dumpling could not answer either. Maybe the doctor had changed. Or maybe he was punishing them. In any case, he did not want to care anymore, so the doctor could do as he pleased. Kong Dante felt that the doctor really had changed, because he had asked him whether he wanted to be trapped here forever, and the doctor had said, yes. Kong Dante could not understand it. No matter how hard it was, they had to find a way to leave. If the doctor were willing to help me, many things would be different. He knows more than I do. Rather than wasting my life like this, I'd rather stake everything on my goal. 1A2 lay on the bed and cast him a cold glance, as if looking at an idiot. Why should anyone risk their life for you? 1A2 called Kong Dante a complete idiot. Kong Dante also felt that 1A2 was nothing but trouble. It was because of 1A2 that things had escalated into a complete falling out with the doctor. Kong Dante told 1A2 to apologize, but 1A2's face instantly darkened. Are you crazy? He hit me first, and you're still telling me to apologize? Do you really take me for an idiot? At this moment, 1A2's expression was very complicated, as though he were suppressing sadness, and also something he could not bring himself to say. Kong Dante was shaken by what he saw. For the first time, he saw an emotion on 1A2 other than anger. 182 said he was just angry, but Kong Dante felt it was more than that. If he thought carefully, it looked more like grievance. Maybe 182 had always been expressing many things, but Kong Dante had simply never seen them. For example, behind anger, there might have been concern for Kong Dante, or worry. Like children in adolescence, they used irritability and rage to replace every other emotion. It was not that they were unwilling to be honest, but that they simply did not know what those emotions were called. The more Kong Dante thought, the deeper he went, and the longer he thought. 182's disappointment and shame. The doctor's guilt toward his dead colleagues, these were all emotions. A great many conflicts between people could become solvable as long as the emotions were clearly spoken out. If that were true, then perhaps things were not so hopeless. In the blink of an eye, it was the next day. Dumpling Village was as busy as usual. One villager showed off, "I got cigarettes today. Want a puff?" Just then, someone walked past him and bumped into him. That villager's face instantly turned ugly. "Are you blind?" The only response he got was a faint smile. The man who had just been acting so arrogantly was so frightened that he wet himself on the spot. Because he saw clearly, one of the 8 shoulders had actually appeared here. Elsewhere, the elder told someone to go wake Kong Dante and 182 so they could get up and eat something. Today he had steamed delicious buns, specially waiting for them. Square Face smiled. The elder is as kind as ever. Just then, someone rushed over in panic. "This is bad, elder." Bone Eater, one of the 8 shoulders, suddenly entered the village. Hearing that name, even the elder was startled. They were cannibals, specializing in eating people. Square Face immediately wanted to lead the guards to stop them and kill their leader if they got the chance. But Elder Dumpling called them to a halt. He wanted to meet this cannibal in his own way. Meanwhile, Kong Dante had also just woken up. He had slept badly because he had been thinking too much yesterday. Now he was hungry, and his body reeked of sweat, so he wanted to take a bath first. Kong Dante glanced at 182 beside him. That guy was lying there like a dead dog. Kong Dante had not seen 182 sleep this deeply in a long time. Before this, they had been constantly on the move. He felt that something was wrong, so he waved a hand to test him, but 182 gave no reaction at all. Kong Dante slowly placed his hand under 182's nose. "He's not dead, is he?" This guy is usually very alert, but the next second he felt a stream of warm breath. 182 was not dead. Only then did he realize, 182 was truly exhausted to the limit. Kong Dante got up, planning to go out and get something to eat first, and bring some back for 182 on the way. But the next second, Kong Dante's pupils suddenly shrank. A large man was sitting in front of him, face to face with the elder. No matter how he looked at it, the scene seemed like trouble. Kong Dante recognized him. This man had once attended Kong Dante's class together with other criminals. Judging from his build, he was very likely one of the 8 shoulders. Had he come after them? Bone Eater held out a photograph. "Have you seen this person?" Kong Dante and Elder Dumpling both froze at the same time. It really was them he had come for. Bone Eater asked again, "Have you seen him or not?" "You get one chance. Answer immediately." Kong Dante's heart pounded wildly. Why was Bone Eater holding a photo of 182? The elder thought for a moment, then spoke. "This man." Kong Dante's heart sank. "Don't say it. Absolutely don't say it." Kong Dante stopped caring. He had to take 182 and run immediately. He rushed into the room, preparing to wake 182 and leave through the back door. But Elder Dumpling said, "I don't know the person you're looking for, and I've never seen him. Is there anything else? If not, leave." Hearing that answer, Kong Dante froze in place. He had not expected Elder Dumpling to protect them. He turned to look at the elder again. Bone Eater did not respond, only rubbed his stomach. "I'm so hungry. What should I do? I wonder whether old meat tastes any good." The underling beside him threatened wildly. "You'd better tell the truth. Otherwise you can be the substitute meal. I know 182 is in this village." Even Elder Dumpling was startled. This was the first time he had encountered this kind of pressure. Bone Eater suddenly stood up. "Looks like I need to teach you a lesson." His gaze swept around the surroundings. Who should he choose? The villagers he looked at instantly went pale. Not just the villagers, even the subordinates Bone Eater brought were equally afraid. Kong Dante's back was already soaked with sweat. Was Bone Eater really going to eat someone in public? Even Elder Dumpling's hand was trembling slightly. The next second, Elder Dumpling shouted, "Bone Eater, how about eating dumplings instead? The dumplings in our village are delicious." Bone Eater disdained such an ordinary taste, and Elder Dumpling immediately explained, "They are absolutely not ordinary. I will steam the finest dumplings for you. If they disappoint you, then let me be your food." Elder Dumpling swore it on the spot. Square Face was too shocked to speak. Seeing the despair on the villagers' faces, Elder Dumpling instead smiled. "What, do you have no confidence in my cooking?" His smile was steady. "Isn't our village's specialty those round, plump dumplings?" But Kong Dante felt no relief at all. Instead, he began to worry that Elder Dumpling would lose his life. By all logic, the elder should not be doing this. There was no need to risk his life to protect them. Kong Dante turned and rushed toward the room. He knew too well, those dumplings were made from garbage. Why was Elder Dumpling being so reckless? And how could Bone Eater possibly eat dumplings? To hide 182, he was actually staking his life on it. It was unbelievably foolish. Kong Dante rushed into the room and shook 182 desperately. He felt utterly speechless. Of all days, 182 had to sleep this deeply today. At that moment, 182 slowly opened his eyes, but the state of his pupils startled Kong Dante. He sprang up and pinned Kong Dante to the ground, taking an attacking posture. Kong Dante urgently shouted, "Let go of me. Are you dreaming?" Only then did 182's fist slowly move away. His face was tense, as if he had only just realized what was happening. Then 182 slowly shifted his body away. Kong Dante did not understand. Why had 182 suddenly become so aggressive? "Are you feeling unwell?" 182 said he was fine. "Good, if you're fine, then can you still walk?" Kong Dante told 182 to try standing up, but he himself was speaking too fast, and 182 was left completely confused. 182 got up with difficulty and still sounded annoyed. "Are you done yet? Why are you so noisy?" Seeing that 182 could stand, Kong Dante felt relieved. Thank goodness. "Next, can you leave this village by yourself?" Kong Dante's expression was anxious and grim. 182's face filled with confusion, and Kong Dante immediately explained, "One of the 8 shoulders has appeared and is looking for 182. You have to run right away." 182 first shot back with a question. "You mean I leave by myself?" While packing things, Kong Dante said, "I need to go somewhere first. Wait for me at the entrance of Dumpling Village. I'll go out through the window and try not to be seen. If the luggage is too heavy, leave it behind. Staying alive comes first." Fear appeared on 182's face. He could not understand. Why was he being told to run alone? Was he about to be abandoned again? "Are you planning to abandon me a second time?" Kong Dante froze. 182 had actually said something like that. This absurdly strong 182 was actually so insecure. With his back turned to him, Kong Dante said, "I'm not abandoning you. I'm trying to save you. You have to listen to me and leave immediately. The current situation is not something you can handle. I've only recently realized that you're actually not a bad person at all. You've saved me many times, so this time, I want to save you." 182 was stunned into silence. People need to learn gratitude. Because of us, Elder Dumpling has now been dragged into danger. Kong Dante told 182 once more, "Hurry up and run. I'll stay behind and hold Bone Eater off." Meanwhile, Elder Dumpling's side was already in complete chaos. "Pull yourselves together. We have to make the tastiest dumplings possible. Bring me the radishes. Get the fire going." And at that moment, Kong Dante went somewhere else. He returned to the Demon King's castle to find that doctor. Kong Dante knew the doctor was terrifyingly strong. Even 182, while injured, had lost to him, and that alone was proof enough. Right now, the only person who could save 182 was him. Elder Dumpling was absolutely no match for them. At this moment, the only person Kong Dante could beg was the doctor. The scene shifted back to 182. 182 only glanced once at the sweet potato outside the window. Then he moved his mouth slightly and slowly began unwrapping the bandages on his hand. The swelling in his arm had already gone down. Only that scar still looked horrifying. Then he bent down to look for his weapon. Normally 182 did not like using weapons, but today was different. He tightly strapped the weapon around his arm. His meaning was obvious, "So it's a fight, is it? Since when has 182, ever been afraid?" Elsewhere, an uninvited guest arrived at the information broker's place. The person who came was Hound. He came for 182's information, only to find that the information had already been taken by someone else first. The information merchant showed him his injured ear. Hound became furious on the spot. "You gave up the information just because of one ear?" Since he had failed to get 182's information this time, he simply kept eating at the information merchant's place. In the end, even the information merchant could not hold back anymore. "This is all your fault. Before, you showed no respect for information merchants, and that's why things ended up like this." After hearing that, Hound raised his hand, ready to slap him to death. But this time the information merchant stood firm. "Do you think I'd be stupid enough to go that far? Hound, how much do you know about the talent of soul eaters?" Hound could not really answer that either. The information merchant gave a low laugh. "See, you really don't understand anything." But Hound did not care. One of the underlings eagerly answered first. "I heard the tongue has as much muscle as a small python?" The correct answer is stomach acid at the level of hydrochloric acid. Exactly, you people understand nothing. You don't even know something as basic as that. That guy once said he had tasted his ear, and also said the taste was like a warm beach. And that so-called beach actually came from Central and South America. So that guy's true talent was an almost unbelievable kind of information gathering accomplished through taste. The information about 182 that you want, Bone Eater will most likely dig it out himself. The underling was a little surprised. "So you did it on purpose?" Boss, you had already calculated all this? Hound was disdainful. What good is calculating it so well? If 182 gets eaten by Bone Eater, what value is left? Right now he only wanted to torture 182 to death with his own hands, so he absolutely had to kill 182 himself. But the information merchant told Hound not to rush. He said that he could get 182 out, because he had long since planted an insider by Bone Eater's side. And that insider was no ordinary lackey. He was a member of the armed operations team of a mercenary corps from District J. At that moment, Bone Eater was sitting before a huge pile of buns. Elder Dumpling was trembling with nerves. These are the most expensive ingredients our village can offer. Please enjoy them as much as you like. Bone Eater slowly took off his hood and casually set it down on the table. The moment the hood came off, it revealed an extremely ugly face. Elder Dumpling shuddered in fright on the spot. Bone Eater's tongue slowly extended, and in the next second it stabbed straight into the middle of a bun. Elder Dumpling held his breath, terrified that the other party would be dissatisfied. But the instant the tongue touched the bun, Bone Eater's eyeball spun wildly. And then he spat out one word, garbage. Elder Dumpling was drenched in sweat. You only touched it with your tongue once, how can you call it garbage? Please, take your time and have a bite. The tongue swept back and forth across each bun. This one was made from a crow caught yesterday. The one on the right was made from onions and carrots from a supply crate. At that moment, Elder Dumpling completely lost control. How could he describe the origins of the ingredients so accurately? The people behind him were equally shocked, because they heard Bone Eater continue, the rest all taste like leftovers from the cafeteria. With a smack, a bun was hurled hard into Elder Dumpling's face. He had not eaten it, but had already decided it was garbage. With a thud, the bun rolled to the ground. Elder Dumpling picked it up with trembling hands. Once upon a time, he had lived through too many hungry days. He had wandered for 10 years, and just to survive, stealing had long ceased to matter. The hardest to forget was that winter when the cold ached clear into his bones. That day he had just stolen a bun when someone chased after him, and he almost stepped in dog shit, but the person chasing him was not there to catch him, but instead wanted to give him even more food. And it was at that moment that Elder Dumpling tasted the warmest flavor in the world. So he wanted to pass that warmth on. That had been the best gift he had ever received. But Bone Eater had no interest whatsoever in that story. Elder Dumpling lifted the bun from the ground. Just eat it once. One bite is enough. The next second, Bone Eater's tongue coiled around the bun in the Elder's hand. But gradually, Elder Dumpling's body was dragged upward too. Bone Eater said he wanted to eat the bun, but the one he bit down on was Elder Dumpling's head. Elder Dumpling's heart turned to ashes. He knew he was about to be eaten, that everything would end here. In his heart, he whispered softly, I'm going to disappoint you again. I'm sorry, doctor. Meanwhile, Kong Dante burst into the hospital. He frantically searched for the doctor, shouting to him that a giant had come to the village, and that those madmen were going to eat Elder Dumpling. But no matter how Kong Dante shouted, there was no response at all. Then a voice came from the darkness. I know everything that happens here. Kong Dante clenched his teeth and said, You can't do this, especially not to Elder Dumpling. I've been thinking about what you've been relying on to stay alive these past 2 years. Later I figured it out. You've been relying on dumplings. The day you drove me away, I met an old man at the hospital entrance. He was carrying a bag, and it smelled like dumplings. Every day he left dumplings at the hospital entrance, probably because he was afraid you would starve to death. That injured arm of his wrapped dumplings all day without rest. You are my benefactor. The reason you're still alive is because of Elder Dumpling's dumplings. Seeing that the other party still would not come out, Kong Dante decided he would not beg anymore. He slowly turned around. In his eyes, the doctor was a betrayer. Kong Dante suppressed his fury. You don't deserve to be a doctor. You can actually stand by and watch someone die. At that moment, the voice sounded again. What nonsense are you talking about? Kong Dante whipped around, his eyes full of disbelief. Meanwhile, fighting had already broken out in Dumpling Village, and Squareface charged forward with a cleaver in hand. Elder Dumpling was on the verge of being swallowed alive by Bone Eater, but he was still shouting for everyone not to rush in. Squareface refused to listen at all. Put the old man down. The next second, Bone Eater spat Elder Dumpling out, and then with one flick of his tongue, whipped up a gale that sent the people and objects around him flying. With the villagers' strength, there was no way they could possibly be a match for them. But they still charged forward anyway. That was the spirit of Dumpling Village. One of the 3 underlings pinned a villager down with 1 foot. You think someone like you dares interrupt Big Brother while he's eating? Idiot. In a minute we'll chop all of you into meat filling. Elder Dumpling roared, Enough. Eating me alone is enough. I'll obediently let you eat me. But the other side replied coldly, Not enough. These old bones of yours are old and stringy, not even enough to fill the gaps in our teeth. Bone Eater picked up 182's photograph again and spoke. I don't want to waste any more time. Hand over this person. Bone Eater threw out his final question. Where exactly is he? Elder Dumpling shook his head through tears. Even if I die, I will only say this, I don't know. But just then, a knife slowly rose into view. Bone Eater looked toward the newcomer and froze. And Elder Dumpling froze too. The one who had stepped forward was 182. The person you're looking for is here. Elsewhere, Kong Dante was just about to leave when he heard the doctor's voice. He turned back in disbelief. So you're finally willing to come out. It turned out the doctor had been hiding behind the wall the whole time. Kong Dante held his breath. It seems only by forcing you to choose this way would you finally come out to see me. I really need your help. The doctor frowned and asked in return, you're saying those dumplings saved my life? The doctor felt Kong Dante was far too self-important. Even without dumplings, he still could have survived. Kong Dante continued trying to persuade him. You know what state of mind that old man had when he did this. Help me once. If he really dies, won't you regret it? The doctor sneered. Do you know what I regret most? What he regretted most was saving that dying prisoner in the first place. And it was precisely because he saved that prisoner that all his companions ended up dead. So the doctor was convinced the lives of criminals were not worthy of sympathy. Hearing that, Kong Dante went completely rigid. Elsewhere, 182 spoke again. I'm here. Weren't you looking for me? I came out. Elder Dumpling started cursing furiously. You idiot. Who told you to come out? Then didn't we take that beating for nothing just now? No one noticed that among Bone Eater's group, one man was staring fixedly at 182 as he said in a low voice, so you've finally shown yourself. Then he looked 182 up and down once more. 182 slowly said, if you dare touch them, I'll kill you. Elder Dumpling was trembling with urgency. What are you saying? He's one of the shoulders. Run for your life. But before he could finish, a huge hand seized him. With a bang, he was slammed straight into the wall. Stinking old man, you talk too much. My meal has finally arrived. Then Bone Eater's tongue licked across 182's face. 182 did not dodge, allowing that tongue to slide across his face. No one dared to breathe. Bone Eater felt extreme satisfaction inside. He had finally tasted him. At the same time, the man behind him instantly pulled out a notebook. What exactly does he taste like? Quick, write down your analysis. Bone Eater's eyeballs began spinning frantically, as if analyzing 182's origins. A blue light appeared in his eyes, and in the next second his brain seemed to get blasted, and he collapsed straight to the ground. The underlings all crowded around. What happened to Big Brother? Is he dead? One underling stuck out 2 fingers to check his pulse. He judged that Bone Eater had only fainted, but of all times, he had to collapse now, and the commission also required a written evaluation of the taste. What a pack of walking idiots. Still, finding some fun for himself now did sound pretty interesting. Immediately after, a group of underlings rushed at 182, wanting to eat him while the boss was unconscious, otherwise this delicacy would never be their turn. Elder Dumpling shouted anxiously, 182, run. But 182 did not listen at all. He was already fighting Bone Eater's subordinates. With one thrust, he stabbed his blade straight into an underling's waist. Another underling raised a weapon and was about to smash it down. But 182 was even stronger. He lifted his leg and forcefully blocked the blow, then swept his blade across and took the man's life on the spot. These underlings were nowhere near enough for 182 to kill. Charging at him was simply throwing their lives away. Under a storm of blades, 182 remained completely unharmed and cut them down one by one. Elder Dumpling watched in alarm. This person was absurdly strong. But just then, a figure behind him tried to ambush 182. Before that man's blade could fall, 182 moved later and arrived first, stabbing through his wrist with one strike. But the man was not afraid at all. Instead he gave a low laugh. You've finally taken the bait. Your weakness is that your right side has no arm. He let go of his injured hand and caught the falling blade with his left hand, muttering some kind of mad words about offering bone in gift, repaying with flesh. But he had underestimated 182. With just one raised leg, 182 kicked the dagger flying. Then 182 drove a heavy kick into him. If I don't teach you a lesson, you'll really think I'm easy to bully. That blade stabbed into the underling's abdomen again, directly leaving him unable to stand. 182 stood there barefoot. After taking these people down, he said coldly, even if all of you were fully armed, I'd still kill every last one of you, because I am the strongest. I really don't know what is going on in your heads. But at that moment, someone interrupted 182. The man held a knife to Elder Dumpling's head. I've seen your knife skills. No wonder you could take down Hound. But do you want to know what my talent is? 182 could not be bothered to listen to his nonsense, and without caring that he was holding a hostage, he directly rushed into counterattack. As long as he was fast enough, the other party would not have time to hurt the hostage. The man looked at him speechlessly. At least listen to the rest first. He briefly introduced himself. First of all, I'm not one of Bone Eater's people. I only accepted a commission to take you away. 182 only asked 2 questions. You're taking me away? Where are you taking me? Then he pressed further. Did R send you? The hooded man was momentarily stunned. clearly hearing that kind of statement for the first time, but he still said coldly, "I can't reveal the client's identity." He spun the kukri in his hand. "I advise you to cooperate." Just from that blade, it was obvious that he was absolutely from the military, or at the very least a mercenary. He said, "If you want to escape from Bone Eater, now is your only chance. Once he wakes up, you definitely won't be able to get away. I don't know how strong you are, but you can't possibly beat him. What's more, your arm is already almost ruined, isn't it? One of the 6 shoulders. How are you supposed to fight that?" 182 knew the other party was right, so he made a decision: kill Bone Eater directly before he woke up. But 182's strike was forcefully blocked by a military blade. There was no way the hooded man was going to let Bone Eater die. He needed Bone Eater's ability to analyze 182's origins, so he had to step in and stop 182. 182 secretly gritted his teeth. From that brief clash just now, he could already tell the other man was definitely not weak. The man opposite slowly removed his hood. It was time to introduce himself properly. He smiled excitedly and said, "I am Multi-Tiger of the J-Block Mercenary Armed Operations Team, specialist in multiple operations. My fighting power is even stronger than those shoulders." Meanwhile, back at the Demon King's castle, the doctor had no interest at all in whether 182 lived or died. He was far calmer than Kong Dante had imagined. But if 182 was to be treated, he really was the only one. The doctor sneered with contempt. "What are you, exactly? Why are you so obsessed with meddling? And besides, what does any of this have to do with you?" Kong Dante was stunned by what he heard. "Actually, it's all because of us that the people of Dumpling Village kept hiding us. They were obviously good people, and in the end they still never gave away anything about us." Instead of being moved, the doctor laughed. "Looks like you still haven't woken up. Have you forgotten how you were locked in here? You're a teacher. Don't you even have the ability to learn?" Those words completely set Kong Dante off. "You bastard. I don't have the ability to learn? Normal people matter to me. I need good people." Suppressing his rage, Kong Dante kept shouting, "What makes you think you're so great? Driving away the people who wanted to help you and trapping yourself here until you die. This is supposed to be intelligence? To put it bluntly, neither this hospital nor that old man did anything wrong, and yet you want to make an enemy of the entire village? Then you might as well just die here alone. Is it because of hatred?" The doctor's face darkened to the extreme as well. Kong Dante stared at him and pressed on word by word. "Stop lying to yourself. It can't just be hatred. The reason you're living alone is because you feel guilty. Is living well really that shameful? Do you have to torture yourself like this?" As soon as Kong Dante finished speaking, he saw an expression of utter disbelief spread across the doctor's face. Elsewhere, the opponent 182 had run into this time was definitely no simple character. With a clang, 182's blade scraped against the other man's weapon. The next second, 182 seemed to blink forward and slammed a punch into Multi-Tiger's face. Multi-Tiger burst out laughing. "This armor can stop bullets. Not to mention your ridiculous little knife." But 182 did not listen at all and swung his blade again. "If 1 slash doesn't work, then 4 or 5 will. I refuse to believe I can't cut through your armor." But 182 had still underestimated that armor. Not only did it not break, Multi-Tiger even countered with a backhand slash. Luckily, 182 reacted with incredible speed and dodged it with a tilt of his head. Right now, Multi-Tiger could both tank and fight, with almost no blind spots in offense or defense. By comparison, 182 had very few options to choose from. 182 could only pick one of 2 paths, attack or defend. If he chose to attack, that meant giving up defense. And that fit 182's personality perfectly. The strongest offense was the best defense. But not long into the fight, 182's old wounds began to split open again. Seeing that, Multi-Tiger laughed even more wildly. "Let's see just how long that hand of yours can hold out." Very quickly, 182 was forced into the disadvantage. No matter how he dodged, one strike or another would always eventually catch up to him. And Multi-Tiger had a third method of attack too. If both blades missed, he simply lifted his leg and viciously kicked 182 in the lower abdomen. With a boom, 182's whole body was driven into the wall. Elder Dumpling's heart tightened at the sight. 182 had clearly fallen behind. Like a victor, Multi-Tiger stood above him and mocked him. But the next second, he realized something. His leg had somehow been stabbed. Multi-Tiger looked utterly incredulous. "You're pretty good. Looks like I really can't underestimate you." After saying that, he pulled the knife from his leg. "How can you just throw your knife around like that?" Right after, he hurled the weapon in his hand straight at 182. 182 got up quickly and dodged aside. Fortunately, that throw did not hit him. But 182 forgot that Multi-Tiger was no slower than he was. The moment he dodged, Multi-Tiger caught up from behind with a kick. The impact of that kick tore 182's wounds open again on the spot. 182 was a veteran too, and with an extremely awkward posture he still managed to evade that blow by force. No matter how Multi-Tiger swung his blade, he still could not hit 182 cleanly, but 182's situation remained worse. Multi-Tiger felt that 182 was only forcing himself to hold on. With his hand already injured, how could he possibly beat him? So he was convinced that in the end, the only thing 182 could do was run. 182 steadied himself, twisted both feet on the ground in a turn, and then, without the slightest hesitation, charged at Multi-Tiger once again. Multi-Tiger's expression changed. Even like this, he still dared to rush in? But 182 was now so ferocious he looked like he wanted to devour someone, his eyes overflowing with uncontrollable killing intent. That murderous aura even shook Multi-Tiger inwardly. What is wrong with this guy? How can someone who's practically dying still force out this kind of presence? Enraged, Multi-Tiger slashed his blade into 182. A sharp crack rang out. The blade sank into flesh, but was snapped apart by bone. Multi-Tiger instantly came to his senses. He could not kill 182, but in the heat of the fight, he had unconsciously started getting serious. And in that split second of distraction, 182 counterattacked. With a crack, 182 thrust 2 fingers straight at Multi-Tiger's head. Fortunately, the armor blocked it. Multi-Tiger no longer dared to be careless and immediately pulled back. This guy was too dangerous. And 182 had already run out of strength, his whole body crashing heavily to the ground. Smoke was actually rising from Multi-Tiger's armor. He lowered his head and looked at his palm, his eyes filled with shock. That strike just now had actually pierced through his hand. Multi-Tiger realized that if he had been half a second slower, he would have been the one to die. Even with fatal injuries, 182 was still fighting to the death. What the hell was this guy? When Elder Dumpling saw 182 fall, he immediately rushed over. Meanwhile, Squareface fixed his eyes on Multi-Tiger on the ground. Capture the leader first, pin down this giant first. Multi-Tiger gave a cold laugh. Just the two of them? He kicked Elder Dumpling flying and drove Squareface back with a reverse slash. All of you, behave. Then he walked up to 182. He had to bring 182 back alive. He suddenly noticed 182's wound. The cut was not very deep. He stared at the wound for a long time before finally making out its shape. Multi-Tiger froze. What kind of thing could inflict a wound like that? Had 182 really been fighting him all this time while forcing that kind of body to keep going? But he could not worry about that now. He had to take 182 away immediately, or once Bone Eater woke up, everything would be ruined. Multi-Tiger's retrieval mission was complete. Regarding the talent, even through battle he could not understand it, and 182's body also showed no obvious mutation. Taste evaluation. Regrettably, it seemed the higher-ups had made too big a fuss over it. At that moment, a voice suddenly exploded in his mind. Have you tasted it? When he turned around, Bone Eater had somehow already sat up. He said that among all the flavors he had ever tasted, this was the most delicious one. Something was clearly wrong with Bone Eater's expression, and even Multi-Tiger started feeling uneasy. Once, when Bone Eater had been locked in prison, someone handed him an apple. But just as he reached out, the man pulled the apple back. Why would I ever give something like this to you, monster? That person kept provoking him too. If you're upset, crawl to the cafeteria with your feet, brat. Back then, Bone Eater had been as gaunt as a mummy, nothing like he was now. Because he looked strange and was tall, he had always been treated like a monster. At that moment, one prisoner took out a blue object. Bone Eater was so starving he had gone mad. He wanted to eat the snack in that person's hand. But the prisoner kept stupidly provoking him. When that hand slowly reached toward the bars, Bone Eater grabbed his arm and bit down immediately. That was the first time he swallowed human flesh and blood. The taste exploded across his palate, so exquisite it made him tremble. Elsewhere, Kong Dante was still inside the doctor's Demon King's castle. Kong Dante and the doctor talked at length, but exposing other people's weaknesses has never been the answer. That's only what my brother always did to me. The doctor said in a low voice, my companions all died because of me. It was because I saved that prisoner that everything became like this. At that time there had been other prisoners in the hospital too, and those people had received plenty of care from the doctor. But when the doctor asked them for help, they pretended not to hear. Once the doctor was reduced to that miserable state, they saw he no longer had any value and immediately turned cold. Not only that, those prisoners even took advantage of the chaos and frenziedly attacked the doctor's companions. The doctor grabbed Kong Dante by the collar and demanded, "This place is hell. I can't die, and I can't live well either. Isn't that the truth? I also think it would have been simpler to die together with my companions, but the body only keeps functioning in order to survive." A chill ran through Kong Dante's heart as he listened. So in order to stay alive, the doctor had been picking through garbage in the hospital to eat, the so-called garbage being those blue fog spheres. The doctor relied on his awakened talent to heal his own wounds. Then he lured utterly evil prisoners to the Demon King's castle and used their corpses to build walls of flesh. To take revenge on prisoners, the doctor had found himself a reason he absolutely had to keep living. In the end, he became the monster he hated most. The good doctor the villagers wanted died long ago. Is that the answer you wanted? The doctor said he thought this was not bad either, spending every day mixed in with prisoners. Maybe this was his fate, something no one could change, including himself. As Kong Dante listened, he felt the doctor was really talking about himself too. Kong Dante's thoughts were pulled back many years, to a textbook on how to grow sweet potatoes. Beside it were piled a bunch of elementary school theory books. Kong Dante's brother laughed out loud. "What do you want these books for?" Kong Dante snatched the books back. "What's wrong with you? Going through my school bag?" Back then, Kong Dante's face turned red as he hugged all the books to his chest. His brother looked at him like he was crazy. "You actually want to be a teacher, and teach something this basic?" Kong Dante told his brother to mind his own business. He said they were both adults, so this kind of interference was meaningless. But his brother kept going as if he had not heard. "You studied this hard all this time, only to go back to school and become a babysitter?" Kong Dante answered bluntly. "I like this job. That's none of your business. I will never let you control my thoughts or my actions. My life is mine to decide, and no one gets to interfere." So he resolutely applied to become a teacher. Kong Dante applied to be a high school teacher. If he had really gone to teach elementary school, he would not have been able to save face. In truth, Kong Dante had always had a master in his heart, and that was his own heart. It could also be said that that heart was his teacher, but now it was tightly bound in iron chains. And at this moment, the doctor was just like the Kong Dante of those years, his own heart also shackled. Kong Dante slowly said, "It's not like that. Fate can be changed, and you were never meant to become like this. This is retribution forced onto you long ago by that damned prisoner, but a person like you shouldn't become trash." Hearing that, the doctor's heart seemed to tremble slightly. Kong Dante told the doctor to look at Dumpling Village. "In this prison, the only place where I've seen restraint and morality is that village. Those are the rules Elder Dumpling established. He is the mentor of that village." The doctor told Kong Dante to shut up, stop saying all this nonsense. But Kong Dante persisted. "Even in a toilet, as long as something is alive, it has value. You once taught others to live uprightly. And Elder Dumpling's mentor was you. Don't you understand that even now?" After hearing those words, the doctor suddenly remembered parts of the past. Once, Elder Dumpling had knelt at the gate of the Demon King's castle and said he was determined to build Dumpling Village into a safe place. Every day Elder Dumpling came to talk about little things in the village. For example, that 3 more dumpling shops had opened, that everyone was learning to make dumplings from him, and that he was actually very happy about it, saying the more people who made them, the better. Then he would say that the village had run into bandits, but that he left after eating. He did not want to fight, because fighting meant getting hurt. None of that was important. What mattered was that under no circumstances could he injure the arm the doctor had worked so hard to heal. Later, Elder Dumpling still came often, yet not once did he ever see the doctor. He sincerely hoped the doctor would go walk around the village, because the village had already become very prosperous. After being brought so many times, the dumplings Elder Dumpling delivered had piled up into a small mountain. Elder Dumpling urged him several more times. "If you don't eat them soon, they'll get moldy. What a waste. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I just hope you won't go hungry. You once told me not to abuse my own body. I hope you can do the same." When the doctor saw how prosperous Dumpling Village had become, he too was shocked. Could a scene like this really appear inside a prison? Suddenly Kong Dante asked the doctor, full of disbelief, "Who exactly was your true master?" He could feel that the shadow of a master had been interfering with the doctor's life all along. In the next moment, Kong Dante saw the iron chains across the doctor's chest shatter completely. What was this thing? A gentle face appeared before the doctor's eyes. It was his teacher, and a doctor too. The doctor was already in tears, his voice hoarse, and at last he let go of his shackles. Meanwhile, back in Dumpling Village, Multi-Tiger was about to evacuate with 182 when Bone Eater woke up behind him. Multi-Tiger could not figure out why. He only felt that Bone Eater had become far stronger than before. But that was not important. What mattered was that he had to take 182 away immediately. But in the next second, a tongue coiled around his leg. With a bang, Multi-Tiger and 182 crashed to the ground together. Bone Eater had no intention of letting them leave. Bone Eater's tongue pierced into 182's shoulder, and Multi-Tiger was not just for show either, so the situation completely reversed. He had to protect 182, because 182 was his mission. But the next second, Multi-Tiger froze. Bone Eater's tongue was lashing at him like a machine gun. Seizing an opening, Multi-Tiger slashed at the softest part of the tongue. But to his shock, he discovered that his blade could not injure that tongue at all. Multi-Tiger began to lose his footing. What the hell was going on? Bone Eater's toughness had increased far too absurdly. Very quickly, Multi-Tiger fell into a disadvantage, and one mistake got his neck wrapped by the tongue. With just that tiny misstep, his body was instantly controlled. Multi-Tiger poured nearly all the strength in his body into his arms. But he soon discovered that no matter how he struggled, he could not break free. He looked up and saw that Bone Eater's condition was completely wrong. This was not the Bone Eater he knew at all. With a flick of his tongue, Bone Eater hurled Multi-Tiger flying away. Now the only thing left in his eyes was 182. And 182 was already gravely injured, with no way to withstand Bone Eater's attack. Just when everyone thought 182 was certain to die, Elder Dumpling stepped out at some unknown moment. He told the villagers behind him to take 182 away. Square Face trembled with urgency. "Old sir, get away. It's too dangerous over there." Bone Eater grew even angrier. One after another, "Why do all of you keep interrupting my meal?" This time Bone Eater was truly serious. He was going to eat Elder Dumpling on the spot, and Elder Dumpling had already prepared himself to die. But just then, a hand suddenly yanked Elder Dumpling backward. At some unknown moment, 182 had rushed up and driven a punch into Bone Eater's mouth. Everyone present was stunned. Even in this state, 182 could still fight? But Bone Eater showed a satisfied smile. Too delicious. Multi-Tiger cursed at 182 at the top of his lungs. "Lunatic, you're about to get eaten." Even Elder Dumpling's heart tightened with anxiety. But the next second, Elder Dumpling himself froze. He heard 182 mutter in a low voice, "Keep moving forward, never retreat." Elder Dumpling became frantic and shouted at him, "You're an idiot. Why are you throwing yourself into his mouth?" At the same time, Bone Eater's teeth tore wildly, swallowing 182's flesh and blood. Bone Eater was so moved that tears came to his eyes. "Thank you. Among all these countless lives, you have saved my taste buds." 182 sneered inwardly. "I'm not feeding you for free. You'll have to pay the price." The next second, Bone Eater's teeth bit solidly into 182's body. Suddenly, a chill ran through Bone Eater's heart. He turned around and saw that a steel blade was already pressed before him. The doctor barked furiously, "If you don't want to die, let go." 182's eyes shook, and Elder Dumpling was so emotional that tears streamed down his face. The scissors in the doctor's hand were drawn out in an instant. He grabbed Bone Eater's head in one hand, and the moment the scissors were ripped free, blood gushed out. Bone Eater felt as if his teeth had fallen out, and his jaw seemed to have come loose as well. The doctor grabbed 182's arm to examine it. There was suppressed anger in his voice. "I work so hard to fix your arm, and then you turn right around and make it like this again?" 182 immediately pulled his arm back. He did not want anyone touching his hand, except Teacher. Elder Dumpling looked utterly disbelieving. "Why are you here?" The doctor fell silent. In the next moment, his scissors began spinning rapidly between his fingers. 182 immediately grew alert, but his hand was trembling with pain. The doctor said coldly, "This has never been some kind of safe village." After saying that, he turned sharply and drove a punch into Bone Eater's stomach. That sight left both 182 and Elder Dumpling stunned. But in Elder Dumpling's heart, an indescribable feeling rose up. He knew his old friend had come back. At that moment, the doctor stabbed a point in Bone Eater's body with the scissors. With just that one stab, Bone Eater's body instantly went rigid and could not move. Bone Eater shrieked, "What did you do to me?" He lashed out with his tongue, whipping it over fiercely. Elder Dumpling immediately warned the doctor to dodge quickly. Bone Eater's tongue was both soft and hard, and even blades could not cut through it. Before Elder Dumpling had even finished speaking, the tongue curled back around and whipped in again. The doctor retreated several steps to dodge it. "Let's see just how hard it really is. Everything has a weakness." In the next second, the doctor's pupils suddenly changed. He threw back his head and laughed wildly. "No matter how big Bone Eater is, he's still just something piled together from cells, and I am the nemesis of cells." Right after that, the doctor directly saw through the weak point of that tongue. The doctor's speed was absurdly fast. At the instant he moved, Bone Eater did not even have time to react. Elder Dumpling stared in complete shock. Because Bone Eater's tongue had actually started shrinking back and rapidly shortening. Bone Eater panicked and desperately tried to pull his tongue back. The doctor coldly warned him not to pull. "The more you tug, the faster it shrinks." Bone Eater could no longer withstand that reverse pulling force, and it felt as if his tongue were about to burst. With a thud, he dropped heavily to both knees. The instant he collapsed, everyone saw it. That tongue had burst apart like a smashed blossom. Bone Eater lay sprawled on the ground like a dead dog, unmoving. The people around erupted in cheers. The doctor was unbelievably strong, and Bone Eater had been dealt with so cleanly. Even the mercenary found it unbelievable. Someone at shoulder level had been all but instantly killed in the doctor's hands. Then the doctor lightly sliced open Bone Eater's abdomen. He reached both hands inside and groped around. This was also his first time dissecting a cannibal, and inside he actually felt an undigested bone. Elder Dumpling suddenly walked up behind the doctor. Under the doctor's unusual gaze, he knelt down directly. He said only one sentence, "I'm sorry." Elder Dumpling remembered the promise he had made back then. He had failed to protect the village. Immediately after, everyone else in the village also knelt down. Elder Dumpling felt that he had failed to care for the village properly, and had also failed to stop the riot. Maybe these people really were just as the doctor said, beyond saving. The doctor slowly stood up, It's not over yet, so don't sink into regret. If you want to keep your promise, start with that sentence, don't injure your arm again. This was the happiest day Elder Dumpling had had in a long time. His old friend had finally come back. By the time the fighting ended, Kong Dante hurried back to the village. When he saw the scene before him, he froze on the spot. The doctor's strength was even more terrifying than the shoulders. Kong Dante could not help thinking, if he could pull the doctor into his side, would their chances of escaping skyrocket? Maybe they really could negotiate. At that moment, someone spoke to Kong Dante. That idiot friend of yours really is reckless. Kong Dante turned and saw 182 lying on the ground, covered in wounds. He immediately rushed over. Didn't I tell you to run? You didn't leave? Only when Kong Dante got close did he realize how horrifying 182's injuries were. There were even puncture marks from teeth in his palm. As he patted 182's shoulder, he suppressed his anger. Did you run or did you stay and fight? I'm really angry about this. Why do you never listen to what I say? 182 muttered in a low voice that he was stupid. With a body like this, how could I possibly beat them? He kept murmuring in broken fragments. Kong Dante pressed him down. Calm down. I can't understand what you're saying. 182 asked back, why are you angry? He looked toward the doctor and Elder Dumpling not far away. The doctor from the Demon King's castle came to find that dumpling-looking person, right? The doctor came over to thank him, right? 182 slowly raised his head to look at Kong Dante. Then are you the same? You came back from the Demon King's castle to find me, right? Am I understanding this correctly? Kong Dante could not explain why, but upon hearing those words, his talent surfaced almost instinctively, and he wanted to see 182's heart clearly. He suddenly felt very happy. 182 spoke clumsily, but what he had understood was correct. So Kong Dante answered, the doctor and Elder Dumpling are friends, so he came. You and I are friends, so I came. The scene shifted, and 182 woke up, slowly opening his eyes. He saw a figure beside him. He froze. The doctor was actually mending his clothes. The places on his clothes that had been torn before had now been patched up. The doctor also noticed that 182 had woken up. The two exchanged a few sparse words. The clothes in your hand are mine. I know. Then the doctor asked 182 in return, how old are you? A lot of the biologically gifted people who are physically abnormal have been here for over 20 years. But your internal organs are still very new. You look like a child. 182 instantly grew displeased. I'm an adult. I used to be a child too. The doctor was speechless. Who explains their age like that? But from the condition of 182's organs and the tone of his voice, the doctor judged that 182 was only a little younger than himself. He was just not very bright. The moment 182 heard not very bright, he exploded. He was not stupid. He could tell the doctor was insulting him. So 182 fired back. I think your brain is even stupider than mine. The doctor retorted. No, it's not. I'm much smarter than you. 182 shot back again. You're not allowed to lie. The doctor could not be bothered to keep arguing with an idiot, or it would make him look stupid too. The doctor's tone turned grave. You're not a prisoner. Could it be that you were born here? This place has existed for many years, so having children here wouldn't be strange. 182 could not understand. All I know is that you can't get out of here. The doctor got so annoyed that he tossed the clothes straight onto 182's head. He cursed under his breath. I actually ended up discussing this boring nonsense with a genuine idiot. The doctor stopped walking. We're even now, understand? What I owed you, I've already repaid. Then the doctor went to find Kong Dante. The doctor stared at the map and thought, there's no marked exit here. And there are devices meant to prevent escape. Giant monsters suddenly appear and kill people. I've experienced it myself. So I'm preparing to go to headquarters and talk to the chief administrator face to face. The doctor asked Kong Dante what he intended to do. He had already said before that going there was useless. But Kong Dante still intended to go. Because if anyone really knew how to leave this place, it was probably only them. The doctor had one final question. After leaving, how were they supposed to deal with fog dependency? Kong Dante did not know either. But he guessed that as long as they left and no longer had access to it, they would gradually quit over time. If withdrawal symptoms appear, I'll do my best to help you. My father is a scientist, and he can contact experts in related fields. As long as this place is exposed, it will definitely cause an uproar, and research will speed up as well. Kong Dante gave him a firm look, telling him not to worry. But the doctor's expression turned even more complicated. I'm not only worried about myself. I'm worried about you too. Go look in a mirror. Kong Dante did not understand. A minute later, a scream exploded from the bathroom. Kong Dante stared fixedly at the mirror. His eyes had actually turned blue. He did not even know when it had started. That anxiety crushed him. His whole body shook uncontrollably. He even felt a little wronged. Blue eyes meant he should have a talent too, but right now he was completely like an ordinary person. At that moment, Kong Dante nearly broke down. The end of an addict was only collapse and destruction. The doctor's face darkened. Didn't you just say that if you stopped touching it, You'd get better on your own? The doctor told Kong Dante that no experiments had ever been carried out on the prisoners here. They had only been locked here for long periods and made to keep inhaling fog, from which two conclusions had been drawn: either they fell into a coma, or they lost their minds. If they really went outside, they might turn into a vegetable and simply wait to die. The doctor asked Kong Dante once more. Did he still want to leave? 182 had come in at some unknown moment. Are you two chatting? The doctor had a headache. In your condition, stop getting out of bed and wandering around. Kong Dante's answer was only one sentence: I have to get out. Even if I could go on living here forever, this is not the life I want. After that, they packed their things and prepared to leave, and the doctor also decided to go with them. Squareface told them to wait a little longer, because winter had already begun from this point onward. Elder Dumpling shook his head. I won't stop you. You have your own things to do. And you should go where you ought to go. This place doesn't belong to you. In the end, Elder Dumpling gave Kong Dante one instruction: you must take the doctor away from here. After Kong Dante gave him a firm answer, Elder Dumpling finally felt at ease. Then Elder Dumpling stuffed a big bag of dumplings into their hands. They were all from his heart, for the road. 182 naturally carried them on his back, and no matter how Kong Dante tried to persuade him, he refused to put them down. Elder Dumpling waved them off. Don't hesitate, go. Kong Dante replied with a smile and also wished that their dumpling shop would prosper more and more. But at that moment, the doctor did not move. He called out to Elder Dumpling. The doctor said he wanted to look at Elder Dumpling's hand. Elder Dumpling tried to brush it off, but the doctor grabbed his wrist in one motion. Just like when they had first met, the doctor checked his wrist according to procedure. The doctor said that Elder Dumpling's hand still had problems, but surgery was impossible now, so it could only stay like this for the moment. If we really meet again outside, I will definitely fix your hand. After saying that, the doctor's eyes were full of tears. Elder Dumpling smiled. That day will definitely come. Then they left Dumpling Village, and this journey was temporarily brought to an end. At the same time, somewhere else, the long-vanished bag-headed woman actually appeared. A doctor and a teacher. Now that's interesting. At that moment, the phone in her backpack suddenly started ringing. Before answering, she muttered a curse under her breath. This call was really annoying. The bag-headed woman reported the situation. They had failed to capture 182, and he was still alive. More importantly, it seemed that prisoner 182 now had another person by his side, a supreme brain, plus a doctor who could both fight and heal. The man on the other end gave a low laugh after hearing this. Then he hung up the phone. Friends? Ridiculous. How could someone like him possibly make friends? And even if he did, in a place like this they couldn't possibly be real friends. At that moment, he turned his gaze toward a building not far away. He asked the person behind him, how much of our fog is left? Inside the building before him, dense masses of fog were piled everywhere. In a conference room, a group of people were calculating the remaining fog reserves. At the current level, the supply could last another 5 years. But they did not know whether the plan could be completed within 5 years, so they had to bring in more talent. Ordinary people were no longer enough as targets. Even suppressing the media had its limits, and recruiting talent had become too difficult. The man at the head said only one sentence: winter is coming soon. He snapped his fingers, and his subordinate immediately reported, 500 supply crates are scheduled for deployment. Daily necessities, construction materials, and the like are all ready. All other tools are in place as well. The weapons are Glock 19s, more than 10 in total. The red-haired man commented blandly, too ordinary. Then he continued, our time is tight, so we need to move fast. My father once said, the right moment will surely come, so we need to create an even bigger storm. The scene shifted to the women's prison. Lala, also a science teacher, finally appeared after being missing for a long time, but her condition was miserable. She felt that everything was like science fiction, as if she were living inside an illusion. At that moment, a voice entered Lala's ears. Lala turned around and saw a girl with long white hair and blue eyes staring at her. Are you all right? Lala had already fallen into hallucinations and mistook the other party for an angel, begging her to take her away from this place. Then Lala suddenly hugged the white-haired girl. The girl gently patted Lala's head. You've got the wrong person. I'm not an angel. But the girl could tell that Lala was unwell. After all, she had not eaten a proper meal in many days here. Once Lala regained her senses, she was startled too. How could there be a child in prison? The girl said her name was Broom, and that she was responsible for cleaning this room. Lala grew even more puzzled. Why would there be a child in prison? Had she committed a crime too? Broom told Lala that she absolutely had to eat properly, because only then could her body hold out. She added one more thing, you are a teacher, so you should understand. Lala lowered her voice and asked, who exactly are you? Why are you here? As she understood it, a girl like this should not possibly exist in this prison. The girl seemed a little slow. She bent her fingers and counted several times before finally counting to 7. Then she showed Lala an innocent expression and said, "I'm 7. Hearing 7 years old, Lala's pupils suddenly contracted. This place was too terrifying. A 7-year-old child in prison. No one would believe it even if you told them. Then where are your parents?" Broom looked confused. "My father is." But before she could finish, another voice interrupted her. "Slacking off again? If you don't get back to work, I'll punish you by taking away your food." Lala immediately spoke up to stop her. "How can you lay hands on a child?" She grabbed Broom and pulled her behind herself protectively. Broom froze. This was the first time she had met someone in the women's prison who wanted to protect her. But the female prisoner refused to let it go. "Teacher, you can barely save yourself, and you still want to meddle in other people's business?" Broom softly comforted Lala. "It's okay. I can't feel pain." Those words left Lala shocked and confused again. "If someone punches you, it really doesn't hurt?" The female prisoner warned Lala not to interfere, or things would only get worse. Lala could only let go reluctantly. As Broom was taken away, she still turned back and waved to Lala, reminding her to eat properly. On Lala's face, all that remained was an indescribably complicated expression. And at the same time, elsewhere, the doctor was removing 182's stitches and treating his wounds. 182 moved his wrist and found that his injuries were almost completely healed. "This is ridiculous. Those injuries were so severe before, and now not even a trace is left. Your surgical skill has probably already reached the limit. What talent did you awaken exactly?" The doctor said that the talent he had awakened was called concentration. As long as he entered a focused state, the inside of the body became clearly visible to him, almost like a microscope, which was why he could cleanly treat 182's injuries. This ability suited the doctor perfectly. Where there was a defect, where something needed repairing, he could see it through with a single glance. There were many people here who survived by their fists, and this kind of ability gave him a greater chance of surviving. Being handled like this by him, 182 instead felt a bit embarrassed. "Then isn't that basically X-ray vision? Among all the geniuses I've seen, you're the most outrageous. It's practically a superpower." But the doctor also said that there were side effects. He could not concentrate whenever he wanted. The side effects caused severe dry eyes, though it was still enough for surgery. Kong Dante could not help sighing. If only he too could awaken some useful ability. The doctor looked baffled. "You want to make fog for yourself to eat? I've already been poisoned. If I need it later, I'll consider making fog. If you want to awaken a talent, you have to consume a lot of fog. I don't want to become that kind of monster who crazily craves fog. The risks after leaving would be too high. But I'm still unwilling to accept it. I've already come this far. If only I could awaken an ability. Then I could be like everyone else, believe in myself, and keep moving forward." The doctor said lightly, "I already had good eyesight before. Fog isn't random lottery drawing. It amplifies a person's original talents. So if you have a particularly strong advantage, what kind of ability you might develop can be predicted." After hearing that, Kong Dante felt even more hopeless, because he seemed to have nothing particularly special about him. But the doctor comforted him. "As long as you're human, you won't be completely without strengths." Kong Dante was close to breaking down. "This is absurd. Here, I'm just useless. It's like I'm some cursed life mentor." The doctor said that Kong Dante might have awakened some inconspicuous talent, the kind of trait not easily noticed in society. For example, 182's astonishing recovery ability. That recovery was not entirely due to the doctor. 182's body itself was already highly abnormal. After hearing that, Kong Dante fell into thought. 182's recovery limits really had long since been broken. But the talent of 182 that Kong Dante knew was not recovery. His talent was hearing, and 182's talent was clearly far more than just that. He could move at speeds beyond Rambutan, and could even knock down someone at shoulder level with a single punch. Thinking about it now, everything about 182 was unreasonable. There really are people in the world like me, with hardly any advantages. And then there are those who are simply born standing at the top. I've observed 182 carefully, and I think he's the latter, someone innately gifted. If his learning ability could keep up, then he would become absolutely terrifying." Kong Dante looked at 182 and asked seriously, "Can you say it again, about the Supreme Leader?" Kong Dante felt that the key to opening the gate of the fog was in 182's hands. The doctor frowned. "What is the Supreme Leader?" "I heard 182 mention. It's a legend in Fogland. The person with unlimited talents will become the god of liberation and free everyone here." The doctor thought that was absurd. But Kong Dante did not believe in baseless rumors, and he wanted to hear 182 say it himself. 182 said that he did not understand it either, only that those lunatics said it every day, and he could not make any sense of it. Kong Dante was dissatisfied. "But before, you said that as long as someone became the Supreme Leader, they could leave this place." 182 said, "That's a bad then." That answer made Kong Dante freeze. 182 asked Kong Dante in return, Did he want to become the supreme leader here? If that's what you want, I've already told you. You absolutely can't do it. Kong Dante snapped back. If I can't do it, can you? Don't you have lots of talents? Not even the slightest chance? 182 raised his own arm. I can't do it either, because I don't have a hand. Kong Dante went numb with anger. You did that on purpose, didn't you? Every time I try to talk seriously, you drag the conversation somewhere else. You're driving me insane. I thought we had already become close enough, after going through so much together. Can you understand how desperate I am right now? I really, desperately want to escape. 182 said that he did not understand. 182's reaction made Kong Dante think of a terrifying possibility. He roared at 182, from the very beginning, you never planned to help me escape, did you? Then what exactly are you doing? Were you just following me because you thought it was fun? The doctor told Kong Dante to calm down. But Kong Dante could not calm down at all. From the very beginning, you never seriously answered any of my questions. What crime did you commit to get locked in here? Why do you insist on wearing a paper bag over your head? What exactly is inside your package? What is your real talent? Most ridiculous of all, up to now, I don't even know your name. I need you to be honest and tell me, who exactly are you? At that moment, 182 was clearly afraid. He wanted to run. And Kong Dante could clearly feel it too. The 182 before him had changed. 182 slowly stood up. Like a child, he walked away without looking back. Kong Dante hurriedly shouted after him, "Where are you going?" The doctor followed after him and noticed that 182 had left without even taking his package. Very soon, it was evening. They waited a long time, and 182 still did not come back. There are too many unstable factors in him. You can't communicate with him. Besides being stupid, he's also violent, and there are problems everywhere. Actually, I never told 182 the plan either. I felt that even if I explained it, he wouldn't understand. So I suspect that he doesn't want to leave with us at all. He's just someone we happen to meet here. It's unfortunate, but maybe this is where our connection ends. After saying that, Kong Dante started rummaging through 182's package. He was too curious. What exactly was inside that made 182 refuse to let it go even if he died? Maybe there really was something useful in that bundle. The doctor frowned. That's not right. You're not a thief, so why are you going through someone else's things? But 182 has already left, so this bag no longer has an owner. The doctor shook his head. That's not how it works. I think we have to take him with us, because he isn't a criminal. Kong Dante was completely stunned. Not a criminal? Then why is he here? He thought the doctor had to be mistaken. The doctor recalled the past. He had once treated an extremely young patient here, called a fog-born baby. Kong Dante had never heard that term before. Time went back many years, when a man came to see the doctor. He approached carefully. I want to ask the doctor for a favor. Could you come to my home and examine someone? The doctor had not expected someone to ask for a house call. It seemed the person could not come to the hospital at all. So the doctor followed him there. When he pushed open the door, he saw a baby. In that instant, his pupils sharply contracted. There was actually a child here. But Fogland was a prison built for criminals, so how could there be a child? But the man said that it was his child. The doctor found it absurd to the extreme and turned to go report it to the administration. The man immediately stopped him. You can't do that. If you report it, something terrible will happen. Please, just pretend you've never seen us. The man said that the administration would help no one. Adults and children alike were treated the same way. People born and raised in Fogland were called fog-born babies. That was what they were called here. There were not many such children, but they were by no means rare either. So the doctor speculated that 182 was very likely someone born here. Only then did Kong Dante understand. 182 had never gone outside. He had always been here. That fact struck into Kong Dante's mind like thunder and shattered his worldview on the spot. To give birth to and raise children in the land of fog, among all the immoral things Kong Dante had seen here, was the one that chilled him most deeply. In the end, the doctor could only report it to the administration, and that father and child, or parents, hurriedly left the village afterward and were never seen again. Then what exactly was the bad thing 182 had spoken of? Only then did Kong Dante realize what an unbelievably stupid thing he had just done. In an instant, he understood. Right now, the one who most needed help was neither himself nor the doctor, but 182. At this moment, 182's voice carried the sound of tears. My sweet potatoes? I can't grow sweet potatoes anymore. He slowly raised his head. I originally wanted to show you. And the direction 182 was looking toward was the giant in front of him. Whenever he felt sad, he would come here. 182 did not understand, and could not understand. So he hoped that the person he missed would come back. The mother who had fallen from the sky. So please release an even fiercer storm. Please stop their footsteps. Please cover their eyes. Leave behind only the sound of heartbeats, so they know that we are one. Come back quickly and tell me how to calm this enormous storm. At this moment, inside the women's prison, Because the winter solstice was approaching, the prison boss sneezed. Winter was coming, and that meant it was time to switch the supply crates. She faced all the female prisoners. "Are you all ready to fight?" "Boss, we've monopolized it for 5 years. Wouldn't it be fine to let the Kundalini team have this one?" The female boss's face instantly darkened. "What, are all of you this timid? We have to win." Lupin wanted to say more, but the sister beside her stopped her. The boss told Lupin to shut up. This supply crate was very important. Because it was the gift she wanted to give Lala, specifically to make Lala happy. The boss burst out laughing. "Scared you, didn't I? I announced your gift in front of everyone." Then she grew a little shy and slapped Lala on the back. "Did you see their expressions? They must be insanely jealous." But Lala could tell, that did not look like jealousy at all, but more like irritation and tension before a battle. "What exactly is inside the supply crate?" The boss said there was nothing special, just the things dropped every quarter by the administrative office. Lala felt there was no need to fight over such things. She wanted to refuse the boss's kindness, but the boss would not allow it. "There are lots of good things inside. Once I snatch it and give it to you, you'll understand." Suddenly, Lala changed the subject and asked a question. She brought up the matter of meeting Broom. The moment the boss heard the name Broom, her expression turned ugly. Not just her, even another female prisoner nearby changed expression on the spot. The boss stared at Lala, her tone very flat. "Why are you curious about her?" Lala said that a girl so young should not be in a place like this. The boss suddenly laughed. "Because you're a teacher? You really do like children. But I don't like that child at all. She's annoying as hell." But what Lala wanted to ask was not whether she liked her or not. She wanted to ask why the child was here. But before she could finish, someone grabbed her. "You crazy woman, why do you keep pestering the boss with so many questions? I already warned you, don't get involved, don't interfere. This is all for Broom's sake." 10 minutes later, Lala and that bald woman came to the back door. The bald woman finally cleared up Lala's confusion. After hearing it, Lala was so shocked she felt cold. "You're saying, that child was born here?" The bald woman told her not to make such a big deal out of it. People who came running around outside the women's prison often caused this kind of thing. "Doesn't the administration bureau know?" The bald woman said coldly that the administrative office did not even really exist, and they could not contact it. No matter what happened, those people would never intervene. "Do you think there are only a few people here who were locked up without having committed a crime? From the very beginning, you were never going back to your old life. The only thing you can do is adapt. Stop mentioning the administrative office. Especially in front of the boss. In this place, you must not show that you really want to get out." Broom's mother was a good person. She was innocent, just like you. But she died at the boss's hands. She died as easily as an ant being crushed. Meanwhile, Kong Dante was discussing 182 with the doctor. His parents were most likely prisoners. He had received no education, and he might even have been eroded by the fog from birth. He was not hiding his identity. He simply had no identity at all, not even a name. At the mention of names, the doctor seemed a little surprised. "Didn't you say his name was David?" Only then did Kong Dante slowly stand up. "So you're that naive too? I casually made up a name that day, and I didn't expect you to actually believe it. So doctors can be foolish too." After that, Kong Dante went to the bathroom. On the way, the phrase "fogborn newborn" kept circling in his mind. They were not the only innocent scapegoats trapped here. Some utterly absurd thing was continuing to happen. But no one spoke up for their dignity and rights. Had absolute cruelty already tamed them? Kong Dante could not say exactly what kind of hell this was, or who had created it and for what purpose. But did he really need to keep asking why? He looked up at the moon, as if he could see his brother. "Are you really going to bury yourself here? You're not a champion of justice, and you're not a revolutionary. What you need to do is get out safely. Be rational. You don't have any spare energy to care about others." Listening to his brother's barbed mockery, Kong Dante quietly spat out a few words. "Shut up. If there's one thing I've learned here, it's that I've finally understood I'm not always the one who's wrong." Then Kong Dante slowly pulled open the door. He made his decision, to go find 182. He walked straight over to 182's luggage. "We have to find 182. I think the same as you do. He has to come with us. Now that I know 182's story, there's no way I can leave him alone in this prison. So I have to thank you. Thank you for not rejecting 182 back then." The doctor felt that was only natural, as long as Kong Dante was still human. But Kong Dante said it was not obvious at all. Just look at their situation. That day he could have left Dumpling Village alone and escaped easily. For survival, that would have been the optimal choice. But he could not do it. Just as the doctor said, he learned slowly. But he was also certain that in the end, he had made the right choice. The person I desperately wanted to save, like you, is a kind person. Kong Dante planned to find some kind of bait in 182's bundle. 182 had definitely stuffed the thing he valued most inside. The doctor thought there might be something like a diary inside, but Kong Dante said that was impossible. because 182 was illiterate. In the next second, Kong Dante's pupils froze. When the bundle was opened, it was actually packed full of garbage. That only made it stranger. Why was 182 so unwilling to throw any of this away? Suddenly, the doctor found a sweet potato inside. The moment he saw the sweet potato, Kong Dante's heart lit up. This was the thing he valued most. But in the next second, the doctor threw the sweet potato straight into the fire pit. Kong Dante barely even thought. The instant the sweet potato fell into the fire, he reached in and grabbed it out. The doctor thought Kong Dante had gone mad, but he did not know this was the best bait possible. Fortunately, the sweet potato was fine, well preserved, even fresh. Then Kong Dante froze once again, because he discovered that the sweet potato had actually sprouted. Although it was growing extremely slowly, it really was sprouting bit by bit, even in a cruel place like this. Elsewhere, after leaving the group, 182 found a place and went to sleep. Then two people woke him up. This was their territory. The moment 182 heard voices, he sat up and said he had not been sleeping, but the two had already heard his snoring loud and clear. The two men looked fierce and vicious. Now that you're awake, get the hell out. This place is huge, and you had to come bother us here? Didn't you see the mark on the ground? Only then did 182 notice that he was lying on top of a coordinate point. He had thought it was a place meant for sleeping. This is where we receive supply crates. The moment those words came out, his companion clapped a hand over his mouth. Are you crazy? How dare you say something like that out loud? This is a secret drop point even the shoulders don't know about. The two exchanged a look, then both stared at 182. There was no other choice now. We can only take care of him here. 182 heard that sentence loud and clear. 182 asked again to make sure. Are you sure you want to get rid of me? He slowly stood up. Since they wanted to fight, he was not going to back down. The two were startled. This guy was even bigger than they had imagined. But they were not too panicked, because there were guns at their waists. We're from the technology team. I'm an expert in homemade firearms, and I'm the next one who's going to become a shoulder. The other one introduced himself too. I'm Wilson, the killer of the tech faction squad. My special skill is absolute pitch. 182 could not understand him at all and only kept walking toward them step by step. The man in the cap panicked. You're really not afraid? I'll shoot. Bang, bang, he fired several shots in a row, but all of them missed. He shouted in panic to his companion. He could not hit this guy at all. His companion had just raised his gun when, in an instant, the gun was gone. At some unknown moment, the weapon had already ended up in 182's hand. His companion was terrified on the spot. How the hell had he done that? 182 slowly rested his hand on the trigger. With the slightest movement of his finger, Wilson would die right here. At once, the other man's voice rang out. Please wait a second. He rolled on the ground and begged for mercy. Boss, please spare us this once. We'll do anything you tell us. That scene left both 182 and Wilson dumbfounded. 182 said coldly, shut up. I don't want to hear you talk anymore. The man immediately shut up for real. A short while later, 182 gave both of them a thorough beating. What exactly is this supply crate? Explain it clearly. Boss, you must be new here, right? You don't even know this, and you're still this strong. The so-called supply crate was a gift box filled with all sorts of useful things. Many of their weapons were also made from things found inside the crates. It was precisely by relying on supply crates that they had managed to gain a foothold in this area. But supply crates were not for everyone. At most 2 or 3 would drop in a village, and the vast majority were taken by the shoulders. And the place where 182 was now standing was known only to them as a drop point, so remote that even the shoulders had not noticed it. At that point, the blonde-haired one invited 182 to join their technology team. 182 did not understand what a technology team was and asked only one thing, whether there were sweet potatoes. The two both froze, and 182 asked again, are there sweet potatoes in the supply crates? The other man was not sure either. There should be plant-related things, I guess, like seeds you can grow. But 182 only cared about sweet potatoes. He did not care about anything else. There probably are. If there are seeds, you might even be able to grow hundreds or thousands of sweet potatoes. The moment he heard hundreds or thousands of sweet potatoes, 182's expression changed instantly. Elsewhere, Kong Dante shouted through the streets for 182, the sweet potato you treasure most has already started sprouting. Your sweet potato, childlike as it is, has taken its first step. Are you going to be the kind of parent who won't even spare a glance at your own child? But no matter how Kong Dante shouted, 182 never appeared. By rights, 182's hearing was extremely sharp. He could hear voices hundreds of meters away. If he were nearby, he would definitely hear it. At that moment, the doctor slowly pulled a scalpel from his pocket. In a low voice, he said, if you still don't show yourself, this sweet potato is as good as dead. He deliberately lowered his voice even more. The lower it was, the more oppressive it felt. But even after waiting a long time, 182 still did not come. The doctor made a judgment. 182 might not care about the sweet potato at all. He had already gone far away. Kong Dante could not guess where 182 might have gone. Had he gone to the cafeteria? But just then, the doctor noticed that something seemed to be moving in the distant sky, and he told Kong Dante to look up too. The two looked toward the sky and saw 3 helicopters sweeping past. Looking carefully, there was a box hanging beneath the helicopters. Kong Dante immediately understood. That was the supply crate. But the more important thing was the helicopters themselves. If they could get close to one, wouldn't it be possible to get out? The two immediately ran after the helicopters. Kong Dante hoped they could somehow make the people above notice a distress signal. But after chasing for quite a while, the doctor realized those people were never going to spare them a glance. Still, they had no better option, so they could only continue the chase. I want to see where these helicopters are flying. Maybe they'll head to headquarters. Suddenly, Kong Dante heard a huge commotion behind him. And when he looked back, groups of criminals were chasing after them too. He instantly felt that something was wrong. Why were these bastards following too? At that moment, 182 was covering his ears, trembling in pain. A helicopter was circling above several people. 2 people below were waiting for it. The supply crate was about to be dropped. They waved excitedly upward. "We are over here. Drop it down like usual." With a click, the clamp holding the supply crate opened. As usual, the supply crate dropped precisely onto the designated spot. There definitely had to be things for winter inside this time, otherwise they would freeze to death. Suddenly, a dark shadow swooped down. The blonde-haired man froze on the spot. Where did all these crows come from? Every single one of them is staring at the supply crate. The blonde-haired man realized something was about to go wrong. If they delayed, the crate would be stolen. Very quickly, the flock of crows directly carried the supply crate off toward another place. The blonde-haired man exploded with anger. "Damn filthy birds. Chase them and take the crate back." 182 was on the verge of breaking down from the noise. His hearing was far too sharp. Those cries felt like they were drilling into his bones. With no other choice, the group could only sprint after the crows all the way. The flock of crows stopped over an open area. The yellow supply crate dropped down and instantly drew a crowd. Kong Dante was in the crowd too, and he could not understand why everyone was staring at this box. The doctor speculated that the box might have been deployed by the administration department, and perhaps contained things like weapons. Everyone immediately began arguing. Who should get the box? By the rules it should go to the boss, but the boss was already gone. Someone proposed splitting it equally, but that was impossible. There were too many people. Someone else suggested opening it directly. Whoever grabbed something first would keep it. Just then, a round-faced little fat guy in the crowd shouted, "Everyone stop. Even if the boss is gone, the rules won't change. Only the strongest person deserves to take it. And I am the strongest here. If anyone wants to challenge me, come ahead." The moment he finished speaking, someone sneered in defiance. "Trying that old trick? Then let's settle it with our fists for the first time in a while." More and more people objected. "I'm joining too. This might even decide who becomes the next shoulder. Come on, let's try it." The 4 strongest fighters in the area stepped together. "Looks like it's just the 4 of us. Whoever is left standing at the end takes the box. No objections, right?" Standing in the crowd, Kong Dante gave the doctor a shove. "Aren't you curious what's inside the box? I think we should take it too." The doctor turned cold with anger. "You want me to get mixed up in this too?" Kong Dante's tone was firm. "We need to know exactly what the administration department is dropping here." After a few more exchanges, the doctor realized he could not out-argue Kong Dante and had no choice but to step in. He took 1 step forward. "Anyone who doesn't want to die, move aside." That sentence instantly ignited public outrage. "Looking like that, you're some kind of doctor. And where the hell did you come from? But no matter where you're from, we don't care. With that weak little body of yours, you still want to act tough?" The giant baby-faced brute counted. "There are 5 of us in total. The numbers don't work. Let's just give the doctor a bye and let him into the final round." The doctor sneered. "No need. All of you, come at once." "All of us together?" The baby-faced brute got angry. "You put on a bigger act than I do? Then I won't hold back." In an instant, the baby-faced brute charged straight at the doctor. The doctor quietly activated his ability and scanned the man's entire network of veins. The fog in his bloodstream was sparse, and he did not seem to have any special talent either. An opponent like this was far too easy for the doctor, just a sluggish sack of inflated muscle. In the next moment, the doctor gripped his scissors tightly and swung. And with a single punch he made that massive muscle cough blood and spit out 2 teeth. A brute that strong was taken down by the doctor in just a few moves. Even more absurdly, the baby-faced brute started crying on the spot. The others laughed. "You were acting so arrogant just now, and you're actually trash. What's the use of being big?" That sentence seemed aimed at another person, because that man was huge too. "Stop joking around," he said coldly. "Let them see the real difference in body size." With that, his enormous body charged at the doctor. The doctor glanced at his legs. His obesity made his lower body extremely unstable. The doctor lightly tapped one foot against his inflamed joint, then raised a hand and pressed down, speaking calmly. With a body like yours, you should first learn how to lose weight. That scene left the others terrified. How can this guy be this strong? The doctor burst out laughing. The rest of you, stop standing there. Come at me together. One by one is too boring. That oppressive presence directly scared the remaining 2 men out of any will to fight. 2 minutes passed, and those men from before had already been beaten down mercilessly by the doctor. The onlookers were all stunned. The doctor had practically disposed of so many people in an instant. After dealing with those idiots, Kong Dante and the doctor immediately rushed to the box. The crowd began whispering, could they be filling the vacancy in the tower and becoming the new shoulders of the Steel Alley? The more they looked, the more wrong it felt. Maybe they were already shoulders. Especially the bespectacled one beside him. Wasn't he the glasses guy who destroyed the tower and took down Drillhead and Hound's gang one after another, the boss of the teacher gang? Everyone sucked in a cold breath at Kong Dante's identity. The doctor stepped forward. What are you all staring at? Do any of you still have objections to this box? A man quickly said, how could we? This box belongs to the teacher gang now. The words teacher gang made the doctor somewhat confused. Even the Steel Alley belongs to you now. In the future, we hope you'll look after us. At that moment, Kong Dante heard someone calling out to him. Hey, Glasses boss. If I'm not mistaken, you should be a teacher, right? The one who took out all the bosses from the same district. The doctor's gaze swept over, and Kong Dante felt numb with embarrassment. Teacher gang? Damn it, the rumors are getting more and more absurd. But in this place, at least it's better than being trampled on. So Kong Dante simply admitted it. That's right, I am the boss of the teacher gang. I discipline everyone through instruction. Does anyone have a problem with that? The moment they heard teacher, everyone froze on the spot. So you really are the teacher of the teacher gang. Kong Dante grew bolder as he went on. If you don't want to be disciplined by me, stay far away from us from now on. But what he heard in return was something else. From now on, the Steel Alley belongs to the teacher gang. We hope you'll protect us. Now that there are no more shoulders here, punks from nearby keep coming to rob us every day. As long as teacher is willing to deal with them, we're willing to pay protection money. Kong Dante sensed that something was wrong. Things were starting to spin out of control. So he decided to lay it all out publicly. I am a shoulder with every imaginable evil, but why should I protect you? I sympathize with your situation, but people can only survive by relying on themselves. At that moment, someone in the crowd slowly spoke. He said that among all of them, not a single one had any ability. By ability, he meant talent. At that moment, it was as if Kong Dante saw countless pairs of eyes pleading to him for help. It was as though he could see straight through them. They could not hide in his eyes, only reveal their true state. Someone said they no longer even had a single blanket left, and if they were robbed anymore, they would not survive this winter and would all die. Kong Dante still had not figured out what was happening. Why was he able to see these things? Just then, a huge sound exploded in his mind. The noise was so sharp it hurt his ears, and he whipped around. The others heard it too. Why are there gunshots? Could those guys have come? Very soon, someone in the crowd saw 2 people walking out. One of them was holding a gun and slowly said, I was wondering where you all ran off to. So it turns out you're here. I didn't expect to run into old friends here. The Steel Alley. Good thing it's a lousy place without any shoulders. The 2 in front of them were well known, the Tech Faction Squad. The doctor could not understand where these 2 idiots got their confidence from. 2 broken guns, and they were acting this arrogant. They're the ones who go around threatening people with guns and robbing them everywhere. The 2 laughed even more wildly. Everybody, hands up, the box is ours. This crate was supposed to be ours to begin with, and then a bunch of crows carried it away. Someone refused to believe it. Bullshit. That was clearly dropped by a helicopter. How could crows have delivered it? The blonde-haired one sneered. Do you have a problem with that? Or do you want me to put a hole in your stomach right now? He waved the gun around, warning the doctor and Kong Dante to stay away from the box. If they did not want to eat bullets, they should not move. The doctor grew furious and prepared to walk up and pin him down directly. But Kong Dante grabbed him and signaled him not to act rashly. Kong Dante felt as if his body had changed, and even the 2 people in front of him had changed too. They can't fire. Don't worry. The 2 looked confused. What are you talking about? Do you think we're pushovers? But in Kong Dante's eyes, they were nothing but 2 timid bugs, hiding in their shells and not daring to come out. The doctor did not understand Kong Dante's change and still pressed him. Are you sure they can't fire? That question instead made Kong Dante freeze. You weren't actually planning to go up there yourself, were you? Just as he tried to hold the doctor back, the doctor had already rushed out. The 2 men immediately grew nervous. Stop. If you don't stop, we'll shoot. But not only did the doctor not stop, he moved even faster. Although Kong Dante was convinced they would not dare fire, he still instinctively covered his ears. Once people went mad, they could do anything. The blonde-haired one's hand trembled violently. If you come any closer, I'll really shoot. The doctor punched the gun out of his hand, then followed it with a right hook to his face. The other one was already scared senseless, let alone firing. He could hardly even stand. The doctor kicked the gun from his hand. As expected, idiots. They really couldn't fire. But what concerned the doctor more was this: how had Kong Dante known in advance? When the doctor's gaze bore down on him, Kong Dante's throat went dry with nerves. He did not know how to explain it. The doctor's questioning came again. How exactly did you know? Kong Dante said quietly, I can't really explain it either. I can just see certain things. Wilson started crying in fear. If the boss were here, I wouldn't have ended up this badly. The boss he mentioned immediately drew the doctor's attention. The two shouted toward the back, Boss, come help us. When the doctor and Kong Dante saw who their boss was, both of them froze. Gloomy eyes, blue pupils. Wasn't this man 182, who had left the group? How had he become the boss? Meanwhile, in the women's prison, they too were fighting over who the box belonged to. Lala stared in shock. Because a bloodbath was about to begin. The female boss spoke slowly. Long time no see, Kundalini. Kundalini replied coldly that they were not close enough to be exchanging greetings. This woman was the second in command of the women's prison. Since Kundalini was not being polite, the female boss dropped the act as well and ordered her to get off the box immediately. Kundalini laughed. Your box? You've got nerve saying that. You've killed so many people and taken so many things, and you still don't know how to back down? The female boss knew that there was no avoiding a fight today, because neither of them would yield. She loosened her body a little. How exciting. I finally get to have a good fight again. The women behind her also tensed up, and the two sides were about evenly matched in strength. But just then, Kundalini suddenly shouted, Stop. She did not want innocent sisters dragged into this, so, you and I will fight alone. Let's settle this here today. You and me, a fight to the death. Kundalini's companions could hardly believe what they were hearing. In other words, for this box, they were going to fight until one of them died. From within the crowd, Lala could tell, Kundalini was not a coward. She was more like a real leader, the kind who carried the burden herself when something happened. Lala remembered someone saying that the white-haired girl's mother had been a good person, innocent, just like Lala. And yet she had died at the boss's hands. So Lala even felt that rather than staying on Kali's side, it would be better to be taken by that other person. At least she cared about her companion's safety. The female boss stamped heavily forward. Interesting. Then one-on-one. With a single dash, she instantly closed in on Kundalini. She had intended to kill in one blow, but Kundalini dodged it easily. Kundalini's speed was absurd, especially her reactions. But the female boss's speed was just as terrifying, catching up in the blink of an eye. She threw punch after punch, but never landed one on Kundalini. Lala watched in amazement. What was wrong with this woman? How could a body bend that softly? Kundalini laughed softly. How does it feel? I'm a tendon sorcerer. A lot of things don't require brute force. But in the next second, Kundalini's expression froze. The female boss grinned savagely. Interesting. At last, a woman dares to fight me properly. The female boss caught her by the ankle and swung her up with one arm. The moment her ankle was seized, Kundalini lost her rhythm. But she quickly thought of a solution. Her limbs were long enough to wrap around the other woman's neck. Sure enough, she forcibly wound herself around the female boss's neck, a crescent-style human knot. Using softness and muscle tension to lock her down, she intended to strangle the female boss to death. Do you think people avoid you because they're cowards? Someone like you, who thinks strength can solve everything, will never understand. You don't know how to protect your own people at all. Die here. Lala secretly agreed too. If Kundalini could kill her here, that would be for the best. But then the female boss laughed lowly. Didn't you know? My neck is wrapped in tendon. The female boss clasped both hands onto Kundalini's thighs, and with force in her arms, directly tore her muscles. Kundalini screamed out, tears almost spilling over. Lala could not believe it. The female boss was actually this vicious. That sight completely ignited Kundalini's companions, and they wildly struck the female boss with their weapons. Lala was even less able to believe it. Kali was actually being swarmed and beaten by so many people. She quietly glanced around, and found that the boss's own sisters wore calm expressions, with no one stepping forward to help. So that paper-thin trust of hers shattered the instant life and death were involved. This was the ending of an incompetent leader. Suddenly one heavy blow knocked one person's weapon away, and then an elbow strike sent another person's weapon flying. Lala saw clearly, in front of the female boss, these people were utterly no match. Kundalini was the first to be sent flying, and then 4 or 5 others were blasted away one after another. A one-on-one duel had been forcefully turned into a massacre. Kundalini's younger girls were complete cannon fodder, and the female boss did not even bother to look at them directly. The female boss demanded of Kundalini, "Say that again? Who exactly can you protect?" Kundalini was completely terrified now and shouted for everyone to run. But how could the female boss possibly let them go? After fighting, she wanted to run. Lala saw a scene that chilled her. She felt Callie was strong in a way that ignored all reason, as if she could disregard every rule. The female boss carried the box to Lala and the pressure coming off her was overwhelming. She gave Lala a slight smile. "Little chick, I brought you your gift." Lala had already gone numb. There were no normal people in this place at all, and this female boss before her was the least normal of all. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Kong Dante and the doctor finally found 182. He was hiding behind an oil drum. Both of them were shocked. "Why are you here? We've been looking for you for ages." The most miserable ones were the two underlings behind him. They never would have dreamed that these people actually knew each other. But after the two got closer, 182 still did not come out, and something was clearly wrong with his eyes. Holding back his anger, the doctor walked straight toward 182. He grabbed 182 and demanded, "What are you doing, brat? Do you think this is a game right now? You clearly never went far, so why are you still causing trouble for everyone?" But 182 only wore an expression like a dead fish. The doctor's anger flared, and he yanked 182's hood off. And the next second, the doctor was completely stunned. 182 snatching the hood back was not even the main point. The main point was his eyes, as if he were a different person. The doctor felt that 182 was angry, and the two underlings behind him were also seeing the boss's face for the first time. He was actually a coldly handsome young man. The doctor kept apologizing. "Sorry, brat, say something. What's wrong with you exactly?" But Kong Dante could tell that it was not anger. There was definitely something far more complicated going on with 182. At that moment, a strong shock surged through Kong Dante's heart, because he saw something on 182. Huge palms, one after another, pressing 182 hard into the ground. This was absolutely not an ordinary hallucination. It felt so real that it seemed possible to reach out and touch it. But why was 182 being pinned down by something like this? Why was he being crushed this way? 182's gaze was still wrong. Kong Dante slowly said, "182, do you want me to pull you out?" The next second, 182 smashed a heavy punch into his face. Kong Dante had never expected 182 to hit him. 182 said coldly, "I heard it. You wanted to kill my sweet potato." The doctor gave a dry laugh. "So that's what this is. We were just joking." But 182 did not hear a word of it. "If you want to kill it, then kill it. I don't need that sweet potato anymore. Because now, I have 300 sweet potatoes." Hearing 300 sweet potatoes, Kong Dante froze on the spot. The doctor also felt that 182 was talking nonsense. There was no way a red box would be filled with nothing but sweet potatoes. But no matter how they explained, 182 would not believe them, and even thought they had come to steal his sweet potatoes. The doctor did not want to keep circling around it. "Bring the red box over. I have something to say to you." Kong Dante followed up, "We'll split what's in the box together. Friends shouldn't be petty with each other." But 182 said it all belonged to him, and that they were not friends either. That statement made the doctor laugh in anger. He turned and walked toward the garbage bag on the ground. "Then who does this belong to?" The moment he saw the garbage bag, 182's pupils widened sharply. The doctor deliberately said, "Kong Dante wouldn't let me throw it away and even made a point of bringing it here. Looks like this pile of junk really should be thrown out." 182's expression darkened. "That belongs to me too. Give it back." The doctor replied coldly, "If you want it, behave yourself and bring the box back." 182 completely took the doctor for a greedy thief, someone who wanted both his things and his sweet potatoes. Listening to 182's childish and stubborn logic, the doctor finally exploded too. "Do you even know why they are doing this right now?" The doctor could not be bothered to finish and directly slammed 182's bundle to the ground. "Rather than explaining it until you understand, it'd be easier to just cut your tendons and drag you away." As he spoke, he grabbed 182 by the collar, the scissors in his hand clicking sharply. But this time, 182 reacted in a completely unexpected way. He struck first and grabbed the doctor by the throat. The people watching behind them instantly erupted. "They're fighting. The teacher gang and the tech faction squad are at war. The tech faction squad is challenging a shoulder." A so-called shoulder challenge was a battle launched against a shoulder. The crowd behind Kong Dante went completely mad, shouting loud enough to shake the air. "You dare challenge the teacher gang? You're finished." And the two young guys behind 182 also screamed excitedly, "Who cares about the teacher gang? It's just some nameless little gang. Boss, hit them hard." Kong Dante's expression turned so complex it went cold. What kind of absurd situation even was this? Time went back to the previous evening, when Kong Dante and the doctor had been chatting. What if 182 refuses? What if he doesn't want to leave at all? I don't know why he suddenly ran off today, but I feel like he's deliberately avoiding the subject of escaping. I've heard him say before too, just shut up and stay alive. No rescue team is coming to find us here. Anyone who goes out dies. No one gets out of this place. The doctor guessed that maybe 182 simply did not know how to get out. But Kong Dante felt that might not be it. Maybe he had already given up on freedom. because fog was addictive and made people not want to go anywhere without fog. The doctor could not say for sure, and could only admit that it was indeed possible. He himself had been like that before too, before Kong Dante brought him out. Especially when nearing the critical point, the brain would become frenzied and lose control, even using guilt as an excuse to force itself to keep staying in Fogland. Of course, now all I want is to leave this place, with the hospital staff badge. If that's the case, 182 may really want to stay here. He doesn't know what lies outside, and there is no one outside waiting for him to return. This gray world is all he has. And since 182 grew up here all his life, the physical risks for him after going outside are also very high. If he refuses, then I have to respect his choice. But the doctor said, I will save 182. You and I just need to find a way to save him. If he refuses, then we'll just cut his tendons and take him away. Kong Dante stood up on the spot. Are you serious? Why would you go that far? When the doctor heard that, he turned over. He simply did not want to leave anyone behind here ever again while walking away alone. Kong Dante understood. The doctor was seeking redemption, using 182 as a substitute for the ones he had failed to save. The heavy weight in the doctor's heart, 182 could never possibly understand. The crowd kept egging them on, urging them to fight already. The doctor threatened fiercely, you bastard, I really will cut your tendons. 182 did not back down either. Let go of me, or I really will kill you. Some people were already too impatient. Hey, white coat boss, stop just yelling. Your neck's still being strangled. Make your move first. Yeah, use the scissors. Gouge his eyeballs out. The doctor was not crazy, and 182 was not crazy either. The crazy ones were the people yelling at the side. The doctor could not make sense of the nonsense they were shouting. They kept on screaming for the doctor to chop 182's head off and hang it up. The underlings on 182's side were equally insane. Our boss has really killed people. He's not just talking. Not a single person in this place was normal. At that thought, even the doctor's hands began to tremble. Kong Dante shouted angrily, enough. All of you, shut up. The doctor and 182 both turned to look at Kong Dante. What are you all doing? How old are you people? Even if you won't break up a fight, you're still standing there egging it on. Kill this one, kill that one. Are you even human? Is human life really this cheap in your eyes? The force of Kong Dante's anger frightened many of them, his voice crashing down like thunder. You say those two kids with guns are bad people. But from where I'm standing, you're not much better. Uncivilized and stupid as hell. Disgusting and despicable. The second you get even a little strength you turn into beasts, and your favorite thing is bullying the weak. Then keep living by your own logic if you want. That's the rule set you made for yourselves, and you're beyond saving. And don't come pretending to be pitiful and begging for help later. They were scolded so hard that not one of them could say a word. Kong Dante turned around and stared at the doctor, asking what exactly he was trying to do. If you have something to say, can't you just say it? What's the point of bottling it up? If you want to help 182, then say it out loud. Is that really so hard? If you can't say it, I'll say it for you. The doctor angrily let go of 182's collar at once. Forget it. He does not even know he needs saving. Just look at the kind of mess this brat makes. What else is there to say? But Kong Dante picked it up from there. Even if he doesn't understand, we still have to try once. Kong Dante's expression was extremely serious. This time I'm serious. 182, are you willing to go out with us? To the world outside Fogland. Aren't you curious about the world outside? There are many things out there better than sweet potatoes. You've never even seen them. 182's eyes darkened. Before Kong Dante's eyes, a chain appeared. Then a stone door, wrapped all over in iron chains. 182 said coldly that Kong Dante was talking nonsense. There's a big thing outside. Do you want to die? Kong Dante told him not to worry. They were not going to the city wall. They were going to central headquarters. Hearing that made 182 even more agitated. I'm not going there. You asked me before why I cover my head, and you still don't understand, teacher? This is what people on the run use. That means I'm fleeing from the center. And elsewhere? There were many boxes piled up here. A large hand stroked a crow. That person praised it in a low voice. Well done. You must be hungry, right? I'll take you to get something to eat. The scene shifted, and the three prepared to sit down and talk. Through the window, it was clear that the discussion inside was intense. The underlings outside the door were nervous as hell. What exactly were the big shots of the teacher gang talking about? One of the brothers cursed, back off and stay away. Don't get in the way of our boss talking business. But this is our house. Watching the scene, Wilson felt that they all seemed to know each other. To him, the atmosphere even seemed harmonious. If nothing unexpected happened, the teacher gang and the tech faction squad would form an alliance. But inside the room, the discussion was actually full of tension. The doctor shouted, "What secret nonsense is this? Speak properly." Kong Dante was annoyed too. Why were they arguing like elementary school kids instead of sitting down and talking? But the doctor felt there was no way to talk at all. No matter what they asked, 182 just said it was classified. What are you, the FBI? 182 replied with, you're obviously just a doctor, but you're really strong. Completely off topic. Suppressing his anger, Kong Dante began sorting through the information they already knew. Anyway, 182 was born in the center, right? You don't know who your parents are. The person who raised you came from the center. You're on the run now, but the reason is classified. The doctor only wanted one definite answer. What exactly is the center? Don't play word games with me. Are you talking about the Administration Bureau? Is it dangerous if you say it out loud? 182 fell silent. No, everyone. If they get in the way, everyone will be in danger. Kong Dante understood that they 182 referred to should be the Administration Bureau. But 182 said he did not know anything about an administration bureau. He only knew that the things in the center were monsters. That sentence made both Kong Dante and the doctor freeze at the same time. If even 182 called them monsters, then they had to be real monsters. They must be looking for me now too, but I can escape. Because I can always hear those guys' heartbeats. So you want me to go to the center? Are you insane? I'm not going. The doctor slowly loosened his grip. What exactly are the monsters you're talking about? If you only say this much, what are we supposed to do? Explain clearly, and then we can decide whether or not to change the plan. Kong Dante interrupted the doctor. Whether the plan changes or not, the three of us are escaping. It's just that if we're going to get close to them, we have to be much more careful. Very soon, it was evening. Kong Dante felt that they should investigate the Administration Bureau first. By the end of the discussion, 182 still clung tightly to the box and refused to let go. He had fought for 2 hours to get it. The doctor kept complaining. How could there be such a weird guy? At that moment, a question from Kong Dante caught the doctor's attention. He asked whether there had ever been a case of someone discovering a talent without consuming fog. The doctor told him to wake up. A talent without relying on fog? You're making a wish. But what if my talent has already appeared? The doctor did not understand what Kong Dante was talking about. Kong Dante explained, didn't I say earlier that I saw something? On those two gunmen, I saw a frightened snail and a turtle, so I blurted out that they wouldn't dare shoot. The doctor said coldly, that was your only basis for judging they couldn't do it? I could have died because of that. Kong Dante told him to listen carefully. This was not the first time. I saw something on 182 too, those huge things pressing down on him. That's probably the secret 182 is carrying. That wanting to speak but being unable to look he has all matches up. Besides that, I've also seen the craving in the emotions of the people here. The doctor pressed for a conclusion. You're saying, you can read minds? Kong Dante froze too. Could it be that he really could read minds? The doctor told him to guess. What was the doctor thinking right now? Kong Dante looked into the doctor's eyes, but found that he could not see anything at all. I guess you're thinking, stop talking nonsense. Forget it, I'll pretend none of this happened. Maybe I'm just too tired and having hallucinations. But Kong Dante knew in his heart that was impossible. Even if he had awakened a talent, it should not have been this kind. Peering into people's hearts, that was what his brother had always been best at. At that moment, both Kong Dante and the doctor noticed what 182 was doing. 182 had discovered that the box he fought for would not open. Should I smash it open? Or, is it because someone with one arm can't open it? The doctor wanted to help 182, but was refused. I don't need your help. The doctor got angry and wanted to teach 182 what manners were. Kong Dante also felt that compared with clues about the Administration Bureau, opening the box was more important right now. Kong Dante walked over to 182. Let me see. How does it open? 182 was like a hen protecting its eggs. It's mine. I know it's yours. I'm just helping you open it. Friends can help each other. But 182 said they were no longer friends, because he was not going with them to the center. So what? People with different ideas can still be friends. People on different paths can still be friends. People from different worlds meet, affect each other, and grow more alike. That's what friends are. But 182 did not accept that. Friends have to be the same from the start. That's what friends are. He did not want to argue anymore either. They could help him open it, but they were not allowed to take the things inside. Kong Dante agreed and said he would repay him with 1 sweet potato. He called the doctor over to open the box together. I have 300 sweet potatoes, I don't care about your one. But they ignored 182 completely. Very soon, the wrapping strips around the box were torn away. Kong Dante slowly lifted the lid. He was also waiting in anticipation. What exactly was inside? There was no way a box dropped by the Administration Bureau contained only ordinary things. But the instant the lid opened, what was inside shocked Kong Dante. Elsewhere, Lala also opened a box. Inside hers was a medical kit, along with hygiene supplies, soap, toilet paper, razors, all daily necessities. Lala pulled out a piece of clothing and hoped there might be shoes too. She accidentally tore open a layer of the inner packaging. Lala's expression changed, because she thought she saw something like a gun inside. But when she picked it up, she realized. It was only a power drill. If it had been a real gun, she could have blown Callie's head off with one shot. She kept digging. Steel bars, wood, cement. Are they trying to train prisoners into construction workers? Is plywood the last piece? At the very end she saw a label. Chemical substances, handle with care. Lala grew even more confused. There was actually another box inside the box. She carefully opened the inner case. Lala's voice trembled. This counts as supplies too? Are they insane? Inside were oxidizers, hydrogen peroxide, organic solvent and metal powder, all hazardous materials. Lala did not understand. What were prisoners supposed to do with this? Were they expecting them to know chemistry? But on the other hand, these things were extremely familiar to Lala, because she had studied chemistry. Meanwhile, Kong Dante opened their box, and most of what was inside were daily necessities. 182 only kept asking where the sweet potatoes were, but nobody paid attention to him. The doctor pulled out a pile of clothes. Only then did Kong Dante realize, the people wearing ordinary clothes had gotten them from boxes like this. There were also plenty of construction materials in the box. Many structures in the prison had clearly been expanded later, obviously using these. Even stranger was this. The criminals were freely remodeling the prison and building their own kingdoms, yet the Administration Bureau simply allowed it. And this kind of irregular supply drop would only make the struggle even more intense. As if the Administration Bureau were deliberately pushing things along. The doctor picked up a bottle and asked Kong Dante what it was for. Kong Dante looked carefully. It was metal powder. And the box also contained a large amount of chemical materials. The doctor could not understand. Why would the Administration Bureau hand things like this to criminals? 182 was still rummaging around, looking for his sweet potatoes. Kong Dante realized how dangerous these chemicals were. This could easily end in disaster. After searching all around, 182 was on the verge of collapse. There were no sweet potatoes in the box at all. Kong Dante tossed him some sweet potato seeds. But 182 immediately saw that something was wrong. This was nothing like a sweet potato. He poured out all the seeds. Sweet potatoes are big. They don't look anything like this. 182's eyes reddened. You idiot. I wanted sweet potatoes. What are you giving me this for? Kong Dante explained that this really was sweet potato, just baby sweet potato. The moment 182 heard that, he stuffed the seeds into his pocket. The next second, they found what they wanted. With it, they could finally take a proper bath. But the most important thing now is, we need to wash this stinking 182 clean first. 182 still had no idea what was about to happen to him. The next second, Kong Dante dumped a basin of water straight over him. 182 protested. What are you doing? Didn't you say you'd only help wash my clothes? The doctor said the smell on 182 was too strong, so strong it was stinging his nose. Kong Dante had been here this long, and 182 had still refused to let even a drop of water touch him. 182 truly could not understand. Why do you insist on doing this? Kong Dante said that people bathing was normal. If you got dirty, you had to wash. If you never washed, you would get sick or even die. Your whole body would be covered in bacteria, and your teeth would rot too. But 182 acted like he was afraid of water and absolutely refused to wash. At last the doctor snapped and aimed the faucet right at him. Why exactly are you afraid of water? And what do you even use to wipe your ass? You don't even have paper in your bag, you filthy bastard. Kong Dante nearly threw up hearing that. 182 was way too unhygienic. But 182's eyes were full of contempt. This little water can't do anything to me. In the next second, 182 blurred and darted around, dodging every stream of water. The doctor refused to believe it and turned the water on even stronger. 182 did a flip and dodged again. But that also exposed an opening, and Kong Dante instantly threw the soap over. As 182 landed, he stepped on it and flipped. After a huge struggle, Kong Dante finally managed to pin 182 down. The doctor said, "Beautiful. Today we are absolutely giving him a thorough wash." But 182's expression suddenly changed, and his whole body started shaking. "You've gone too far. Why are you attacking me with water?" Kong Dante scooped up another basin of water and dumped it over him. "This isn't an attack. We're helping you." Foam covered 182's eyes. Now was the moment to make their move. Under 182's furious stare, the doctor walked toward him carrying a scrubbing cloth. A quick note here. 182 feared water because of trauma left from childhood. After struggling for 3 hours, they finally scrubbed all the grime off 182's body. His skin was whiter, and he looked much more handsome. But the two of them were also exhausted to the point of collapse. Kong Dante could not understand why 182 reacted so strongly to taking a bath. Did he really have aquaphobia? 182 said coldly, "Don't do anything else to me again. But you really do look handsome after washing up. You've put on new clothes, you've drunk milk too, and it tasted good, right? Your skin's even gotten whiter. You've practically become a pretty boy. If you went to school, you'd probably be very popular, definitely campus heartthrob level." As they walked, they noticed many people staring at them. Those looks were greedy. Unless you don't have time to wash your clothes, you'd better not wear this kind of clothing too often. All three of you dressed like this are way too conspicuous. But Kong Dante did not think there was a problem. Right now, nobody dared mess with them anyway. From now on, you'll be called the White-Clad Warrior, nicknamed Tyrant Doctor. And 182 will be called the Savage Hero, nicknamed White-Haired Reaper. I'm your boss. Just then, a crow suddenly landed on his shoulder. Kong Dante did not understand why a crow had landed on him, and he jumped in fright. You two, get this crow off me. Something feels wrong. Just as Kong Dante was trying to shoo the crow away, 182 noticed something strange. He lifted a finger and pointed behind Kong Dante. When Kong Dante turned around, his pupils contracted sharply. Behind him stood a giant monster, baring its teeth in an excited grin.